The city of Jiangqing is introduced. A girl is walking down the street looking at her phone when someone approaches her and taps her on the shoulder. The man who gets the woman's attention claims that she is marked and will face a bloodbath. Confused, she turns around and the man continues, saying she should shed some blood to avoid future disasters. Still not understanding, she questions what he means about bleeding and whether there will be blood. She opens her bag, saying she remembers having her aunt's towel and likely didn't forget it. Irritated by the cryptic message, she states she is not a virgin and has no interest in dating the man. Meanwhile, he thinks to himself that he was being kind, trying to help, but was instead called a pervert and wonders if all the women in Jiangqing have become like that. Still walking, the man reflects that such an attitude is normal. After all, mortals are everywhere, and it's natural for them not to believe. The story shifts to explain the young man's life, revealing he was born into the Yi family. Although he faced bullying from classmates, his family was very happy. However, everything changed 5 years ago. When his father tried to save a girl, he offended a man from the capital. A few days later, during a banquet at the Cloud Lake Villa, everyone in the family was annihilated, leaving him as the sole survivor. Additionally, none of the family's friends, uncles, or close associates did anything about the situation. The boy appears visibly furious and declares that he will kill someone. He is seen running toward another man, making threats to kill him. A sword is thrown at him, but it shatters into pieces. Maliciously, the other person mocks the boy, saying he doesn't even know what the Yi family is and could destroy it with his own hands. Continuing his story, the young man recounts that if it weren't for his mother pushing him into Qian Lake, he wouldn't have survived. However, he was saved by a master and taken to Kulan. Now with a mission assigned by his master, Yi Chen is back in the city. He vows to settle all blood debts. Suddenly, something happens and many people fall to the ground, saying they can't move and feel weak. The boy realizes he accidentally affected innocent people and stops releasing his power. The nearby crowd begins questioning what just happened. They remain confused, asking if they felt some kind of strange aura. Chen thinks it's time to finish the task his master gave him, as he's in no rush for revenge. The Homei Group is introduced, one of the top 500 companies in China and a leading corporation in Jiangqing. Confused, the protagonist wonders if this is really the right place where Xia Ruoxu from the Homei Group is located. The young man explains that 3 days ago, the elder used Tanki and discovered that the girl might die within 100 days, and now it's up to him to prevent this catastrophe. Determined, he tries to enter the building to take a look. 2 security guards stop him from entering. Trying to persuade them, Chen says he needs to meet Xia Ruoxu. The guards contact the young lady and ask if she has an appointment scheduled. Realizing he can't speak to the girl, the young man asks how he could make an appointment, as what he has to say is very important. He suggests waiting for her on the sofa. Even so, the guards refuse and say not just anyone can meet the woman, ordering him to leave. Irritated, Chen questions what the guards mean by their words. Quickly, he unleashes a power that brings the 2 men to their knees. The pair wonder what just happened and say they felt as though they were about to die for a moment. Triumphant, the protagonist warns them to be careful with their words and not act like bastards while others around remain baffled. He sits in a chair, takes off his cap, and asks for the manager to be called. Once again, purple energy begins emanating from the protagonist, leaving people slightly shocked. Everyone wonders what is happening. Armed police approach and call for the boy. The head of the security department steps forward and asks if Chen has considered the consequences of the chaos he caused. Still very annoyed, he explains again that he is simply looking for Miss Xia and asks not to be interfered with. Frightened, the head of security wonders what's wrong with the boy as he feels the young man could easily kill them all. Wanting to resolve the issue, the man says the woman is not on the premises and asks for his contact information to be left behind. Confused, the boy realizes there's nothing he can do since the woman is not present. Even so, he decides to sit and says he will wait for the girl's return. Trying to keep his job, the security guard thinks he cannot let a dangerous person stay there. He orders the police officers to advance. A person appears, shouting and ordering them to wait. With purple hair and an imposing presence, a woman enters the scene. She states that she will handle the situation. The other employees wonder who the woman is, and she is introduced as Sun Yi, the company's director. It is mentioned that the only person who can rival her in appearance is Miss Xia Ruoxu. Trying to warn her, the head of security says it is dangerous, but she asks to be left alone with the protagonist. The woman introduces herself and asks how she can help the young man. Chan is a bit surprised to see the woman and hear her name. Immersed in his thoughts, he explains that over the past 5 years, Sun Yi was one of the people he could never forget. He mentions that they were seatmates during high school and had a great relationship, but they lost contact afterward. Then tragedy struck his family, and the Yes became scorned and despised. All the families announced they no longer had any ties to them, and the Taizing group, founded by his father, was taken over by others and fell under the shadow of the man from the capital. Even so, Sun Yi faced all the rumors and went to the morgue to claim the bodies of the protagonist's parents, later erecting a gravestone for the family. Still shocked by the encounter, Chen says he never expected to meet the young woman in that place. His thoughts are interrupted by the woman, who states that he is getting too close and he apologizes. Again, the girl asks if there is anything she can help him with. Still embarrassed, the young man apologizes and says the girl reminds him a lot of an old friend, which distracts him. Sun says the conversation sounds rather old-fashioned. She leaves the area and tells the protagonist to stay and wait for the person he wishes to meet without causing any commotion. Chen becomes immersed in his thoughts again, analyzing how much his friend has changed over the years. She has gained a lot of presence. He decides to set the matter of Hestia aside. As he leaves the place, someone unlocks a car with a key. It is Sun approaching the vehicle. Ready to leave in the car, the girl notices something strange. She looks in the rearview mirror and sees the boy sitting in the back seat, and she screams. Chen greets her, calling her beautiful. Confused, the woman asks when the protagonist got into the car, and what he wants. The young man asks if she could give him a ride. The woman doesn't understand, as he was supposed to be waiting for someone, but she decides to help him. Curious, she asks the boy's name before letting him into her car. Once again immersed in his thoughts, the boy notes that the girl's yin-tang is darkened, which is a serious sign. He introduces himself as Yi Cheng, but says he can be called by his second name. The girl and the protagonist enter a building. Everyone is left speechless by Sun's stunning beauty as she enters. May wonder why she's walking in with a man, as it is the first time they have seen her with someone at a party. They continue walking to a table, where the girl says they will sit. Chen says he has no objections. Before they sit, someone calls for the company director. Gu Haidong, the founder of the Yushin Group, introduces himself along with other businessmen and says they will sit at the same table as the woman. Sun is surrounded by people. Everyone proposes a toast, making her uncomfortable. Before they hand her a glass, Chen intervenes, grabs the drink, and says he will drink on her behalf. The businessmen become irritated and ask who the young man is and what he is doing there. Chen is about to introduce himself but is interrupted by his friend. She says that's not the proper way to refuse a drink and that she will handle the situation from now on. Sun says she is not very good at drinking and can only manage one glass, asking for their understanding. Smitten and captivated, the three businessmen agree. One of them, annoyed, asks if it isn't an exaggeration to have just one glass. It is Chen Feng who approaches. A murmur spreads and everyone talks about the man, who is the second young master of the Chen family, and that the woman has already had issues with him. Trying to intimidate, the man gets close to the girl and says she left without saying goodbye last time, so this time she will have to drink the whole bottle of wine. Intimidating, the man states that it is not a request, but an order. Trying to get rid of Mr. Chen, she says that drinking too much might cause problems and asks if she could just have one glass. Persistent, the man says he has a presidential suite with plenty of space where she can sleep after getting drunk. Distressed, the girl thinks to herself that she knows everything the man does and that he drugs women without caring about anything. After refusing to drink the wine, the old man snaps, calling the young woman a brat and accusing her of pretending to be a good girl. Crying and scared, Sun reflects that she came from a simple family and took a long time to achieve her position as director, and that compared to the son of the wealthy family, she is nothing. Noticing the situation, Yi Chen intervenes, takes the wine from the businessman's hand, and lifts it. Irritated, the man wonders who the boy is. Without hesitation, the protagonist strikes the old man with the wine bottle. Injured, he falls to the ground, screaming in pain. He asks how the boy dared to hit him, something not even his father has done. Taking control of the situation, he returns the question, asking how the man dared to force the girl to drink. Everyone else is shocked by the scene. They think it's terrible because it involves the young master of a Chen family, and they find it frightening, as it's said that the family has an ancient martial artist on their side. Worried, Sun reflects on how she's dragged the boy into this situation. She apologizes and says she will drink all the wine that night, claiming Yi is her friend and asking them to let him go. Getting up furious, the businessman Chen says the girl has no right to make conditions, that the boy is also in danger, and that he will die. Something happens that causes the old man to widen his eyes and scream about his testicles. He falls to his knees on the ground with his hands between his legs but continues screaming that he wants the boy dead. He approaches, touches the man's forehead, and asks who is supposed to die that day. Mocking, he asks which of the two will die first while pushing the man's head toward the ground. Someone steps in and orders the situation to stop. The gray-haired man says to let the other man go. Accompanied by security guards, the older man remains still observing the scene. He shouts again, ordering them to let the businessman go. Everyone comments that it's the head of the Chen family known as Zhengo. The old man beside him exudes an immense aura, being a legendary and ancient martial artist. Sun becomes even more worried while Feng calls for his father's help. Realizing she's in trouble, the girl wonders how she could save her friend from this situation. He decides to release the man. Quickly, he observes the old man as Feng runs toward his father and their group of friends. He wonders if the bearded and mustached man is what they call an ancient Chinese martial artist. Crying to his father, the man says he was kicked in the testicles and demands revenge. Irritated, the old man orders his son to shut up and move aside. Questioning, he asks who the young man is. Another man interjects, saying the boy is a martial artist, but due to his age, must have only recently entered the realm of mortal warriors. He approaches and asks if there's anything else they want from him and what the others desire. Zhengo says the boy made him lose face, so he wonders what he should do with him. But he adds that he is a kind person, and if the young man begs for mercy, he might leave his body intact. The martial artist steps forward, acknowledging the boy's impressive skills at a young age. Still, Yi says he will handle the situation. He is threatened, told he messed with the wrong people. Unfazed, he stands in front of the Chinese elder, who rushes toward him. Quickly, the man gets close and touches the boy's shoulder. Trying to intimidate, he says that if the boy begs for mercy, he might let him live. Unbothered, Yi says he won't beg for mercy, while Sun reflects on what just happened. The protagonist grabs the elder by the head and asks if he has already chosen a coffin for his funeral arrangements. Irritated by the provocation, the old man orders the boy to go to hell and tries to strike him. But Yi defends himself and lands a punch on the martial artist's mouth. With the force, the man crashes hard to the ground, which cracks immediately, as the boy remarks that the elder is truly evil. Everyone stands wide-eyed and terrified while Yi asks who will be next. Zhengo is shocked to see that old Ming has been defeated by the young man and wonders how it could have happened. Getting up from the ground, the martial artist asks who the protagonist is and makes a comment about his cultivation. Calmly, the boy considers answering who he is, but he returns the question, asking if Ming is worthy of knowing. A loud noise fills the room. People cover their ears and wonder about the source of the scream and what is happening. Approaching the leader of the Chen family, the protagonist asks if he is Zhengo. Trembling with fear, the man cannot form a sentence while being confronted by the boy. Still staring and contemplating his next move, the boy recalls that the Chens also played a part in the tragedy that befell his family. A shot rings out, ordering someone to stop the boy. The guards approach, and the elder says the young man will not want to do this. Quickly, the men in black move to grab the protagonist. The group of men attempts to seize the boy. With a single punch, Yi disperses the group, sending them flying. Confident, he says that ordinary people cannot do anything against him. Realizing the dire situation, Zhengo begs for forgiveness, admitting fault for failing to properly educate his son. Hearing those words, Yi says he is sorry, but it is time to collect the debt. Someone orders him to stop. Another man approaches and again commands both to step back. Analyzing the scene closely, the person notices he is dealing with Zhengo and cannot understand why he is on his knees. Old Chen celebrates, thinking he is saved. Still confident, Yi states that even though he is a martial artist, he is worthless before the authorities. Looking more closely at the situation, the man notices that old Ming is also lying on the ground. He is astonished seeing everything the boy has been capable of doing. Yi approaches Zhengo and grabs him by the hair. Reporting to the police officer, he explains that the man attempted to assault a woman but was fortunately stopped. Even so, the officer orders him to let go, threatening to shoot if he does not comply. It is revealed that the officer is actually a woman, and the protagonist finds it impressive. Once again, he says it is a personal matter and that it would be better if the officer stayed out of it. Still trying to control the situation, the policewoman orders him to raise his hands and says it is the final warning while pointing a gun at him. Frustrated, Yi wonders what the problem is and if they do not have anything better to do. Sun grabs her friend's hands. She apologizes and says he will stop. Approaching her friend, she gives orders for the conflict to end while the boy remains confused about her reasons. Directly, the girl says that if it does not end here, she will stop the young man herself and asks him to listen and do as she says. Trying to defend him, Sun pleads with the police not to shoot, explaining that her friend has already surrendered. When asked if they need to wait for handcuffs, the girl tells her friend not to worry. She says they will go to the station to give their statements and that everything should be fine. The security room is shown. In conversation with the captain, an officer says he has watched the hotel security footage at least 10 times. However, part of the content was deleted, but the remaining footage shows Yi acting in self-defense. The fact that part of the footage is missing catches the woman's attention, and she asks what exactly is no longer there. The file is shown to her, depicting Zhengo with an elder beside him. However, in the next frame, the martial artist is already on the ground, with no information about what happened. The policewoman is puzzled considering they arrived quickly, and no one could have deleted the footage so fast. She believes there is someone very powerful behind the boy. Lacking sufficient evidence, the woman concludes that it was self-defense and orders the boy's release. Celebrating her friend's freedom, Sun says she was right. She remarks that being free is much better, adding that she plans to take a shower when she gets home to wash off the bad luck. Reflecting on what happened, the young man considers that Zhengo and his son are a hidden danger to the girl. He thinks he will need time to settle the score with the two of them. Meanwhile, Sun observes her friend and states that she feels he has a dangerous and indescribable aura. Noticing the girl's gaze, he asks why she is acting that way. Trying to disguise her thoughts, the young woman says she was thinking about taking her friend home and asks where he lives. He explains that he recently arrived in the city and, having not found a place to stay, will have to sleep in the park that night. With sympathy, she suggests that he sleep at her house and says she has an extra room. The boy's thoughts are overwhelmed with possibilities and he hesitates to accept. Impatient, Sun asks again and her friend agrees. Even though she lets the pair leave, the policewoman remains thoughtful about what happened, considering that the Chen family's bodyguards are all Special Forces soldiers. She can't understand how they couldn't defeat the boy. Realizing she can't handle the situation alone, the woman decides to call her older brother for help. She says she will send him a video and needs his help identifying a person. The mountains of Siberia are introduced. The policewoman's brother is working out and thinks that she is always restless about the family business and constantly needs his help to solve problems. but at least he is the captain of the Dragon's Spirit Command unit and not just a simple policeman. He grabs the tablet and decides to take a look at what his sister sent. Watching the security camera footage, he remarks that it's shameful for a group of Special Forces veterans to intimidate a boy. Looking more closely, he wonders if one of those people is an ancient martial artist. Seeing the boy up close, the brother concludes that he's not an ordinary martial artist. He quickly calls his sister and says he wants all the information about the video as soon as possible. An apartment is shown. Sun comes out of the shower, says she's finished, and tells Yi he can go wash up. Assessing the situation, the protagonist thinks that the woman is really very carefree. He goes in to take a shower. While cleaning himself, the young man reflects that he was saved 5 years ago by his master and thought it was a blessing, but it turned out to be the start of a nightmare. On the first day, without explanation, the old man locked him in a cage with a hungry tiger to fight. Surviving, he was promoted. Then the old man taught him to cultivate. After that, he was taken to dangerous places to face deadly challenges. The young man faced death head-on on several occasions. Endless rage and hatred were what kept him alive until now. Finally, he explains that he will find everyone who participated in the meeting at Yunhu Villa back then. In conclusion, he threatens that they will all pay dearly. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Sun reflects that she has no other clothes for the boy to change into. Talking about clothes, she realizes she forgot to hide the underwear she had changed out of. Panicking, she exclaims that her friend must not see them. Quickly, she opens the bathroom door, asks Yi to step out, and says she needs to grab something, but she's interrupted. Without clothes, the young man stands in the bathroom and asks what she needs. Embarrassed, the girl is left speechless, while the protagonist asks if she couldn't wait until he had something on. Blushing with shame, Sun says she's leaving and apologizes, insisting she didn't mean to take advantage of him. She lies on the bed, repeating to herself that she saw nothing. On the other side of the door, he tries to understand what happened and reflects that the girl probably won't leave her room anytime soon. But he has other matters to handle, eliminating evil at its root. The Chen family villa is introduced. Zhengo sits at the table, visibly irritated. His son asks him to stop trembling, saying it's scaring him. Harshly, the man hits his son and says that if it weren't for him, old Ming wouldn't be gravely injured. Trying to defend himself, the boy says they still have his grandfather in the family. Even so, Zhengo says he doesn't feel safe and won't rest until he is eliminated. But the next day, they will go to Mount Wei to ask for the old man's help. Feng celebrates, saying that once the protagonist is defeated, he will steal Sun for himself and torture the girl in front of his opponent. Someone approaches after hearing Sun's name and asks if the young man dares to touch her. Ken Fen becomes startled. It's the protagonist who declares that they need to talk more about what happened, while the man asks if he wants to kill him. Unleashing a power, he asks if they truly believe that, and trembling, the boy says yes. The purple light touches Feng's neck directly. The protagonist asks again if they think he wouldn't dare kill someone. Once more, he asks if the boy still believes that. Zhengo panics at seeing his injured son and says he holds no grudge for what happened. Mocking, Yi remarks that it's funny for the man to claim there's no grudge between them. He decides to ask the Chen family patriarch a question. Going back in time, he asks if the man remembers the banquet in Yunho village 5 years ago and the couple that was killed. Quickly, Zhengo realizes who the boy standing before him is. As he takes a hard blow to the face, the man says it is impossible, as the young man was supposed to be dead. Yi states he will reveal a secret. He is not an ancient martial artist, but cultivator. The protagonist continues, explaining that for practitioners like him, even with a powerful master, an entire clan of martial artists is insignificant. In one swift move, he unleashes a power toward the man, causing him to fall to the ground. The scene shifts back to Mount Wei. A man is levitating over the mountain. It is Chen Yuanu. He receives a large amount of power. Quickly, he realizes that his son and grandson have been killed and questions who dared to destroy the family. Without hesitation, the elder swears to the heavens that he will find the killer, slay them, and cut them to pieces. Far away, he is also floating in the air, surrounded by fire. While cultivating, the boy thinks that China's spiritual energy is very poor and insufficient for his needs. To cultivate, he needs some pills. But before that, he plans to visit his parents' graves on Tiandan Mountain, as their death anniversary is in a week. The boy clutches a stone in his hands, saying it was a gift from his father when he turned 11, but it seems to be an ordinary stone. Looking more closely, he notices words written on the object. Although it is unclear, the boy realizes the stone requires a drop of blood to identify its owner. He places a drop on it, and suddenly, something happens, startling the protagonist. Yi says he is very tired and cannot take it anymore. A mountain with several gravestones is shown, and the young man is lying on the ground. Still on the ground, shirtless and dirty, he complains of a headache. Observing the area, he notices a dark mist. Something catches his attention and scares him. Desperate, the young man wonders what kind of place this is. Looking around, he senses a great energy. A strange being appears and says it does not understand how a mere human, the final stage of Ruji, dared to enter the cemetery of reincarnation. The monster continues, stating that even if the young man wanted to, he would not be capable of awakening even the weakest of the gravestones. Threatening him, the being says that if the boy does not want to die, he must leave immediately. Yu wakes up startled, finding himself in his bed. He gets up, somewhat confused about what just happened. His first thought is about the stone the elder said was an ancient treasure. Thinking deeply, he recalls the being's words, saying that you will only be able to summon the great powers of the gravestones if he reaches a certain power level. There are 100 gravestones in the cemetery of reincarnation, so there must be 100 great powers. Someone knocks on the door asking if Cheng is awake. It is Sun saying that lunch is ready and he should eat before it gets cold. Quickly, the boy says he is coming. The cemetery of reincarnation continues to echo in his mind. Later, he sits at the table to eat. He thanks Sun, saying that she treats him very well. And because of that, he should offer his own body to warm her bed in the winter. Good-humored, the young woman says she does not need it since the house already has underfloor heating. But if he really wants to stay there, it is not impossible. He just needs to pay rent and take care of his own chores. Without money, he says he would not be able to pay rent, and the girl becomes a bit frustrated. The protagonist grabs a piece of paper and starts writing something. He hands it to his friend, who looks confused, not understanding what's happening. He claims it is a recipe for a skincare product and that with it, rent would no longer be an issue. Sun remains puzzled about the meaning of the entire situation. With a plan in mind, he says that the group the girl works for is a cosmetics company, and if she shows them the recipe, it could be worth over 10 million. The phone starts ringing. The girl realizes it is Miss Xia. Upon hearing the name, he becomes thoughtful. Sun is called to a meeting and says she is heading to the location. She bids her friend farewell, saying she's in a hurry, but advises him to look for a job. Chang remarks that he had heard Chinese medicine was disappearing, but did not think it was true. Later, in the city center, someone is selling a marvelous bone rejuvenator, offering a 20% discount to the first buyers of the product. Additionally, the treatment promises to cure all diseases for just 100,000 yuan. It's Yi Cheng who is selling the product using a megaphone. People gather to listen but claim the young man is crazy for selling it at such an absurd price, suggesting they call the police. Realizing the risk, the boy decides it's better to move his business elsewhere and ask people to clear the way. The girl appears and asks him to follow her. A house is introduced. With pink hair, the girl says it's her house, and the boy remarks that it's very large. He assures the girl not to worry and promises to ensure her family is cured. Quickly, the girl clarifies that she didn't bring him to heal anyone. Instead, it was because of his ability to lie and deceive, to which he defends himself, saying he's neither a liar nor a fraud. Moreover, the young man explains that he doesn't have time for games and suggests the girl find someone else. However, she hands him a card with 100,000 yuan. With the money in hand, the boy agrees to do whatever the young lady wants. She explains that her father is very ill. He has only a few days to live, and she fears her mother might do something irrational if the worst happens. The girl asks the boy to take her father to a doctor and pretend they're going to the mountains before he dies, helping her mother cope with the loss. Yi thinks this isn't the proper way to use him, but since he's already there, it's a different matter. The protagonist accepts the mission and promises to complete the task successfully. Laughing, the girl says if he hadn't agreed, she would have called the police. Someone opens the door and asks if the young lady has returned. The person questions whether she brought strangers into the house, but the girl assures them there's nothing to worry about. Both head to the girl's father's room. She introduces herself as Jiojia and says she just got back. Yi Cheng assesses the situation and realizes no medicine could save the old man. The girl cries as Death's energy has completely filled the old man's chest, and once it reaches his head, not even an immortal could save him. Explaining the situation, Jiojia says her father was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer and Dr. Q stated he only had a few days to live. Holding the protagonist's hands, she pleads for help and promises to support him financially. A woman approaches, it's the girl's mother. She asks if it's true that the girl's father doesn't have much time left. Jia is upset, as she had agreed with the doctor not to tell her mother about her father's condition. Shen Menglong appears, saying she shouldn't have lied to their mother. The man claims he has already organized the funeral and promises a proper burial for their father. Jia revolts, saying he had no right to act that way. Coldly, Menglong says he can't stand seeing their father suffer anymore and won't mistreat his sister once he takes on the family responsibilities. Crying heavily, the mother says she can't survive without her husband and will die alongside him. Yi quickly realizes what's happening. When Haiyue dies, the inheritance will be divided and the brother intends to kill his own mother. Furious, the girl asks if her brother wants to kill their mother and accuses him of not caring about their sick father. An argument erupts between the two and the brother threatens to rip his sister's mouth off. To defend the girl, Yi punches Menglong in the mouth. The young man falls to the ground. The mother is shocked by the scene. Intervening, the butler asks who the boy is and if he knows that the man will be the head of the Shen family in a few days. Cheng raises his fingers and says he can save the patient if they pay him 100 million. Everyone is deeply saddened by the patriarch's condition. Desperate, the mother asks if the protagonist is truly the right person to save Haiyue, and Jiojia reassures her, saying she's known the boy for a long time. Angry about the situation, Menglong doesn't believe the story and accuses his sister of hiring a fraud to divide their father's inheritance. He threatens the girl, saying it will be her fault if their father dies and that he will send Cheng to jail. The protagonist observes the old man lying on the bed at death's door. With all this energy, the boy says the old man is lucky to have found him, and that the master taught him a technique that can heal the old man and bring him back from the brink of death. Activating his powers, the boy calls upon the spirits and monsters of heaven and earth, commanding them to begin healing the elder. Sheng continues chanting words while Hague is enveloped by purple energy. Quickly, the old man begins emitting power from his eyes, mouth, and nose, and the protagonist realizes the death energy has been blocked. However, there remains one vein, and if the boy can block it, he might save the elderly man's life. The immense energy continues surrounding the elder as Cheng maintains his affirmations. Suddenly, the death energy completely leaves the man's body, and the protagonist commands it to shatter. With his hands extended, he releases another surge of great power. Floating in the air, the old man expels all the energy from his mouth, nose, and eyes. He collapses back onto the bed. Exhausted, the protagonist reflects that he didn't expect to expend so much energy saving the man and realizes he needs more practice. He leaves the room and informs the family that the elder should wake up soon, shocking everyone as they see he truly saved him. Cheng tells them they can see for themselves what he has done and asks for the payment, which is handed to him via a card by the family matriarch. Disbelieving, Menglong tells his mother it is impossible for the elder to be healed, as he got terminal cancer and it doesn't make sense. The protagonist explains that he has saved the man and that the 10 million is his payment for the service, but the boy insists on seeing the results first. Determined, the protagonist forbids the boy from entering the room and says the elder will awaken, but only in 3 days. Gripping and pinning the boy down, Sheng twists his arm and slams him to the ground. He holds up the card, declares he will take the money, and asks them to call him in 3 days. He mentions he will need to administer medicine to Haihua. Menglong grows furious, claiming that a bastard not only assaulted him but also stole his money and threatens to call the police. Jiujia glances to the side and something catches her attention. Suddenly, the father rises and walks out of the room, leaving everyone in shock. Desperate, the brother cannot comprehend how this is possible. Haihua asks where the doctor who healed him is. He calls for his wife and daughter, thanking them for the miracle and saying he feels much better. The elder remarks that his son has done many good things recently, all for the family's safety, but that he surprises everyone by saying he knows exactly what the boy has done while he was ill and declares he will not give him a single cent, and that if not for the doctor, the son would have let him die. Meanwhile, at the Home Group building, a meeting is underway and everyone is concerned as the company's shares are plummeting, which poses a major problem. They worry about the future of the company, knowing it will go bankrupt unless they launch something innovative. Sun approaches the meeting room and overhears the discussion. While everyone debates what to do, the girl remains deep in thought. Pensive, he continues searching for a solution for the company. Suddenly, she feels something in her bra and remembers the note left by Yi Cheng earlier. She cannot understand how the note ended up there, but it mentions something about a beauty pill. Reading it, the young woman decides to dismiss it, thinking the product formula might be worth around 10 million. Someone sneaks up behind her and grabs the note from her hand. A woman in a red dress seizes the note and asks what the girl was hiding in her bra. She reads the note and questions what this beauty pill is supposed to be. Annoyed, Sun demands that Suna return the paper, but the woman mocks her, saying the note was given by a fraudster yet is being treated as a treasure. Mocking further, she asks if the girl slept with someone to get it. Sun decides to confront her, accusing Suna of being the one who sells her body and orders her again to return the paper. But Suna refuses, saying she will throw the note away and begins tearing it up. Sun is left speechless and unable to respond. After a moment of silence, she decides to yell, declaring that the woman cannot intimidate people like that. And even if it is just a piece of paper, it still belongs to her, and she slaps her opponent. The argument between the two escalates as the other executives watch, growing concerned about what is happening. Both Sun and Suna begin pulling each other's hair and shouting insults while fiercely arguing. One threatens the other with death while the remaining associates try to break up the fight. Suddenly, the door opens and someone walks in. The blonde young woman observes the scene and calls out to the two girls who were fighting. It's Shiruakshu, the company's president, who is furious about the argument. But when she arrives, the two young women stop and appear surprised. With the atmosphere calmer, the meeting begins and the president starts discussing the reason for the gathering. She explains that other companies are creating excellent products while homies have remained stagnant for a long time. The associates attempt to explain the reasons but are left speechless. She points out that for 3 whole years, the products have seen no progress, which is the core problem. Trying to defend themselves, the employees explain that they have worked tirelessly in recent years, but that the industry is highly competitive. They claim to have traveled the world in search of new formulas, but found few options. The president acknowledges that formulas are indeed extremely rare. She shares that she spent 5 years building the group she now owns to support her parents and insists that now is not the time to give up. Looking to undermine her opponent, Suna says that Sun might have the solution in her hands since she possesses a piece of paper referencing the beauty pill. One of the associates is shocked, noting that the formula was believed to be something lost to ancient times. They celebrate, saying that if a young woman truly has the formula, the company will be saved. Kia asks if the story is true and if she really has the means to create the pill. Embarrassed, the young woman says no and that it's just something someone wrote down. Even so, the president asks to see the paper. She hands it over, torn into pieces, and apologizes, saying it was just a joke from a friend. Confused, the associates question how such a valuable formula could have been written on a mere piece of paper. Suna celebrates having made the other young woman look foolish. Suddenly, one of the associates interrupts and asks everyone to wait a minute while grabbing a piece of the paper. He examines the scrap and says it's something real. The meeting continues. Completely furious, the man claims he saw Suna tear the paper and accuses her of being responsible for jeopardizing the company, as the formula was urgently needed. Beside himself, the director yells that the woman should no longer remain in the meeting room, and that, if they can't recover the formula, she will face legal consequences. Trying to defend herself, she says she didn't know it was real and didn't mean to do it. Everyone becomes desperate upon realizing that the formula was indeed genuine and that recovering it could lead to many new products. Without wasting time, Sia orders everyone to help director Sun collect the pieces of paper to recover the recipe. Someone calls out for Suna. It's director Sia, who is furious and demands to know why the young woman tore the paper out of Sun's hands. Making a decision, she fires the director and states that she will demote her to working as a clerk at the company's newest store. Later, night falls. Sun returns home and calls out to Yi Cheng, announcing her return, but notices the boy isn't there. Reflective, she admits she hadn't thought the formula was real. She then wonders whether her friend hasn't returned or if he won't come back at all. She keeps thinking about him, that he's incredibly strong and writes secret recipes. But she quickly realizes he is a stranger and wonders how she allowed him into her home. The young woman continues reflecting on the boy, wondering if, once she discovers his true identity, he will disappear. A hand reaches out. It touches the girl's head, and it's Yi Cheng, who says he heard her calling him. Startled, Sun asks when her friend returned, and he replies that he came back recently and heard her say his name. He sits next to the girl, who seems nervous and stammers. Cheng asks why she's acting that way. Awkwardly, she apologizes for tearing up the recipe he had given her. Calmly, the protagonist says that recipe was something for beginners and asks if she'd like something more potent, leaving her shocked by his words. Tired, Yi announces he's going to bed early, but Sun interrupts, saying she has something to ask. He decides to listen but repeats that he's very tired. Quickly, she says she remembered meeting him when he wanted to see Mr. Xia, and that, coincidentally, the woman stated after the meeting that she also wanted to see him. Disgusted, the boy says he's unavailable. Sun doesn't understand and points out that he even offended the entire security department just to see the woman. He doesn't understand and comments that he was ignored the day before, but now the woman wants to help him. The girl tries to explain, but Cheng agrees to meet Xia. However, he says he will decide at the moment whether or not to meet the company's president. Tired, he shuts the bedroom door, says he's going to sleep, and that they'll talk the next day. Elsewhere, the phone rings, and it's Sun Yi on the line. Mr. Xia answers and asks what Yi said about the matter. She is informed that she should personally go and meet the boy. She says it's not a problem and that she'll think about it. But in the meantime, she asks her friend to keep an eye on the boy. Thoughtfully, she finds it interesting that the protagonist caused a scene at the office and is now behaving this way. The next day, at dawn, a meeting hall is introduced and Yi stands before it. Observing the place, he notes that the largest pharmacy is inside. He enters and notices the long queue, deciding to take a stroll first and analyze the surroundings. Something catches the protagonist's attention. It is a piece of art that leaves him momentarily paralyzed. The boy examines the artwork and comments that for a replica, it's not bad. A woman approaches and asks where he came from. Zurend and Zhu Zixuan are introduced, and the young lady asks how the boy dared to say that this treasure is a replica. Ren asks his granddaughter not to be rude, but she defends herself, claiming the boy said the paintings were fake. The elder then asks the young man how he could say such a thing, as the paintings were evaluated by many collectors. Unfazed, the boy responds that this only proves all the collectors don't know what they're talking about. He maintains his opinion that the painting is an excellent imitation. He thinks he might have found something valuable in the shop, but concludes that it's not true. Irritated by his words, Zixuan calls out to the boy. Her grandfather tries to stop her, but she says she'll teach the protagonist a lesson. Shang observes the girl. She runs toward him and attempts to kick him. Ren panics because he knows his granddaughter practices martial arts and could kill the boy. As she attempts the kick, Cheng catches her foot in midair. He mocks her, asking if that's all she can do, while Zixuan believes it's impossible that she was stopped. He continues holding the girl's foot, and she calls him a pervert for holding onto her for so long. Without hesitation, the boy throws the girl to the ground. The protagonist comments that he never expected to encounter a martial artist there and remarks that her art is more suited for men than women. Zixuan becomes even angrier and vows not to let him leave the place. Her grandfather asks her to stop. She tries to argue, but Ren interrupts, saying the boy just blocked her kick, which is astonishing. Undeterred, she tries to justify herself, claiming she was caught off guard. He decides to ask the young lady a question. He inquires if she uses true Chi in such a way as a great energy emanates from his back. With the force, the girl falls to the ground, finding it impossible to believe what she's witnessing. Quickly, she tells her grandfather to run, realizing the boy is very dangerous. But Rend apologizes and explains that his granddaughter doesn't recognize danger, adding that she's still just a child. The elder asks Zixuan to quickly apologize to the boy. He then requests that the young man explain why the painting is fake, as he sees no clues. Yi releases a surge of power toward the painting, stating that now everyone will see. Some signatures appear on the artwork, and the boy explains that it's difficult to distinguish from a genuine canvas, and that's why imitators avoid using just those signatures. Someone interrupts the explanation, announcing that Mr. Yi's requested herbs have arrived. The boy thanks Miss Zhu for delivering the order personally. She says it's an honor to serve him and asks if he has enough money to pay. Cheng remarks that she's flexible but admits he still likes her unruly demeanor from earlier. Irritated, she retorts that the boy is insufferable, and that if her master were present, he'd be in trouble. But Ren reprimands his granddaughter, saying the boy's strength is not below that of her master. The young woman is startled and hides behind her grandfather, who comments that she has been spoiled. Concluding the conversation, the elder mentions that the boy's order is far greater than the quantity of herbs in the shop and that he will need to wait a few days. The boy says it's not a problem and that he will pay with the fortune he received. He adds that he will return in a few days to collect what is missing. After the boy leaves, Ren tells his granddaughter that the boy is a member of the Yi family, and she wonders how her grandfather knows his name. But the old man thinks that if he really is who he claims to be, the city will no longer know peace. Cheng walks through the city thinking that the anniversary of his parents' death is approaching. He decides to make some preparations. However, he believes there is a mole that needs to be dealt with first. At the pharmacy, Zixu is incredulous that the boy is stronger than her master. But her grandfather corrects her, saying that he's far stronger than the master. The young woman is even more shocked. Ren begins to explain what the boy represents and that for people like him, ordinary humans are nothing more than ants. Even so, the girl doesn't believe it and asks how someone as young as her could be a great master. Once again, her grandfather corrects her, saying that he is not a great master but something far more terrifying and that the Zhu family cannot afford to be his enemy. In the street, a man follows Yi and assumes he's the doctor Mr. Shen is looking for. He thinks that if he follows him properly, he might earn the reward. Cheng enters an alley, and the pursuer wonders if he's been discovered. Looking around, the man is confused as Yi has disappeared. As he questions where the boy went, he doesn't notice he's suddenly descending from above. The protagonist touches the pursuer's head and asks if he was looking for him. Irritated, Cheng demands a reason not to kill him, and the man promises to explain everything. He introduces himself as Fan Tong, a private detective, and starts sharing details about his life. But Yi becomes even more irritated, saying he doesn't care about that and wants to know who sent him. The detective explains that Shen Haihua placed a 1,000,000 yuan bounty on finding the boy. Pensive, the protagonist realizes that if there's no treatment within 3 days, the old man will die. Trying to make a deal, the detective suggests the boy present himself to Haihua and split the reward. Unmoved, the boy says that if the old man wants to survive, he shouldn't use tricks, but Fan Tong tries to interrupt. Impatient, Cheng asks if there's anything else to add. On his knees, the pursuer confesses that Shen hired him because he didn't know where to find the boy. A building is introduced. Sun appears, and the boy starts wondering why the girl suddenly began dressing so well. She explains that she's taking him shopping for new clothes and a phone so they can stay in contact. He finds all of this troublesome. Trying to reassure him, the girl says not to worry about money and that she'll buy the clothes for him. The two were at the mall, and the protagonist tries on some outfits. Happy, Sun says the boy looks much more handsome when well dressed. She adds that he might get attention from girls if he walks like that on campus, which irritates him. Still trying to learn more about him, Sun asks if he wants a girlfriend and offers to introduce him to someone. Realizing the situation, she asks if he's never dated and if he's an innocent virgin. Meanwhile, he reflects that in recent years he has done nothing but cultivate, but before his family's downfall, he had liked a girl. At that time, he sent her a love letter and received a response. The girl said she would go out with him if he declared his love publicly, and so he did. But the girl rejected him in front of everyone, and since then, he became self-destructive and seen as a failure by others. He remains immersed in his thoughts and memories. Unintentionally, he starts to cultivate, and Sun notices her words have hurt his self-esteem. Trying to fix the situation, the girl says she's also never dated, but is still alive and doing fine. Tired of the conversation, the boy tells her to stop the nonsense and focus on buying clothes. The two continue through the mall until someone recognizes Sun Yai. A red-haired woman greets the girl, saying she hasn't seen her in years and asking if she has a boyfriend. Quickly, Cheng recognizes the pair. Mockingly, the woman remarks that Sun's taste hasn't changed as she used to hang out with Yi Chen in school, and now her boyfriend is still poor and unsuccessful. Looking closely at the boy, the woman says he seems familiar and resembles the loser from the Yi family. The man accompanying her says he doesn't know the story and asks them to tell it to him. The girl explains, concluding that the boy never returned to school and later his family was exterminated. Those words stir Cheng's thoughts, and he begins cultivating again. Irritated, he says he'll make the woman remain silent forever. Noticing this, Sun grabs her friend by the arm. She asks him to let it go and suggests they continue shopping for clothes, but the woman doesn't give up and keeps provoking, calling the pair poppers. She then tells her companion that she also wants to buy clothes. As they leave, Yi remarks that he could have dealt with the two, but Sun reminds him of the police station incident a few days ago. The two come across a suit that seems to fit the boy perfectly. A saleswoman interrupts them, saying it's the best jacket in the store, priced at 360,000 yuan. Thoughtfully, the girl reflects that she only has 300,000 on her card, so she tells her friend the outfit doesn't suit him that well. Overhearing their conversation, he soon appears laughing, saying the young woman doesn't have the money and doesn't need to make excuses. Sun tries to defend herself, saying that if she's going to pay, it should be for something that matches. Hin continues mocking the situation and mentions the illness of the girl's brother, prompting her to step forward angrily. The woman says her best friend is Chu Shuran and that if she's attacked, her aggressor won't be able to stay in Jiangsheng. She keeps provoking, daring Sun to hit her. Before Sun could do anything, Yi intervenes and slaps the woman, causing her to fall. The boy resumes cultivating and says the woman was right in wanting to stay silent forever. Everyone is shocked by what just happened. Getting up from the ground, the woman asks how the boy dared to hit her and if he knows who her best friend and boyfriend are. Sheng says he doesn't care to know. Filming the incident, the boyfriend intervenes, claiming to be the CFO of the Baiman Group, earning 5 million a year. The protagonist simply thinks that it's extreme arrogance. At that moment, Shen Haihua enters the shopping mall, talking with his son. Noticing the situation, he intervenes, asking who is using the name of the Baiman Group to pressure Dr. Yi. Shocked, the man doesn't know what to say to the company president. Sun doesn't understand why someone so important would be there and fears that if they support Hin, the consequences could be unimaginable. The woman and her boyfriend start flattering Shen, saying they admire him. Shen ignores them and walks toward Yi. He takes the boy's hands and says he's been searching for him for a long time, and that if he hadn't found him, his heart would have been broken. Hin doesn't understand why Hahua is trying to please the boy. Sun also doesn't understand how her friend knows someone so powerful in the city. During their conversation, the boy says he wasn't valued by the man's family, and Shen replies that he's already taught them a lesson. He orders his son to come forward, kneel, and apologize. Following his father's orders, the boy complies and sincerely apologizes for what happened that day. Confused, the man remarks that he's never seen Minglong kneeling and apologizing to anyone. Everyone wonders about Yi's past. Breaking away from the situation, the boy calls for Sun Yi and says he's going to buy some clothes for her, but Haihua doesn't want to let him leave. No one understands how he dares to ignore Shen. They're even more puzzled by what just happened. The elder, on the other hand, scolds his son, saying that if he doesn't earn the man's forgiveness, he'll have to kneel for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, the company director approaches and claims it was all a misunderstanding. Angry, Shen questions how the man dared to offend Mr. Yi using the company's name, declaring that as of today, he's fired. Haihua thinks his life is in the boy's hands and fears death. Hikin realizes she has offended a great man and tries to make amends. Elsewhere, Sun celebrates the clothes the boy bought for her, wondering how he managed since he had little money. Even so, she thanks him for the gesture. He thinks the girl only chose discounted items, believing he had no money, and he concludes that she's a good woman. At the mall exit, Shen reappears and asks the pair to wait for him. Carrying many gift boxes, the elder asks if they had fun shopping. The boy asks what the man wants from him, and the elder says he's there for Sun. He says he's sorry for the insults the young woman endured and asks her to accept the gifts as an apology, leaving her embarrassed. Upon inspecting the gifts more closely, she realizes they are the clothes she liked but didn't buy because of their price. Chang notices that the old man is trying to win over the girl to get closer to him, and he finds this interesting. Quickly, the boy calls out to Haihua. He states that he will give the man one last chance and that at exactly 9 a.m. he will be at the Shen family's house, where he can either save or end the man's life. Grateful, the old man says it will be an honor to assist the young man. A mansion is introduced. Speaking with Shuran, her kitten says it's true. This boy is indeed Yi Chen. She notes that his personality has changed significantly, but his appearance is identical, and the name is the same. Hearing the story, her friend asks if it's true that the boy has returned. The woman says she has dealt with Shen Haihua before, describing him as a very sophisticated and respectful man. She adds that she doesn't understand how he could bow before a young man, concluding that the boy must be very powerful or hold a high position. Thoughtful, Shuran remarks that even if he had survived, he was a fool and the old man would never bow before him. Hurt, the woman tries to convince her friend that this is indeed the same Yi Cheng. Unmoved, the girl says that 5 years ago, his family groveled before hers. Metropolitan apartments are introduced. There are many gift boxes on the floor. Sun asked her friend when he met Mr. Shen, remarking on how incredible the situation is. Noticing his friend's joy, the boy smiles. The young woman asks again if Cheng is sure he doesn't want to meet Shir Roxu. To convince him, she says the woman is very beautiful and that she doesn't understand how he can resist, but he gets irritated and says he's going to watch TV. The news reports that 2 male bodies have been found in a mansion. The victims have been identified as Chen Zhengo and his son, Chen Feng, and the crime is considered premeditated murder. Hearing this, Sun is surprised by the story, but Yi interrupts, saying that death is normal. The boy continues, stating that he's a great killer. Sun asks him not to say such nonsense. Turning away, the girl says she's going to try on some clothes and leaves. He becomes reflective, remarking that nowadays no one believes the truth anymore. He goes out at night, stating that he needs to get some supplies from a Chinese pharmacy to practice during the night. Something catches his attention. A woman approaches and greets him. It's the policewoman, and she celebrates having found the boy again. Chang believes she's trouble and that he should avoid getting involved. Looking to escape the situation, the boy says he's very busy and can't talk. But with a trick up her sleeve, the woman asks what happened to the Chen family and whether he was responsible. She then mentions the Yi family, causing the boy to stop immediately. Slyly, the policewoman says she never imagined that someone as strong as him could be just trash from the Yi family. The boy gets irritated and asks what she means while grabbing her by the neck. She says there are some things she can't say at the moment, but asks to have a meal with him. Losing patience, Cheng releases the woman and says the meal isn't necessary. As he walks away, the policewoman thinks that the boy is too young to practice ancient martial arts and that he couldn't possibly be this strong. Back home, the protagonist is in the kitchen. He separates herbs and stones into bowls. The young man decides to use the microwave to make some pills, but the plan proves more difficult than anticipated. Upon opening the microwave door, the boy celebrates that he managed to make at least 5 pills. He notes that this is more than enough to treat Shen Haihua. In the apartment, Sun wakes up in the morning. As she opens her eyes, she notices something. He is leaving the house and she asks where he's going. Quickly, the boy replies that he's going to save lives and tells her to call him if anything happens. As soon as he leaves, the girl says her friend talks a lot of nonsense, insisting he's far from being a doctor, though she admits he might actually be good at it. She reflects and recalls that the anniversary of the Yi family's death is approaching and she'll spend it alone again. Sad, the young woman begins to wonder why the family was destroyed. Uncle Yi was fair and Yi Chen was also kind. Far away, Jiojia approaches a location. 2 men exit the building, commenting on the girl and wondering if she's waiting for a man or a woman. One of them concludes that a woman like her would never lower herself to waiting for a man. He appears and tells them they're wrong, and that the girl would never be there waiting for them. Trying to defend themselves, the duo claims one is called the Little Prince, while the other boasts about having won over many girls in games. Angry, they ask who the boy is and what he's thinking. Mocking, the boy says Jujia is waiting for him. But the 2 men doubt it, believing a girl that beautiful wouldn't pay attention to a loser. Noticing a man's presence, the girl calls out to Mr. Yi. She approaches and says she's been waiting for him for a long time. The protagonist apologizes for being late, while the girl repeats that she's been waiting for him. She asks if the young men are Yi's friends. He denies it, and she warns about the danger of strangers in the area. The 2 young men feel embarrassed, realizing they've been fools. Quickly, they arrive at the Shen family home. In the living room, the boy presents pills to the family patriarch. He asks if simply taking the medicine will make him well without acupuncture or decoctions. The mother interjects, suggesting surgery, saying the man can handle it. But Yi orders the old man to swallow all 5 pills at once. After taking them, something happens. The old man begins emitting a lot of yellow energy, surprising everyone. He feels as if his entire body is enveloped in a warm current, experiencing an unparalleled relaxation. Feeling unique, the man states he's even stronger than he was in his youth. Once again, he thanks the boy and says he'll never forget his help. For payment, this time 100 million yuan is offered. Yi says there's no need for thanks. Offering even more, Haihua gives him the key to an unused apartment and offers a meal at the family home. The protagonist thinks having a home would be convenient. Reflecting further, he considers that the old man is part of the business circle and must know about business intelligence like the Tianjin Group. He explains that the group was founded by his father but was overtaken after the accident, and he hasn't had any information since. He accepts the house but says the dinner will be on him and he will decide the time and place. Quickly, he takes his leave. The warehouse at the rendezvous hall is shown. There are various sacks filled with herbs inside. Someone celebrates that Mr. Yi has finally arrived. It's Rend, who says that herbs are fresh, having just arrived. Evaluating the product, Shang says they're better than he expected and that he'll buy them all. Noticing the boy's interest, the old man says he'll charge 5 million for the product. But according to the boy's research, the ideal price would be at least tens of millions. The boy agrees to pay and asks about the old man's granddaughter. He explains that Zixuan went for a walk with the master and will return later, while the protagonist writes something. Quickly, he tears the page out and hands it to the old man, asking him to deliver it to his granddaughter, saying she'll understand when she sees it. Rend agrees. Before leaving, he asks if Zhu knows where he can buy an alchemy furnace in the city. He says it's very difficult to make pills on a regular stove. The information surprises Ren, who never imagined the boy knew how to make pills. He becomes thoughtful, recalling rumors that Chinese alchemists disappeared thousands of years ago. And that's why pills are extremely valuable. Ren continues explaining what it all means. Quickly, it dawns on him that the herbs purchased are for alchemy, making them worth more than he could have imagined. But brushing off the questions, Cheng claims he doesn't know how to refine pills and just likes collecting furnaces. The old man mentions an auction and the boy agrees, saying he'll go when the time comes. Hours later, Zixuan returns. Ren asks if his granddaughter caused trouble for the master. Irritated, the girl says she's not that type of person. The elder mentions he asked her to apologize to Yi Chen, but she ran away, which makes her even angrier. The master, upon hearing about greater power, corrects the girl, saying there are powerful people elsewhere in the world. Tired of the conversation, Ren says he won't argue with his granddaughter and hands her the note Yi gave him. Confused, the girl says she can't read it. She throws the paper, saying the handwriting is ugly and that she won't read it. As the paper flies, the master grabs it and wonders if it could be beneficial for Zixuan. Glancing at the sheet, he is certain the handwriting belongs to a master. Desperate, he calls for old Zhu. He asks to be introduced to Yi, whom he recognizes as a specialist. Ren grows concerned and asks what's wrong with the handwriting. Qin explains that the girl's technique is the Kaiyang heart method, which he developed in his youth, but it's incomplete. He continued practicing and improved the skill significantly. However, it affects his internal organs. Zixuan understands why she feels discomfort when she practices for too long. The master reassures the girl, telling her not to be afraid and that he only wants her to develop her skill. But he warns that she cannot continue practicing, otherwise she may die. Worried, the grandfather asks what they can do, knowing that if something happens to Lao Qin, the Zhu family will suffer. Laughing, the master says the paper is filled with incredible techniques, and it's a stroke of luck that Yi is a noble person. Hearing this, Zixuan wonders who the boy could be for even her master to call him noble. The Daju apartment surroundings are shown, and Yi evaluates the house he received from Haihua. The boy is surprised to discover he has received an entire villa. He enters the residence and is amazed by the decor. Beautiful inside, the boy finds it impressive. Fully furnished, he realizes he won't need to worry about decorating. However, he feels lonely living alone in such a large place. Thoughtfully, he imagines how nice it would be if Sun Yi were there with him. The girl had mentioned she needed to handle something in her hometown and wouldn't return that night. Cheng admits he's worried about her. He recalls his family and how happy and harmonious they were even while living in a small house. But now, he's the only one left. The next day marks the anniversary of his parents' death. Once again, he vows revenge for their deaths. He declares that he crawled out of darkness, reborn from suffering, and blossomed that night, all for the sole purpose of dragging their killers to the grave. The doorbell rings and he realizes the medicinal herbs have arrived. Stepping outside, he sees a large truck unloading the delivery. He celebrates being in the villa, as it provides ample space to store the herbs. Lo Zhu calls out to him, affirming that the herbs have been delivered and that the boy can contact him if he needs anything else. The master appears, and Chen quickly notices that he is an ancient martial warrior. Politely, Yi invites them all inside. But first, he asks who the master is. Without hesitation, the man drops to his knees. He thanks the master for saving his life. Zixuan is surprised by the scene and doesn't quite understand what just happened. Still kneeling, the man introduces himself as the girl's master and explains about the Kaiyang mind method. Yi grows curious about what he hears. He asks why the man addressed him as Grandmaster. Confused, Lao Qin doesn't understand how such a formidable martial artist could not know what that title means. Cheng explains that he recently descended from the mountain, so he knows little about Chinese martial arts. Understanding the situation, the man begins to elaborate on martial arts. He provides details about how they work, the levels, stages, and examples. He listens attentively and realizes it's slightly different from what his master taught him, but he understands. The explanation continues, making the protagonist realize the power is far greater than he imagined, prompting him to ask if there are many masters in China. Lao Qin says he's unsure but explains that most masters are connected to China's great families. He mentions that the four great families of Jiangsheng are Chu, Zhao, Lu, and Chen. The protagonist recalls being threatened by Zhengmo before his death and wonders when the master will come seeking vengeance. Chu Shuren's name resurfaces in his memories upon hearing about her family. Once more, he vows revenge, declaring that the girl will understand who is truly untouchable. Analyzing his aura, Qin notices the boy is incredibly oppressive. Terrified, the man asks how many lives the boy must have taken to achieve such a level of skill at such a young age. Later, worried about Sun, he wonders why she hasn't answered her phone. He questions if something has happened to her family and decides that if he doesn't hear from her, he'll go to her the next day. Feeling hungry, the boy decides to go out to eat. Looking around, he spots a restaurant owned by Wang Yuang's family, an old friend from school. With a good memory, the boy recalls that the food was incredible and that he always ate there on his way to school. He enters and notices the place is empty, though it used to be bustling with customers. Even so, the boy sits down and orders some skewers and drinks. The waitress tells him she's sorry, but they are closing and won't be able to serve him. She mentions they are moving and invites him to visit the new location. He notices the woman has a bruise on her face. A man appears, asking her not to turn away customers. He hands a plate to the boy and says he can stay. It's Uncle Wang who tells Cheng that he's their last customer, so he can eat whatever he wants. He too has visible injuries. Encouraged to eat, the boy decides to try the food. The aroma takes him back to his childhood. Suddenly, a chair is thrown in his direction, but he manages to shatter it with just his energy. He stands up and freezes in front of the broken object. Some men are standing at the door, mocking the boy. However, they clarify that they are not looking for him and order him to leave. Wang realizes it's Mr. Hu. Angry, the man asks how Wang dares to serve food to customers before paying the protection fee. Afraid, Wang explains that they are closing the restaurant. He pleads for more time to pay off his debts. Without mercy, the collector accuses Wang of trying to run away, stating that he already knows the address of the new location. He threatens to destroy the restaurant if they don't pay 50,000 yuan, even warns that Wang will be killed. The collector orders Yi to leave again. Irritated, the protagonist asks if they are ordering him to leave. Noticing him, Hu asks if he's talking to him, and the young man mocks him. Confronting Yi, Hu moves toward him, but the boy slaps him across the face. The force of the blow sends him to the ground. Calmly, the boy asks if the man fell from just one slap. Enraged, Hu tells Yi to go to hell and tries to attack him. But another strike lands, sending the collector flying and leaving him stuck in the ceiling. The henchmen panic. Cheng isn't finished and calls out the other two men. He orders them to leave immediately. Otherwise, he warns he won't be so generous. Quickly, the men drop to their knees and beg for forgiveness, promising not to repeat their actions. Badly injured, Hu apologizes for the trouble and promises not to bother Uncle Wang again. Even so, he continues threatening them, saying he doesn't want to see their group on that street anymore. The group thanks him for sparing their lives. After the incident, the boy realizes he caused a mess in the restaurant. He regrets not making the men clean up before leaving. Mr. and Mrs. Wang recognize the boy, celebrating that he's truly alive. He is surprised that they remember him. Emotional, the couple says it's wonderful to see him again. The protagonist agrees, saying he has returned. Later, Cheng decides to go to the apartment to check if Sun is home. When he enters, he notices a young woman standing there and explains that he came because she wasn't answering his calls. Before anything else, the woman turns and he realizes it's not Sun. It's Hisia standing right in front of him, confronting him. Even so, he asks who she is. She responds that he should recognize her, as he caused quite a scene in the company's lobby. He realizes she is Miss Ruoxue and asks what she's doing there. The young woman explains that she has the key to her best friend's house, but wants to know why he's living there. The protagonist explains his situation while the girl watches him intently. Annoyed, Yi tells her to leave and discuss it with her friend at the company. But Xaxia says she hasn't been able to contact her friend and mentions that Sun missed an important meeting. Cheng realizes something is wrong. Determined, he says he will go find his friend, believing she's in trouble. Ruoxu calls out to the boy, asking why he's looking for her. But he's irritated and orders her not to follow him. Outraged, the blonde says he's the first person to speak to her like that. Quickly regaining her composure, she realizes she needs to stay calm, considering the boy is strange and holds the formula. Moreover, she concludes that he could be of great help to the group. Later, he had already wandered through many streets of Jiangcheng and still couldn't find Sun on his own. He claims he doesn't want to get involved with his enemy, but will have no other choice. The Qianlong building is introduced. An unknown number calls his phone, and the man present at the location answers, asking who it is. A mysterious voice responds on the other end and asks not to be tracked. He is the one speaking and says he will destroy the man if he finds out he's being followed, and demands that Sun Yi be found. The boy gives orders for the information to be delivered within 5 minutes. On the other end, the man reflects that he has kept the phone for 3 years, waiting for this call from the boy. He is referred to as the Temple Master. A few minutes later, he responds to the young man with information about Sun, stating that she was at the hospital with her brother and had to sell her car to pay the bills. Cheng feels relieved to know where she is, but understands the situation is delicate. At the city's public hospital, Sun is distressed, pacing back and forth. She claims to have withdrawn all her savings and sold her car, but still needs 300,000 for her brother's operation. Crying, her parents say they can't afford it and suggest borrowing from her uncle. The young woman says she doesn't want to beg her uncles, but they are the wealthiest in the family. Someone appears shouting at the hospital. It's her uncles, and the girl thanks them for coming. They are shocked to see their niece again and comment on how beautiful she looks. Sun's father explains the situation and pleads with them to save his son, promising to repay the money. But Yangfu quickly says he has no money, claiming his business didn't prosper. This is a lie, as the man thinks it would be a waste to lend the family money. Sun tries to persuade her uncle, saying her brother will die. His wife has a plan, reminds him that he promised something to Mr. Lai. That favor would be introducing someone to the magnate. She suggests offering their niece to marry the man so she can have all the money she needs. Yangfu says he hadn't thought of that, but it's a good idea. Yan asks if Sun has a boyfriend. The girl quickly says no. Dong Kai explains there's a way to get the money and outlines the plan to introduce her to Mr. Lai. Attentively, the girl listens to everything her aunt says, but she seems completely against it. Upon hearing the word marriage, the young woman becomes nervous. The woman tries to convince her, speaking of the bright future she would have. Sun's father intervenes, saying they are suggesting he sell his daughter. Even so, Dawn doesn't give up and continues listing the pros of arranging the girl's marriage. She even uses the boy's health and the fact that he's only 14 years old to try to convince them. Saddened by the situation, the father blames himself for not having taken better care of the family and becoming wealthy earlier. Unmoved, Dong and Yangfu dismiss his concerns, saying it's just drama and it would be good to marry someone in the family to a rich man. Suddenly, someone appears, asking who wants his girlfriend to marry someone else. Sun is surprised to see Yi Cheng. He enters the scene, calling her silly and saying she hid her brother's illness from him. Once again, he claims to be her boyfriend. The girl's parents are confused as they've never heard about this young man before. Cheng says the girl is shy and hugs her. Dong claims it's nonsense since the girl said she didn't have a boyfriend. He asks the girl to prove what he's saying. With no other option, Sun decides to go along with the story. She approaches and kisses the young man. The uncle realizes the boy is indeed her boyfriend. Intimidatingly, the man states that the procedure is very expensive and not everyone can afford it. But Yi doesn't care, claiming it's only 400,000 yuan and that he's already paid the hospital bill, though they doubt him. Worried, Cheng thinks that he actually hasn't paid the bill yet. To get out of it, he says the amount was paid to Dr. Yi, the best doctor in the city. Suspicious, the aunt says she's never heard of the doctor and accuses the boy of talking about himself. Yi agrees, saying he is the one being referred to. The uncles laugh, thinking it's a joke. Suddenly, someone calls for Haoji's relatives. It's the doctors, asking them to keep quiet in the hospital. Dr. Chu approaches and Yongfu greets him, but the doctor brushes him aside and heads straight to Yi. The two shake hands. The doctor says he never imagined seeing the boy there after their meeting at the Shen family's house. Everyone is surprised that Yi is actually a doctor, even Sun, who had no idea. Chang breaks into a cold sweat. He shakes the doctor's hand and asks where he knows him from. Trying to explain, Q says he is from the Shen family household. The girl's parents wonder why their daughter didn't tell them before. He lets go of the doctor's hand and says he is not a fraud as he initially thought he was just a charlatan. Yanfu interrupts and asks how the doctor could call a poor boy a physician. Confused, the doctor asks who that man is. He decides to call security, asking them to take the girl's uncles away, accusing them of causing a disturbance, and stating he suspects they might have rabies. With good humor, he praises the doctor's decision. Seeing they wouldn't back down, he punches the man again and calls him an idiot. Sun, desperate about her brother, begs the boy to help him and promises they will pay him for the surgery later. Ku realizes the patient's sister is Cheng's girlfriend. He decides to help and asks them to prepare everything for the boy's surgery, saying he will perform the procedure himself. The protagonist feels proud of what he heard. To be sure, he asks if the doctor will really perform the surgery, and he confirms he will. Then he writes down a set of acupuncture techniques on a piece of paper that should be used to enhance medical skills. Attentively, the doctor reads what was written. Before he forgets, the boy says he will also pay for the surgery, much to Q's dismay, who insists isn't necessary. Sun and her parents are happy everything was resolved quickly, but they question who their daughter's boyfriend might be. Later, they order the young woman to go home, saying they will stay at the location. Before she leaves, her father asks to speak with her. He says that although she and the boy are a couple, there is a disadvantage in them living together. Embarrassed, the girl says she doesn't know what her father is talking about. He overhears the conversation and the girl shouts, saying it is rude that he was listening. The pair decides to head home, but the girl remembers she has no car as it was repossessed. To her surprise, Cheng shows up with the car keys in hand. She is left confused. The protagonist explains that he saw when the car was taken and managed to recover it beforehand. Grateful, Sun runs and hugs the young man. He strokes her hair and says that he should be the one thanking her. Curious, the girl asks why her friend is helping so much and also thanking her. Mysterious, the boy says she might find out the next day. Sun grows even more curious. Suddenly, she says she feels cold and wonders if the car's air conditioner is broken. Knowing what it is, he thinks it's bloodlust. Quickly, he asks his friend not to question him and to just follow every word he says. The boy opens the car door and tells her that when he gets out, she must go straight to the apartment without stopping for anything. Then when she gets home, she should take his phone and hide it in her room. Finally, she must call the first number in the contacts. When they answer, Sun should ask them to send the strongest person from the department within half an hour, but if anyone breaks in, she must surrender. He jumps out of the car and the girl drives away. It is explained that it's a battle between martial artists and that an ordinary human couldn't withstand it. A car approaches the boy and he knows it's time to meet his opponent. Two people get out of the car. He evaluates them and says only one person could pose a real threat to him. With a menacing look, a long-haired man approaches and says he can't believe there's still someone alive from the Yi family. Trying to understand, Chang recalls the man's involvement in the village incident and asks if he came there to kill him. Laughing, the man says the boy doesn't deserve such a thing as he is unimportant. He orders Huang King to finish off the young man. The bodyguard rushes for the protagonist and tries to attack him. With little effort, Cheng kicks him and sends him flying. Watching this scene, the long-haired man calls the guard a loser. Threateningly, he says the man's death won't be as swift as his opponent's. Yo Jingbu says he's curious to see how many levels Chang has reached in 5 years but assures him he won't kill him. He explains that he was the one who led the men to massacre the Yi family 5 years ago. Yo Jingbu says the boy still has some skills as he defeated his opponent with a single blow. The young man with black hair questions what exactly the old man is trying to say with that. In response, the old man says he wants him to be his dog, since his former subordinate, Huang King, was eliminated. Mocking, Yi Cheng says the man thinks too highly of himself, even though his kung fu is terrible. This makes his opponent even more irritated. Revealing his aura full of creatures with red eyes, the young man asks when the old man started thinking he was stronger than him. Sweating cold, Yo Jinju feels an intense pressure. one that reaches the level of a grandmaster. With a dark gaze, the boy declares that he won't eliminate his opponent so quickly, while the man thinks it's impossible for someone so young to have so much power. After all, he himself has been practicing for 40 years and still hasn't reached that rank. With trembling hands, he questions why his body is acting this way, forcing himself to stay strong and not retreat. Activating his power, he says he doesn't know what dark power the young man used to reach that level, but his experience cannot be compared to the boy's. Yi Cheng keeps a steady gaze as his opponent launches into an attack, shouting that he will defeat him once and for all. The man's claws pass right in front of his eyes, but Yi dodges nimbly. He counterattacks, initiating a power struggle. The young man ends up with scratched hands, and his opponent says it's impressive that he blocked all his strikes, but he asks how much longer he can keep blocking. Looking at his injuries, a protagonist admits the man can inflict superficial wounds stronger than he expected. He underestimated him, but mockingly asks what those scratches can really do. With disdain, the man is surprised by the young man's words. However, noticing his own injuries, he realizes one of his fingers is broken. Smiling slightly, the young man, once again radiating his powerful aura, asks if this is the experience Yo Jinju mentioned earlier. Launching an aerial attack, he shouts that the old man will pay his debt with his own blood tonight. Looking up, the man questions how the boy dares attack him like that, noticing that the young man's excessive confidence stems from his youth. But he believes the boy has nowhere to hide in the air and just needs to concentrate all his energy into one hand. Releasing his counterattack, he severely injures the boy's legs. Laughing, the old man asks how the boy will fight him in that condition. But his happiness is short-lived, as it was all an illusion created by Chang using dark spirits. Terrified, he questions if such a high level of power is really possible. Meanwhile, the boy merely whispers as he attacks his opponent from behind, making the old man realize too late what was happening. After finishing the attack, Yi Cheng proudly says it was worthy of a master. Mocking his enemy, now with his face pressed against the asphalt, he comments on how tough the man's forehead is. Injured, the old man retorts, saying what happened is impossible. Grabbing him by the hair, the young master lifts the man and states that if he answers his questions, his life will be spared. He then asks how the man knows about his existence and how many others have this information. Begging, the man says he will answer everything if he is allowed to leave alive. Angrily, the boy questions whether he thinks he is in any position to make a deal. Yo Jinju then reveals that some time ago, he discovered someone had information about the boy in a dark web database, which prompted him to investigate further. Upon checking, he noticed the resemblance between the boy and the deceased Yi Cheng was remarkably high, which led him to confront the young man, as he doesn't like leaving threats unchecked. Especially because the Dragon Master said the Yi family could not remain alive. With his foot pressing against his opponent's back, the boy then asks for the Dragon Master's name, where to find him, and whether he knows he is alive. The man lets out a small laugh, but he responds, claiming not to know the Master's name and that all families, including those in the capital, must refer to him by that title, not knowing his location either. Yi Cheng then asks if the man lacks the authority to speak directly to the Dragon Master. The man confirms this. Reflecting, the boy then asks if the master wanted to destroy his family because his father offended him. In response, his opponent says the only thing he knows is that the master was looking for something and the trail led directly to the Yi family. Thinking to himself, the young man wonders if what the master is looking for could be the stone his father gave him. Fearing that what the Dragon Master truly desires is the cemetery of reincarnations, which lies within the stone. Letting out a laugh, Yo Jingu, still on the ground, says that his henchmen are at Sun Yi's apartment so he cannot harm him if he wants to save her. Pressing harder on the man's head and eliminating him, the boy repeats that he is in no position to negotiate with him. The young woman, meanwhile, finds herself running breathlessly home as Cheng instructed. Suspicious, she feels someone is following her. She decides to quicken her pace to get into the apartment. Closing the door, sweaty and exhausted, she says she cannot rest yet, because she must quickly go to the boy's room and use his phone to make a call. A man answers, and the young woman introduces herself, gives her address, and says that Yi Cheng instructed him to send the strongest people to the location within half an hour. Outside the building, a group of men prepares to enter, and one of them, wearing a black and red mask, says they need to be quick, adding that any witnesses spotted must be eliminated immediately. In the room, the purple-haired young woman asks if someone is on the line. Repeating what she said earlier, she urges the person to hurry because someone is coming. The man on the line responds with a simple okay and ends the call. Sun Yi then wonders if she called the police, praying that whoever is will help her. At the Kainlong building, the man who ended the call wonders who is on the other end, stating that anyone who dares to touch his master is his enemy. Furious, he shouts for someone to come to his presence. Guards resembling ninjas appear swiftly and ask him to give the order. He then orders them to go to Jiangxing and warns that if anything happens to the woman who called, they will face consequences. The guards respond with a firm, "Yes, master." Turning his back, he commands them to prepare the helicopter as he will also go. A subordinate then reminds him that the final negotiation with the 6 families is scheduled for the next day, adding that the situation in Jiangnan province is at stake. Responding, the man instructs him to inform the others that he will not attend. Concluding the conversation, he says if they are not convinced, they can meet him personally at the building. Back at the apartment, the masked man breaks down the door. Upon entering, he quickly picks up the scent of a woman. His accomplice, San, suggests that she must be hiding to avoid being found so easily, making him laugh. The young woman, sweating cold, realizes someone is approaching her. But when she looks at the door, she notices a blue light shining and wonders what her apartment mate did to it. Outside, one of the men says that if she's a good girl and comes out, her end won't be painful. But another man says that isn't what he intends to do. The group leader then appears and tells them not to finish the job, leaving everyone confused. Showing his phone, he explains that he hasn't been able to contact Mr. Yao for some time, which might mean something has changed and the girl's life could be useful. But he asserts the men can still have their fun. With a malicious look, one of the creatures shouts to Sun Yi that he is coming for her. But he is caught off guard when he punches the door and nothing happens. He wonders what could have occurred, because the door remains completely intact. Another man in the group says it's his turn now, while the first man still questions how that could be possible. Realizing what is happening, the leader says the door is imbued with a strong Kai. Suddenly, the arm of the henchman who struck the door starts to catch fire, leaving him terrified. Feeling the burning sensation spread through his body, he screams for help. Everyone watches in shock as the man collapses to the ground in flames. Sweating cold, they wonder if he has been eliminated. Stating that he doesn't know what was done to the door, the leader says he fears it cannot be broken by brute force. Explaining that if they try, they could be consumed by the malicious energy, and he concludes that the person their master wishes to harm doesn't seem weak at all. A subordinate then asks what they should do now. Holding tools in hand, the leader responds that if brute force doesn't work, they must use tools to unlock the door. Everyone is astonished and agrees that, as professional assassins, they should carry tools like that to open doors more easily. Inside the room, someone wonders what the noise was and whether someone was actually eliminated. Crying, she hears another sound and notices the door is opening. The man peeks through the gap and in a sinister tone says he's coming in. Once inside the room, he is mesmerized by how beautiful the young woman is. One of the men then says that because of her, he lost one of his brothers, so she must compensate them. She pleads with him not to come closer. Behind him, the group's leader tells him not to go too far as they need her alive. Recalling Yi Cheng's advice, the young woman decides to surrender while waiting for rescue. Suddenly, a dagger flies in and strikes the man directly. At the window, one of the ninjas under Yi Lingshan's command appears, asking how they dare lay a hand on their king. Screaming, another man shouts angrily, questioning how the ninja could do that to his brother, while their leader is shocked by what was said. Unbothered by who the ninja is, the masked man repeats the same question and claims the ninja lacks virtue. But suddenly, he is attacked from behind by another ninja. The leader, sweating coldly, wonders how they ended up in trouble with the king of Jiangnan, the most terrifying being in the entire province, surrendering immediately while being attacked. Impressed, Sun Yi wonders if she's really safe now. Introducing themselves as Mr. Yi's people, the ninjas assure her that she no longer needs to worry. The young woman then asks if they are referring to Yi Cheng. Meanwhile, in the mountain cemetery, the young man carries Yo Jinju up the stairs. Reaching his parents' gravestone, he says it's the anniversary of their deaths, and as their son, he is there to visit them. After that, he kicks the man he defeated earlier with great force, making him crash into the gravestone, ordering him to kneel. Claiming to be a great master of his generation, the old man says he will not kneel before a mere mortal, telling the boy to eliminate him once and for all. Grabbing the man's head and slamming it against the ground multiple times, Cheng repeats the order. The man complies, but the boy, full of rage, says it's not enough and pushes him down, telling him to do it again. And again and again and again, until the man shows no signs of life. Then he says it's time to prepare the tribute, placing the man inside a sack in front of the gravestone. While drinking and speaking to his parents, he says this is his offering to them, that they shouldn't worry as this is just the beginning, swearing with red eyes that everyone involved in what happened 5 years ago, including the man from the capital, will pay for what they did. At dawn, Sun Yi arrives at the cemetery carrying a bouquet of white flowers. Thinking to herself, she says the previous night was too much for her and that she can't understand her roommate, revealing that if he didn't resemble her former schoolmate who passed away, she wouldn't have accepted him. Suddenly, she notices bottles on the ground. Looking down, she finds Yi Cheng sleeping in front of his parents' gravestone. He is dreaming, softly calling out for his father and mother. The young woman then realizes that he really is who she thought he was. With tears in her eyes, she says it's no wonder he's been so close to her, protecting her and helping her solve all her problems. Feeling foolish for not realizing it sooner and wondering how he spent the past years and what caused him to change so much. As she embraces him, she imagines that everything he went through must have been very painful. But she says that now he doesn't have to go through anything alone anymore. Turning to the gravestone, she tells his parents that it's been so long and that she can't believe the boy has truly returned, promising that she will take care of him, that he will grow and become a very good man. Still on the ground, the young man opens his eyes and blushing asks what she's doing there. Grabbing a bottle, he says he still wants to drink, but the young woman tells him to stop so they can go home. Taking him by the arm, she says he reeks of alcohol, that his parents told her to keep an eye on him, so he must go home, take a shower, and rest. He then says that she is not his wife, In response, she says that her uncles told her that until he finds someone, she will act as a substitute wife. Smiling, he thinks that instead of revenge, perhaps this is what his parents would want to see. 3 hours later, a blonde girl arrives at the cemetery and reveals that because of the nightmares she had the previous night, she decided to visit the place. Looking at the bag left by Yi Cheng, she wonders if that tribute was left by someone. Shocked, she realizes that inside the bag is the Grandmaster Yo Jingo. Thinking about who could have done this, she recalls what happened to the father and son of the Chen family, and upon seeing whose tombstone it is, concludes that it must be an act of revenge. She then orders someone to investigate all the cameras around Tiandan Mountain and find out who visited the Yi family's tombstone. At the Daju apartment, someone knocks on the door. Cheng, who was sleeping while hugging Sun Yi, wakes up, remembering that he drank too much, which is unusual for him. The young woman also wakes up and asks who could be knocking at the door at this hour of the morning. Embarrassed and surprised, the boy asks her why she is sleeping in his bed. Jokingly, he asks if she has started desiring his body, which makes her angry. Shouting, she says it was him who slept too much and insisted on holding her so they would sleep together, which made her reek of alcohol. He then asks why she can't just hug him since she said she was his temporary wife. Completely embarrassed, she replies that it's not that she can't, she just avoids it when he is so drunk. She then orders him to open the door since she isn't dressed properly, answer it. Opening the door, the boy comes face to face with Shen Mengjia, quickly questioning why she is at the apartment. In response, she reminds him that he invited her father for dinner, and that since they couldn't reach him by phone, they decided to come in person. In her thoughts, the young woman notices how attractive his body still is. Confirming the dinner, he says the restaurant is at number 14, Zilin Lane, and they will meet at 7 o'clock. In the car, the man asks if the address is correct, and Jia admits she has never heard of the place either. The driver then says he knows the place. Relaxed, Mr. Shen says it's fine as long as the driver knows where it is and asks if it's expensive, adding that it's worth inviting Mr. Yi for a meal. His employee then says the place is not expensive, located on a snack street with small shops, where the per capita consumption doesn't exceed 30 yuan. The man and his daughter are not pleased by what they hear. The young woman then asks why a man who charges hundreds of millions of dollars per consultation would want them to eat cheap snacks. In response, the man says maybe he simply likes it. They then arrive at the restaurant. Inside, a man and a woman wonder why someone with such an expensive car would go to a small restaurant. Yi Cheng then informs them that those are the guests he invited and asks the couple to prepare. Linkle Wang, seeing this, wonders what kind of person the boy has met. Smiling, Mr. Shen says that as soon as he got out of the car, he could smell it, just as he and Mr. Yi had said. The owner then invites them in. The old man's daughter, while chewing, says the food is surprisingly delicious, affordable, yet offers a unique flavor. In his thoughts, her father notes that the price is reasonable, the food is good, but the decor is simple, and the place only has one table, concluding that they need more customers. He then asks his employee to speak to the publicity department to take action, as he wants the place to be crowded with customers in the future. Xiao Xu then says the man need not worry as the matter will be easily resolved. Shocked, the restaurant owners ask who this powerful man is. Yi Cheng then thanks his uncles for their help. The man asks if he invited him to dinner just for the food. Getting straight to the point, the boy asks if he knows about the Tianjin group, leaving Jia's father astonished. He recalls that 5 years ago, this group was the Yi family's company in Jiangsheng led by Yi Tianjing. However, after the tragedy that occurred, the group was divided and annexed by many forces. These hidden forces borrowed and restructured the assets of the Tianjin group, making it a very difficult mission for anyone to find out where the network is now. Snapping out of his thoughts, the old man asks the boy why he is so interested in the original family. But then he suddenly realizes that the young man belongs to that family, and that he did not die as everyone believed. Smiling, the young man admits that the man is correct in his reasoning, and that the reason he called him is because he wants to reclaim the Tianjin group. The man then asks if that is truly what he wants. Confirming, the young man says he wants to take back his father's hard work and asks the man to tell him where the group is located. In response, the old man explains that the group was divided 5 years ago by complex forces, the most significant being the King group, whose leader is named Zhang Jingming. Thinking, the young man says that's a name he will never forget, as the man was an old friend of his father and the uncle he always trusted. But it was he who personally delivered the invitation letter to Yunhu Villa to his father. And even after his father left, he continued smiling and currying favor with the man from the capital. Seeing the rage growing in his eyes, Sun Yi grows concerned. The young man then tells her to stay calm, reassuring her that he's fine. Realizing the boy has limited information, Mr. Shen says he will contact some connections and that they will work together to take over the King group. His daughter watches and wonders if her father is trembling with nerves. But she notices that the trembling is because the man wants to align himself with Yi Cheng. The young man then asks if the man isn't afraid his family will get involved. Without answering, the old man proposes a deal where he will take 10% of the profits from the captured group, but hold no real power. Understanding business, the young woman with purple hair realizes the old man's ultimate goal is simply to ally himself with the boy. Accepting the deal, Cheng then says that if the Shen family faces problems, they will receive help. Happy, old man wonders if this is what it feels like to open new territory, thinking that if they succeed, his family will do very well. Leaving the restaurant, Sun Yi says that if they manage to recover the heart and soul of the boy's father, he will be very happy. Smiling, the young man agrees with her statement. Instantly, he realizes he is being followed but senses that there's no intent to harm him, suspecting it's Yi Lingshan sent to protect him. On their way home, the young woman accompanying him mentions that she's running out of snacks in her apartment and needs to buy more. The young man then asks if she'd like to eat, but she declines. Taking out his phone, he decides to call the king of Jiangnan to meet him. The man answers and says it's about time he called. In response, Cheng says that if he's correct, the man should be in Jiangcheng at that moment and that he should no longer call him Lord. He then requests to meet him somewhere at 8 p.m. to clarify some things. Laughing, the man says the meeting place will be the UO Club, as it is his property and offers a quiet environment. Yi Cheng remarks that he remembers it as the best club in the area and doubts it's actually owned by him. Meanwhile, a man and a short-haired woman arrive in front of a building. The man asks if Shuren is still thinking about Yo Jinju, saying she fears it might all have been an accident. Disagreeing, the woman says that's not possible, as during the investigation conducted by the Chu family, it seemed like someone was trying to cover something up, hindering its progress, and she wonders who could block information so effectively. Reassuring her, the man says he will meet with someone from the National Security Bureau's graduation ball that night to get answers. Another woman then asks them to show their membership cards to gain entry. Entering the place, the young woman tells the man, who is actually her father, that the club doesn't seem the same, commenting that the place is filled with very powerful people. Glancing sideways, her father asks if she noticed a hunched old man, and she asks if he knows him. Affirming that he does, the man says that is Master Rudder of the UO Club, a highly skilled martial arts master and one of the reasons no one dares to mess with the club. Confused, the girl asks if the reason people go to great lengths to please the club is because of the old man. Denying this, the man says people do what they do to gain favor with the man behind the master, who is the king of Jiangnan, Lingshan. Leaving the young woman stunned by the revelation. Reflecting, she says that although the Chu family is the #1 family in Jiangcheng, the entire Jiangnan province is under the shadow of the king. Her father then says that the man is far beyond their reach. He warns her that the man he wishes to meet will arrive soon and that they must treat him very well. The young woman says for him to handle things as she goes for a walk. Alone, she reveals that every time she closes her eyes, the lifeless body of Yo Jingwu appears in her mind. But she says the most important thing is not the man, but the people who did this as a tribute to the Yi family. Wondering who else from the family could still be alive, she then unexpectedly encounters Yi Cheng, who also recognizes her. The young woman wonders how the boy could be present in such a place, but she decides to be polite and asks him how he is, despite his resemblance to the young man from the Yi family who had passed away. Confused, the boy asks if he can help her with something. She then apologizes and says he resembles an old classmate of hers from the past. Introducing herself, she hands him her business card and says he can ask for help if he needs it. The young man then throws the card away, irritating the girl. With one foot, he steps on the card, repeating the name of the family she belongs to, and says that to him, the Chu family is nothing. The girl scolds him, asking if he doesn't realize he's throwing away a great future. Yi Cheng, with a dark gaze, tells her to leave and says he won't repeat himself. Shouting that no matter what power he comes from, it will never compare to her family's, Shu Shuren raises her hand to slap him. But she is stopped by Master Rudder, who orders her to stop and asks what is going on. Trying to cover up, the young woman introduces herself and says she has admired him for many years. Snarling, the old man says he doesn't care about the Chu family and that if she doesn't leave now, she will never set foot in Yohu Club again. Apologizing, she complies and leaves, muttering under her breath that the boy is lucky. Watching her leave, he feels relieved. With the old man in front of him, he sits on the sofa and asks where Yi Lingshan is, as it is time for their meeting. Master Rudder says something must have delayed him on the way but assures him he will arrive soon. Impatient, the boy says he will wait only 3 minutes. Repeating what he said earlier, the old man wonders in his thoughts who this boy is to dare be so disrespectful to the king, and that if it weren't for the king's orders, he wouldn't have come to meet him. The king arrives accompanied by a bodyguard, leaving the old man surprised. He says it has been a year since they last met, but the king still looks as strong as ever. Yi Cheng then remarks that the man is 2 minutes late. Mocking, the boy says that if he had taken any longer, he would have left. The sycophantic old man says the king has many business dealings, which is why he was delayed. Shocking everyone, Lingshan kneels and pleads with the young man to stop being angry. Wide-eyed, the other 2 men observe the situation. One of them, sweating profusely, wonders what on earth could be happening for the king to act this way. The other, also sweating, thinks about how a man feared throughout Jiangcheng and all Jiangnan provinces could kneel before someone else. Looking at the man on the ground, the boy asks what he meant by his earlier statement. In response, the king calls him Sir and says he's finally calm. His subordinates then realize that the young man is actually the legendary lord of the palace. It is revealed that the most powerful underground force in Jiangnan province is controlled by the king, who also governs all the rules and is the most terrifying entity in the region. But only a few people know that the one truly in control of everything is the master of the temple, whose identity is unknown to most. Master Rudder thinks the mystery is finally solved. Kneeling, the other two men recognize the young man as the master of the palace. Seeing their actions, Yi Cheng says he is no lord and orders them to leave the room, leaving him alone with the king. Lingxi then tells the guard to stay outside the door and that if anyone dares to interrupt the meeting, they should be eliminated. The men accept the order and quickly leave, closing the door behind them. Now standing, the king says that with them at the door, no one will interfere. Annoyed by the man constantly calling him master, the young man asks if it's because he saved him in Cloud Demon Valley years ago. Responding to the inquiry, he says that it happened a long time ago. At that time, he and his brothers were attacked by a large number of martial artists, leaving them severely injured. But the young man, upon realizing they were from the Jiangnan province like him, felt compassion and decided to use the formation talisman his master had given him to eliminate them. This act alone earned the young man's respect and admiration. The medal he brought was the true reason he invited him to the meeting. Taking the object, the young man wonders what could be so special about it. Observing it more closely, he notices that the young man engraved on the medal resembles him, leaving him surprised. Questioning who the king hired to create the gift and place his face on it, the man replies that his assumption is wrong, because the medallion is 100 years old, existing long before the boy saved him. Intrigued, Cheng asks where he got it. In response, the king explains that it is a family heirloom passed down from his great-grandfather, a grand master of physiognomy and the finest feng shui master of his time. He foresaw that his family would disappear in 100 years and used a secret method to transcend the heavens and find an emperor with the purple Huai of Wolong, leaving a message that the emperor depicted on the medal would be named Yi and that he would appear in 100 years. Reflecting to himself, the young man questions what kind of emperor he could be talking about. He recalls that the master who rescued him mentioned he possessed the special purple dragon power capable of breaking the Tao of heaven and altering others' fates. Speaking again, the king states that in recent years he has controlled a powerful force in the Jiangnan province and given more time could defeat the capital. Angry, the young man says he doesn't need anyone to avenge his family and warns that if the king dares to interfere, they will become enemies. Apologizing, the man says he won't interfere and doesn't know how he could have thought the young man needed his help. With a dark look, the boy declares that if the king wants him as his master, he must agree to 3 conditions. The first is not to interfere in his life, the second is to send someone to protect Sun Yi, and the third is to do his utmost to locate the man from the capital. Agreeing, the king says he can fulfill all of these. As he's about to leave, the young man says that's all and that he will get in touch if needed, but the king says he has something to add. He reveals that several forces seem to be investigating the boy, with the first being the Chu family in Jiangsheng, the second the Xia family, and the third being the National Security. Unconcerned with the first two, the young man wonders why National Security and Dragon Soul, which are public, would be investigating him. The king then says he will find someone to take responsibility for what happened to the Chen family's father and son in Yo Jingu, but warns him to be careful. Waving his hand, the boy thanks him. As he leaves, he wonders if the Chu family's investigation is related to the tribute he left at his parents' gravestone. Bumping into Chu Shuren, she says that if he kneels and apologizes, she will let him live. With disdain, he decides to ignore her, saying it's time for him to buy a car for situations like this. Furious, the young woman prepares to attack, declaring she will make him suffer. With her claws, she tries to wound him from behind, but the young man quickly dodges. Grabbing one of her hands, he slams her forcefully to the ground. In her thoughts, she asserts that she is not weak in martial arts, so how could this happen? Under the young man's dark gaze, she declares that whoever he is, he will not insult her family, and that if he refuses to stay at the club, he will face consequences. Grabbing the young woman by her mouth, Yi Cheng orders her to shut up. Struggling, she says she will eliminate him, while he responds that she deserves to be recycled. Realizing what is about to happen, she pleads for him to stop. With just one hand, he throws her into a trash can, saying that is the best place for her. Covered in garbage, she calls him a bastard and wishes for him to meet a very painful end. The young man then arrives at his apartment, thinking that although Chu Shuren was hated, she had nothing to do with what happened to his parents and was thus blameless. In his memory, the Chu family was not present at Yunhu Villa, but he is gravely mistaken. Entering the place, he assumes that Sun Yi must already be asleep and decides not to disturb her. In his room, he finds a woman lying on his bed and assumes she is the young woman with purple hair, deciding to just lie down and sleep as well. The next morning, he wakes up and asks the person beside him what time it is. To his surprise, the young woman next to him isn't who he thought, and startled, she asks what he is doing there. In response, he asks her the same question, pointing out that this is his room. Sun Yi appears and questions why he is there if he said he wouldn't come home the previous night. Shocked upon seeing the two of them, she wonders if she is interpreting the situation correctly. Embarrassed, she asks if something happened between them. The young man thinks to himself that he lied to her, assuming she would wait for him late into the night, while the girl clarifies that it's all a misunderstanding. Reflecting on her situation, the young woman, a member of the Xia family, says that if she goes back home, she'll be forced to marry a man. So to drown her troubles, she sought out Sun Yai, drinking heavily, which led to her falling asleep. Yi Cheng realizes he forgot that she would be staying there. He takes responsibility for the incident, even though nothing happened and all he did was hug someone for a night. The young woman then says he isn't responsible for anything and remarks that the prescription he bought won't make a difference in the world, implying they come from different worlds. He agrees with her and leaves the room, slamming the door behind him. His phone rings, and answering it, he asks Shen Haihua what the issue is. The man asks if he's not disturbing him, but the young man quickly inquires about updates regarding the Kinch group. In response, the man says he asked his team to draft plans which have a 90% feasibility rate and would like to send them over to him. Yi Cheng says he trusts the man and doesn't need explanations. Mr. Shen then mentions there are some documents that need Zhang Jingming's signature. Adding, he reveals that he discovered the group is controlled by a malicious force called Kingman, which needs to be eradicated. The young man agrees, but he asks if it would be possible to reclaim the group within 3 days if both issues are resolved, and the man confirms that it is. The young man then asks him to send the documents so he can secure the signature that very night. After the call ends, the man thinks that if the young man can truly execute these tasks, his abilities are far beyond what he could imagine, wondering what kind of person he is following. At night in the building complex, Chang arrives with the documents at the building, which is also the headquarters of the King Group. He says, based on the information he received from Yi Lingshan, that Zhang Jingming is currently at the location discussing internal affairs. The time has come to make him talk about what he knows. In the elevator, he recalls that the king mentioned the building has 33 floors, but the elevator only goes up to the 20-man floor, requiring a special pass to access the rest. On the 32nd floor are some of Kingman's villains who gather there to carry out illegal transactions. And on the 33rd floor is where the group's leader resides, making him realize he will need to use some special methods to get in. Placing his hand on a glass panel, the young man considers breaking it, but the shards might harm innocent people, so he decides it's better to use Kai to dissolve it. As the process takes place, men on the 32nd floor hear a noise and wonder if someone is breaking in. One of them orders the others to quickly check what's going on. Inside the room, the young man appears and says the search isn't necessary because he's right there. The men shout, asking who he is and if he knows what kind of place this is. In response, with a dark look, the young man says he is the last person they will ever see. The gang leader shouts, asking if he's crazy, but he is defeated with a single blow, leaving his subordinates in shock. Thinking about what the king said, Yi Cheng declares that these villains commit every crime imaginable, saying aloud that it would be a crime to let them live. On the 33rd floor, a meeting is taking place, and a man in a white suit tells Mr. Zhang Jingming that it seems something is happening on the floor below. In response, the man says it's probably just some brothers playing cards and adds that they are protected by Kingman's senior officials. Returning to business, the blonde man says that as long as he provides the map of the province's airport, he will become the agent for all the country's business at Jiangcheng's port in the future. The subordinates then say that if he hands over the map, China's security will be jeopardized, constituting an act of treason. With disdain, the old man asks why they care about that when they commit so many other crimes such as arms smuggling. The blonde man then asks Zhang to add one more item, that being the supply of 10 sets of high-precision equipment, each worth several million on the market. Pleased with the proposal, the man says he can't refuse, extending the handshake to seal the deal. Suddenly, the door explodes, catching everyone off guard. Yi Cheng storms in, shouting that they've truly become the dogs of Country M, and even ending them 1,000 times wouldn't be enough punishment for such an act. The group's leader, distressed, notices a resemblance in the boy, but insists it's impossible that he is who he thinks he is. Shouting, he asks where his guards are. The boy responds that they are sleeping, a sleep from which they'll never wake. Aghast, the old man asks how that's possible when so many top-tier specialists were among them. Throwing an envelope at the man's face, the boy demands that he sign it. Realizing it's an unconditional capital transfer contract, the group leader asks if he's insane to demand such a thing. The man in the white suit snaps his fingers and orders his bodyguard to eliminate the young man. Obeying, the bodyguard grabs what looks like a high-powered machine gun, declaring that the mission will be completed. With just one finger, the boy stops the bullets and sends them back, completely annihilating his opponent, who stood no chance. Two more men rush to attack, questioning how he dares to come there like this. Observing their power, the boy acknowledges that their attack is strong by Jiang Cheng's standards, but unfortunately, compared to him, they are still far too weak, and he counters, defeating them. Realizing who the boy is, Zhang Jiming asks how someone so young can be a martial arts master. Terrified, the man in the white suit tries to flee, declaring that he won't interfere with the boy's business, but he is swiftly eliminated without any chance of defense. The group leader begins screaming upon witnessing the events. Cheng then orders him to sign the contract papers. While begging for his life, the man pleads with the boy not to eliminate him as well. Holding the signed agreement, Cheng declares that the man is now useless. On his knees, the old man asks if the boy intends to destroy them all, warning that the organization he leads won't let him escape if he does. Smiling, the boy reveals that his initial plan was just to take over the King group, but he has changed his mind and now intends to destroy them. Giving him one last chance, he asks the man for his final words. Angrily, the man says the boy shouldn't be so arrogant, even if he is a master, because the sect is also led by a master who could end both him and his family. In response, the boy declares that his entire family was killed 5 years ago at Yunho Villa, leading the old man to realize that he is indeed Yi Cheng. On his knees, the man tries to reverse the situation, claiming it's all a misunderstanding and that he, from the group, was the best friend of the boy's father and would never harm him. Irritated, the boy kicks him in the face and demands how he dares to talk about his father and claim to be his uncle. Holding his nose, the man begs the boy to let him go. But the boy only laughs maniacally as he activates his power. He questions why he should let him go when the man spared no mercy for his family back then. While beating him, he screams, demanding to know what his parents did to him and why he betrayed them. He confesses that he never wanted to be this way, that he wished to study and live a normal life, and that in the past he would tremble just at the sight of a chicken being killed. But now the only thing keeping him alive is hatred, and he declares that he will continue until all those bastards meet the King of Hell. Outside the building, the young man reflects on how considerate the king was in sending cleaners to handle the scene and bringing him new clothes. He states that now it's time to deal with Kingman. A young woman approaches and, addressing him by name, asks what he is doing there. The woman is none other than Officer Bailey Bing. Without answering her, the young man asks if there are any criminals nearby. She simply replies that it's a confidential mission. He then says that, in that case, he's not obligated to answer her question either. Suddenly, they hear a noise and a massive rock begins falling toward the officer, making her wonder if this will be her end. But quickly, Yi Cheng pulls her out of harm's way, asking if she's okay, while she can only thank him. Accepting her gratitude, he remembers he's involved in what happened. Watching an explosion occur, he wonders if the entire floor will blow up, even if the goal is to erase evidence. Other people run out of the building terrified, as tattooed men pass by them. The officer notices they are from Kingman, possibly the ones responsible for the explosion. The group is the focus of her investigation, as they are like a cancer to the city. Realizing this is her chance to finally obtain evidence, she informs Yi Cheng that she needs to handle something. In response, the boy says it's none of his business, but he decides to follow her to join forces and solve the problem. Following the tattooed men, the woman notices they are heading to a Kingman fortress hidden in an abandoned factory. Determined, she thinks she just needs evidence to call for reinforcements and eliminate everyone inside. Climbing onto containers to reach a window, she realizes she's on the right track. But as she takes out her phone, she notices the signal is blocked, making it difficult to call for help. Seeing the box the men are carrying, she thinks she needs to open it to take pictures as evidence. But suddenly, someone starts shouting, grabbing her attention. Inside the factory, a man begs his master for help, saying he doesn't know what happened, but the quilloing simply exploded. In response, the master asks if, out of so many people, only those 2 losers survived. And spotting the officer, he says the men didn't even notice they were being followed. Surprised, the woman cannot believe the man is a former martial artist more powerful than her, deciding to run to save herself. But the man behind her catches her with one hand, throwing her violently to the ground. Holding her by the head, he says she is very beautiful and worth admiring. In response, she reveals she is a police officer and that her colleagues already know about his fortress. Thus, if anything happens, his gang will be destroyed. Throwing her again, the man says he has already been shot enough and asks how she dares to threaten him, asserting they are going to have fun. Claiming that her father is Bailey Hun from the Southwest Military Region, the officer warns that if anything happens to her, the group will face severe consequences. Hearing this, the man considers how powerful her father must be and wonders why his daughter is a police officer in such a place. But looking at her on the ground, he says they will deal with that later. Injured, she thinks she should not have come to this place alone, nor should she have become an officer in this small town, preferring to eliminate herself rather than be humiliated by the men surrounding her. With a malicious smile, the man says he won't be gentle. Then her voice asks why he is forcing the woman to do something she doesn't want to do, and if he doesn't find it shameful. Snarling, the man asks who the boy is and how he dares to enter Kingman territory. In response, the boy says he not only entered but will also eliminate everyone there. Standing on top of the containers, Yi Cheng asks if everyone understood. The master of the helm asks if he really said he would kill them all. After that, all the men with him start laughing, mocking his words about people and martial arts. Smiling, the man orders them to take him down to show how skilled they are. They all start shooting at the boy. However, the bullets don't hit him and he leaps off the container. Charging toward them, Cheng begins disarming the men. One of them comments on how incredible the boy is, while another asks how he managed to dodge all the bullets. Ji, adjusting his glasses, remarks that it's a martial artist's trick, saying someone with internal strength could do that, and calls him brave for entering Kingman alone. To see for himself, he charges at the boy. With a smile, Yi Cheng says he is too slow and strikes his neck, knocking off his glasses. His colleagues called his name upon seeing him flung into the air, asking if the other man killed him. They wonder what kind of person he is, calling him a murderer. On the ground, the man calls him a bastard and begs for help. The officer thinks every move he makes is lethal, without a single wasted motion. It's like he's a fighting machine. She then wonders how someone so terrifying could exist in Jiangcheng. Standing before him, the rudder master remarks that with a strong man like him around, he himself would have to take action. Because of his perfect body, he couldn't hurt him and orders the boy to kneel and submit to him. However, it doesn't last long as a punch to the chin lands on him. The force makes him float in the air. When he lands on the ground, holding his chin, the man comments with sweat dripping down his face that the boy is dangerous. Charging at him again, he declares that he will die alongside him, but the boy hits him in the stomach, remarking that his actions were far too overreaching. The strike is called explosive liver, and his opponent clutches his stomach, writhing in pain. But the man begs him to wait and proposes a deal, saying he'll do whatever the boy wants. Looking at him seriously, Chen remarks that the man talks too much and delivers a final blow, ending all the men in the room. Bailey Bing watches the scene, thinking that the boy defeated Kingman's giant all by himself. Now looking at her on the ground, he comments that she is next, leaving her scared as she asks what he wants. He places his hands on her, terrifying her as tears well up in her eyes. When she opens them, the boy has only adjusted her legs, leaving her confused. Pulling her legs back and covering herself, the girl asks how he could take advantage of someone, saying she thought he was a good person. Touching her again, he remarks that her legs were fractured and asks if she wants to be incapacitated, leaving her stunned. He begins transferring energy to her, healing her injuries. The officer comments that she feels comfortable, noting the flow of chi in her body. She thanks him, adding that he could be a famous doctor, but he's uninterested and asks her to check the phones for evidence. Intrigued, Bing asks where he's going. Somberly, Chen remarks that there are still remnants to be cleaned up. After that night, she fears there will no longer be a kingman in Jiangcheng. At the scene, several bodies lie on the ground. Among them is the martial arts master. His expression seems to show he witnessed something terrifying before dying. Kingman has become a hellish sight. The woman answers a call from her brother, telling him that Jiangcheng will change. On the other end, her brother asks if she's certain Chen killed them all. She admits she fears he did, adding that he even saved her. He announces that he's coming to the city and warns her to stay away from him because he's extremely dangerous. She tries to argue, but he cuts her off, saying it's unimportant and that he wants to see what kind of demon Yi Chen really is. In the city, the young man reflects that killing is easy, but it costs him clothes since the stains need to be destroyed. While walking, he notices a familiar figure. It's Xie Ruxu, and he thinks to himself that rich people live good lives, spending their afternoons drinking tea. But he's too lazy to get involved with her and decides to pretend he didn't see her. However, it doesn't work as the girl spots him on the street. Asking her mother to wait, she chases after him. In the street, she shouts his name, asking why he's walking so fast. He replies that he's just passing through. The girl remarks that they haven't settled things since they slept together and that this is her chance to be compensated, but he simply says it was his bed and she slept in it. As they talk, her mother appears, asking who the boy is. Embarrassed, her daughter admits she's too ashamed to say. Angry, her mother asks if she realizes the consequences, if he knows she's with another man, and that the Xie family's reputation is at stake. Frightened, Rouge tries to justify herself, but falls silent. Her mother demands she return to the Xie family, saying the Huai family will take over and decrees that she's no longer allowed to leave Xie. Desperate, the girl pleads, saying she's a human being, not a bargaining chip. Unmoved, the mother asks if she intends to disobey her father. At that moment, fear overwhelms her. Trembling, she pulls away from the boy, apologizing. She walks toward her mother with a grim expression. However, Chen grabs her by the arm, telling the woman that she cannot take her because she's pregnant with his child and he will take responsibility for her. The mother looks confused, unable to grasp what's happening. Suspicious and embarrassed, she asks if it's true and Yi responds that she knows her body, so it's a lie. To support the lie, Rouge places her hand on her stomach, claiming the baby just kicked. The boy thinks she's overacting. Her mother is left speechless by the news. He doesn't care about Xia and doesn't like her, but the girl had asked for his help. A trace of blood appeared on her forehead when she said she would return to the Xia family, and the old man told her that the blood trace would increase until she died. Looking at her mother, the girl said it was true, and that if the man knew about it, he would give up. Angrily, the mother commented that her sheltered daughter had been contaminated, and shaking her, she demanded that she return and get rid of the baby. She insisted that she would never leave the house again, but the girl responded that she didn't want to. The woman screamed that it was an order. Chen grabbed her arm, saying that wasn't right. She then asked who he was, saying he wasn't worthy of her daughter, that he was far beyond her reach and undeserving of even looking at her, adding that even the Chu family kneels before the Xia family. With a demonic aura, the young man asked if he truly wasn't worthy of looking at her. Frightened, the woman wondered what was happening, feeling a terrible aura. Yi remarked that he knew nothing about the families and didn't care to, but if they waited 6 months, they would understand what truly was unattainable. Taking the girl, he told her they were leaving. She then watched the two young people walking away. Taking out her phone, she asked for help investigating who Yi Chen was, as he and her daughter seemed very close. Not away, Xia apologized for what her mother had said. She commented that although her mother was concerned about her own interests, she didn't have a bad heart. He told her not to think about it, as he hadn't done it for her, but considered it a task given by the old man. Next to him, embarrassed, the girl thought he was becoming more handsome. Stopping at a certain point, Chen hailed a taxi and said goodbye to the girl, leaving her confused. As the taxi drove away, she was left alone. The Xia family has a 100-year-old legacy. The young man didn't know its strength, so he couldn't harm it. Taking out his phone, he thought about quelling his burning anxiety first. In the car, the young man thought that his strength alone wasn't enough against others. At that moment, he already had Yi Lingshan's support, but the king of Jiangnan was suited to the shadows. Still, he needed a power that could become the light. He then asked the driver to head to Lanyu. The man remarked that it was a rare visit. He asked if he was seeking him because he was in trouble. Yi threw an envelope on the table, saying it was finished, surprising the man when he picked up the documents. Shocked, he wondered how Yi had managed to get Zhang Jiangming to sign. Looking at the young man, he wondered if he had killed him and if that was even possible, as the other man, protected by Kingman, was a specialist. Interrupting his thoughts, Chen commented that he had destroyed the place the night before. Faced with the confession, the man promised that the Tianzin group would be resurrected in 3 days. Without much attention, he asked what he thought of the Xia family. Mr. Shen explained that the family was enormous, with terrifying assets, far beyond comparison to the King group. Then he asked if he intended to destroy them too. Smiling, the young man said Shen was afraid of a casual question, and the man asked to explain how it might be possible. With a threatening gaze, Yi asked if Shen could rule China if he were given a sword. Frightened, the man thought it was terrifying. Looking at the documents, Shen commented that the sword was the Tianzin group and his own group was stronger than that. He asked if, given a power greater than Kingman, Shen could use it to end Xia within half a year. Shen replied that it wouldn't be enough but required public support, and his old age made him fear he didn't have enough time. Bailey Bing's father had great strength, so he might be able to achieve it. With determination, he told the man he would handle public support and offered him a pill that could extend his life by 50 years, leaving him stunned. They reached an agreement, and Shen commented that he could make the Tianzin group an unshakable force. Chen sent goodbye, saying he would see him in 3 days, and Shen told him to be careful on his way. His destiny was about to change. Previously, he could only hide in Xiaojing City, but now he might be followed across Jiangnan, China, and even the world. In one of the apartments, the young man announced that he was back. Seeing Sun and Xia, the latter asked why he was there. Sun called his name as the young man asked why the blonde was there. He asked if she couldn't stay alone and had come to his home to argue. However, the blondes said that the house was hers. The Huimu group had been taken over by her family, so she couldn't stay in the villa and her card had been blocked, leaving her with no other place to go. Without patience, Chen asks where he is supposed to sleep, making it clear he won't share a bed with her, and suggests she think about who might be blackmailing her. To ease the tension, the other girls suggest they could sleep together. Shortly after, another argument arises about the rice they'll eat, as the girl insists she won't eat for free. She asks if she could work with Chen, and he responds that it would be a good idea. The blonde recalls she almost forgot about the precious recipe he brought. She wonders if he's a man hiding his wealth. Convinced, she remarks that she's never served anyone before, but as long as they work together, she guarantees the business will thrive. She then asks him to promise to hire her, adding that if her family finds out, they'll try to suppress and retaliate against the business. Smiling, he says he's willing to take that risk. Excited by his response, she starts asking all sorts of questions about the company. A bit nervous, he admits that nothing has been decided yet. She responds that she might be foolish, but she believes in his words. She thinks to herself that unfortunately, this man dares to promise and hope for half a year to prove himself, but he knows very little about the world. Even if Tang Lei and Jiang Yan are sent to help him, it's impossible to surpass her family financially. The true major consortia in China are all hidden in the shadows. With a glass of wine in hand, another woman asks how the situation is progressing. A man comments that according to the tests, her daughter cannot be pregnant. But the girl invited Sum Yi to drink and stayed in the same house as the boy, so it's possible something happened. Throwing the glass to the ground in anger, she declares that if something did happen, she wants the boy dead. She then asks where he came from. Her subordinate comments that Yi Chen's origins are very strange as he couldn't find any information. It's as if he appeared out of nowhere. However, he suspects that he is the young man who survived the incident at Yunhu Villa 5 years ago. The woman reflects that although it happened in Jiangcheng, it shook the entire province because the Yi family offended powerful men from the capital. She realizes the boy likely refuses to accept the destruction of his family and wants to rise in power to avenge his parents. It's actually a good plan. If that's the case, she shouldn't offer a half-year contract. The man suggests he may lack support, and she agrees. Indifferently, she states she'll give him half a year to see how he plans to make her family kneel. Meanwhile, Chen is on the balcony, reflecting that more people in the house will bring trouble. Even simple tasks like taking a bath or using the bathroom could lead to accidents. He recalls an incident where the girl barged in on him, unaware he was bathing. She threw toilet paper at him, calling him a pervert, while he defended himself, claiming he couldn't have known someone was entering. He thinks he should focus on business. He agrees with Shen that the power behind the scenes is easy to identify. Ling Tin is enough, and his recipe is worthwhile. The problem is public support, as he doesn't know Bailey well enough to count on her help. Ling Tin might be connected to it. As he ponders, he senses someone might be watching him. Turning around, he decides to go back inside the apartment. If they want to play hunter and prey, he's curious to see who will become the prey. From above, someone observes him entering. The observer is stationed in the building across from him. Up there, the man comments that the boy doesn't seem special. The woman must have been deceived since he's rumored to be a former martial artist. He wonders if it's really true as he grabs his binoculars. But when he points them at the balcony, he realizes the boy has vanished. Turning around, he notices Chen closing in on him. The man wonders how the boy scaled an 80-meter building so quickly. He is truly a master. Chen charges at him with incredible speed. The man prepares his punch, running directly at him. The two collide, generating an explosion of energy. The man thinks the boy's strength is terrifying as he wants to crush his arm. Dodging, he realizes he can't fight head-on and opts for evasive maneuvers. Noticing this, he grows irritated. Jumping, he decides to attack with his leg, challenging the man to dodge that. As he lands, dust rises along with a loud noise. However, there's no one there except a mark on the concrete. Chen realizes the man has several tricks. The man reappears behind him, ready to strike, but Chen remarks that it's not enough to land a hit on him. The punch is aimed at his nape. However, a shield blocks it, surprising the attacker. The information he had was wrong. Yi Chen isn't an ancient martial arts master. He's clearly a cultivator. Now standing face to face, the man acknowledges that it's no wonder Yi is so powerful. He easily destroyed many ancient warriors. His sister's limited experience prevented her from seeing the truth. That person was not a martial arts cultivator, but an immortal arts cultivator. Cultivators weren't necessarily stronger than ancient warriors. As he thought about it, the young man disappeared from sight again. With the speed of lightning, he reappeared, kicking his opponent. The kick was so strong that it sent him flying against the wall. Seeing the young man standing still, the other approached cautiously. Frightened and desperate, the man began to say he only wanted to learn about him, but if he truly wanted to kill him, they should talk first. At that moment, the young man placed his foot on the man's chest, pressing him down. He asked who he was and why he was observing him, questioning whether he was sent by the Chu or Xia families. In pain, the man said he didn't want to kill him and bore no resentment toward him, handing over a notebook for Yi to read. The notebook stated that he was a captain of the Dragon Soul Command. Yin King asked to be released now that Yi knew the information. However, the young man said he had never heard of that command, and that since the man dared to spy on him, he must pay the price. Terrified, the man mentioned they had mutual acquaintances and named Bailey Bing. Curious, he asked about their relationship. King said she was his younger sister, and that he wanted to invite Yi to join their group. He was spying to see how skilled Yi was, thinking his sister's name carried more weight than the group's. Still angry, Chen said that if King wanted to invite him, he should have approached him directly instead of spying, adding that King was strong, so it might be better to finish him off. Nervously, King admitted his mistake, apologized, and said he now owed Yi a debt. He offered to help with public power if he found himself in trouble. Considering the matter, he concluded that he needed influential allies. While Bing was his first choice, he could also use King. Getting closer, he asked about the Dragon Soul Command's status in Huaxia. King said they opposed mysterious forces and obeyed only their chief. He thought there might be someone stronger, but it was enough for the Tianjin group. He said he could let Xing go if he established an agreement with a company in the city. Xing asked if his command was to be used as a shield for a company. Ying questioned if he was sure, thinking it was both humiliating and overkill, like using a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito. He confirmed, and Xing commented that the company Yi referred to must be Tianjin, and whether they agreed or not, he would help. Chen acknowledged the offer and gave Xing a pill to heal his injuries. Impressed, King wondered about Yi's origins, as he not only cultivated but also possessed medicinal pills, something he had only heard of before and was now seeing for the first time. He asked if he had more pills. Throwing several into King's hands, Yi said he had plenty of them. King asked how many pills he had and suggested he could bring them to the country or military, but Yi replied they weren't relics and had no reason to hand them over. As he walked away, he said that if King truly wanted to negotiate, he should do what was asked and let the rightful person speak to him directly. With that, Yi leaped back to the building, leaving King to think that the person Yi referred to had many tasks to handle daily and couldn't stop to meet him. Leaning against the wall, King remarked that the city had produced an extraordinary man. In the apartment, the girls were chatting while bathing. In his room, Yi commented that living with two women meant the laundry and bathroom were always occupied, so he had to be ready for anything. His power had grown significantly lately, so he decided to attempt entering the tomb of reincarnation again. Closing his eyes, he began to train. When he opened them again, he found himself surrounded by tombs. This time, his body didn't hurt, and the discomfort was gone. Moreover, the tomb didn't reject him, making him wonder if it was because his power had increased. Looking at a tombstone above, he noticed something. It read, Sakwan Sector, Lu Yunshin. In front of him, many of the tombstones had swords, and a thick cloud covered the area. According to the meaning of the voice in the Tomb of Reincarnation, it seemed his strength hadn't yet reached the threshold. He would be able to trigger the obsession of a powerful person. For now, he could summon Lu Yunshin's Death Fist. Touching the blade, he used his ability and wondered how he could summon him. With a smile, he commented that he would have to try every method. In the metropolitan apartments, Roos told her friend she had business to attend to, so there was no need to bother cooking for her. Bai said goodbye and asked her to buy something for them to eat, leaving Yi intrigued. This one sits with his phone in hand. While drinking coffee, he thinks that over the last 2 days he tried every method, but Tombstone couldn't be added, and he wonders if he wasn't good enough. If he wanted to increase his strength now, he would need to use pills, which meant he needed an alchemy furnace. Yuna had told him the auction would be that day, but hadn't given him any further updates. At that moment, his phone rings and he wonders if it was Shen with a report. When he answers, the man informs him that all King employees have been replaced. He was working on renaming the group, and the ribbon-cutting ceremony would take place in 2 days. Cheerful, Chen remarks that he had kept his promise. Getting up from the sofa, he says it was time for Jiang Sheng to know that the Tianzing group was back. Then he wonders about Ying King, who hadn't contacted him, and whether she had run away. At that moment, someone knocks on the door. Both are startled. It was Zhu, saying he had finally found him. He explained that he had waited all morning at the Thompson Yippen villa, but no one was there, so he had to search several places. The young man apologizes for giving him the wrong address and thinks that's why he hadn't heard from him all day. He then invites the man inside. Zhu says it wasn't necessary as he had a family emergency and needed to leave, but he hands him the invitation to the auction house event. Taking the invitation, he asks the man what happened to his family and whether he could help in any way. Before he could finish speaking, Zhu had already disappeared from sight. At the Jiangche Millennial Hotel, Yi Chen was dressed up at the auction when he encounters Zhu Zixuan. Looking somewhat downcast, she greets him. He asks if something is wrong as she doesn't seem well. But with a smile on her face, the woman says she's fine and invites him to go in together. The hall was large and luxurious. Now is the entry known as the trading hour. The place was used for networking, relaxation, and recreation. The auction would take place later, and they were supposed to eat something first. However, someone catches the girl's attention. A group of 3 people asks her why she hadn't told them she would be coming and remarks how incredible it was that she had arrived there. Among them, a jealous one comments that the Zhu family could no longer protect themselves. Grabbing her friend's arm, she tells him to ignore them and leave. He asks what happened to her family, but she only says her grandfather would handle everything and reminds him he was the guest. He decides it's a family matter, and since she didn't want to talk about it, he had no further questions. At that moment, Roos calls the young man, asking why he was there. The young man returns the question, while Zixuan, impressed by the other woman's beauty, leaves them alone. Approaching the young man, she asks who the other woman was and what their relationship was. He says she helped him clear the way and asks what she was doing there since she didn't have money, wondering if she was there for the drinks or the food. She replies that she wanted to improve the quality of the food but was still unemployed and had received an invitation. She then asks him how much he had brought, to which he responds 90 million. In disbelief, the woman asks if he was joking. This wasn't a simple auction, and the people behind it shouldn't be underestimated, as there were martial artists who would kill quickly. Seeing the young man's lack of interest, she asks if he wasn't surprised, and he starts joking about the situation, saying he was scared. Realizing he was joking, the woman says she hated him. Still trying to warn him, she comments that on the surface, the strongest family was Jingcheng, but in reality, there were even stronger ones. It was the mysterious martial arts family. The people behind this auction were the Jin family of martial arts. There were 2 sessions. The first was for antiques and paintings for the general public. The second was for martial arts items worth at least 100 million. So according to the woman, he wouldn't have enough money for the alchemy furnace. Chen asks if he could auction off his own item. She says yes, since he didn't have enough money, he could go to the special appraiser's office upstairs and try his luck. He thinks that based on King's reaction, there probably weren't many alchemists in the city or even in Huaxia, so that pill should fetch a good price. Deciding to check it out, he heads toward the office. At the appraiser's office, people were gambling and the appraiser was telling someone to pay him with laughter, as they had bet 10 million on him. At the table, men and women were playing and began arguing over the stakes when the young man arrived. Ken thinks they were playing mahjong and betting, as it was 10 million per hand. The man notices the young man. He asks what the other was doing there, and if he wanted to identify an item. Yi takes the pill, saying he would like to auction it. The man then takes the pill from the young man's hand, saying it smells like an elixir, but he doesn't know how good it is. Around him, everyone else starts commenting on the object, unable to believe it is real. But the appraiser says he needs to take a closer look, grabbing a magnifying glass. Looking closely, the man says it has a cinnabar mark, meaning it is not a simple pill, but an elixir. After the man's statement, everyone starts panicking, asking to see it up close and trying to grab it at all costs. He says it has a pattern, the aroma is strong, and the lines are clear, as if it had just been made. He begins to wonder if some alchemist had appeared. People start bombarding him with questions about where it came from, who his teacher is, and if he is an alchemist. Seeing all the chaos, Chen wonders if there are no alchemists present and if he is truly the last one in Huaxia. Looking at the appraiser, he says he is not comfortable talking about it and suggests letting the people behind him speak. The man asks him to follow. Upon reaching the place, the man tells someone that they have guests. The woman asks them to approach. When they reach her, the appraiser says the young man wants to auction an elixir. She asks if he is sure. To prove it, he hands her the pill. Taking the object and examining it closely, she says it is indeed an elixir and appears to have been made in less than a month, which is impossible. Bidding farewell, the appraiser says he cannot participate further and will excuse himself. Leaving them alone, the woman tells the young man to sit wherever he likes. She introduces herself as Jin Lengyan and asks for his name. Shen introduces himself and says formalities are unnecessary. Then he asks if his elixir can go to auction. Jin thinks about the entire process of making an elixir and how much time it takes. However, that one didn't take long, but with a smile, she asks how much he wants to auction it for. He asks her to take all the ones he has and sell all 5 elixirs, leaving her surprised. Because with such numbers, the young man must be the true alchemist behind them. The woman says that if he sells the 5 pills, the value could reach 1 billion. However, as they are rare, it is better to sell one at a time. He asks how much she wants for the other 4, as he only wants a price he is satisfied with. Lenjin thinks they could make a fortune just by stocking potions and selling them slowly. Then she looks at the young man, praising him. Handing him a card, she says it contains $1 billion and the password is the last number on the card. It is not enough to buy the other 4. But from that day on, the Jin family owes him a favor. No matter what it is, the family will be there to help him. Chen takes the card, pensive. The woman thinks the young man and the alchemist behind him are precious and plans to use that opportunity to meet him in the future. He comments that the price is acceptable and that the auction is about to start, so he will go first. She hands him a card. He takes it and asks what it means. Jin comments that lone auctioneers like him usually prefer to hide their identity. He thinks about how she might discover who he is. Leaving, he agrees with her. She tells him to take care. The young man leaves and the door closes. The woman thinks that based on how he acts, the other is indeed a former martial artist, but she doesn't know how strong he is. Picking up her phone, she asks for help investigating the owner of the pills. The auction begins with many people present. Rux asks his colleague if he managed to get enough money. He says $1 billion is enough and Zixuan, next to him, is surprised. She says that even the other didn't believe him and that while it is true his recipes are worth a fortune, they are not worth $1 billion. As she speaks, the auctioneer starts announcing the first item, a jewel called Tears of Stars. The jewel is a necklace with a green stone, which enchants Xia. It was the last work of a jeweler from Jiangsheng City, but it was only half finished. It is said Dame wanted to complete it and give it to his granddaughter but couldn't. After its theft, the jewel passed through several countries until arriving there. The starting bid is 60 million, and each bid cannot exceed 2 million. Around the girl, everyone starts bidding, from 65 to 71 million. Rose laments finding her grandfather's necklace at that moment and apologizes for not being able to buy it. She explains that unless she cuts ties with her family, even if the Huami group were sold, she would sell it, but she has nothing now and apologizes to her grandfather. The young man notices her despair and looks at the identity card he received. On the other side, Jin wonders if the young man is crazy for paying so much for a necklace without any aura. If he doesn't have money, he shouldn't be extravagant. He believes the man wants to gift it to a woman, but he doesn't care since it's not his money. The prices around the necklace begin to rise, reaching 90 million. One of the men bids 96 million to get the necklace. Others may not know, but he knows that the woman is the granddaughter of the Xia family and has influence linked to the necklace. This way he could win her heart influence if he bids 140 million to buy it. However, an anonymous bidder offers 200 million, leaving him shocked. Now he wants to know who this man is. The auctioneer says the bidder didn't want his name revealed and that the organizer called on his behalf. He questions how someone could pay 200 million for a piece of jewelry and accuses the staff of interfering with the auction. He only has 140 million. Lenjin appears in the hall, asking who is questioning her family. The man behind the event is from the Jin family, a martial arts family. Other men comment that the young man will be in trouble and that it was inevitable. The bidder starts trembling and stuttering, trying to justify himself. The woman says the family's reputation must not be dishonored and orders him to be taken out with his arms and legs broken. Crying, he begs for forgiveness, stating that he is Q Minkai and they cannot do this to him. But his pleas are ignored. From that point onward, the Chu family will no longer be allowed to participate in the auction or he will be killed. Others comment on the audacity of the Jin family and say he deserved it for provoking a martial arts family, emphasizing that no one could compare to them. After the commotion, the auctioneer announces that this is the final chance or the necklace will be sold for 200 million. He thinks he will do whatever it takes to get his hands on the Tears of the Star, no matter who buys it. The gavel falls and the jewel is sold. Afterward, the woman announces that the auction will move to the second stage, and for various reasons, the final item will no longer be the Bako tripod and asks for everyone's understanding. To begin, the first item in the second stage of the auction is a golden linen cloth. The opening bid is 90 million. The sale of items continues. Lot 7 is a sword with an initial bid of 150 million and various other bids are made. Zixuan, astonished, comments that each item auctioned is worth an enormous amount of money. There is also a secret kung fu manual, which is a significant discovery. Upon hearing this, Chen remarks that it's just trash. He reflects that piles of trash are being fought over like madmen. This is the difference between worlds. Martial arts masters consider themselves superior, but in this place, they are insignificant. On stage, the most important item of the event is announced: a Beko tripod. Jin explains that it is a Beko tripod of 100 herbs, accidentally acquired by the family. It can be used for medicinal purposes and as a collectible. The starting bid is 300 million. Ken comments that it's interesting as the value of the object is even higher than expected. The bids rise from 350 to 430 million. At that moment, the woman's phone starts beeping. When she looks at it, there is a message from the man instructing her to get the object at any cost. If his guess is correct, this tripod is precisely what alchemists have been seeking. In the audience, one of the men bids 450 million. Everyone starts commenting about the Jiang family, their power, and how no one can compete with them without facing significant problems. She sends Yi a message warning him that the man is Jiang Wenlin and advising him not to provoke him. She suggests giving up the object and not trying to compete. The only thing the young man replies is that she should get the tripod. Jin remarks that he sold his elixir for 1 billion and made a great profit, so he will assist him. Then he announces that an anonymous bidder has offered 500 million, leaving Jiang Wenlin intrigued. Around him, everyone is impressed that someone dared to challenge Jiang Wenlin and comments that the person will probably not survive the night. Jiang Wenlin then bids 530 million. 550 million is his maximum bid for the object, confident that no one will offer more. However, the anonymous bidder offers 700 million, leaving him shocked and furious. The young man wonders if the bidder is trying to provoke his family, as the price is far higher than the Beko's actual value. Angrily, he slams his hand on the chair. Standing up, he shouts that he doesn't care who the person is, but since they provoked his family, he will find them and make them regret it. The woman just watches the scene unfold. However, she begins to announce the price of 700 million to finalize the sale. Since no one made another bid, the item was sold. Ken thinks that now he can finally expand his kingdom quickly. Then the woman and the appraiser appear to announce an invaluable item, which will be the last of the auction. Revealing the pill, they both declare that it is a real elixir. In the audience, everyone starts commenting that the legend says an elixir can heal wounds and rapidly increase cultivation levels. The starting price is 400 million, and any price increase cannot exceed 20 million. The bids rise from 500 to 680 million. Rooks is intrigued by how much money it is worth, as it is the first time she has seen such a crazy auction. After some time, the auction concludes and everyone is invited to dinner and to have fun. He looks to the side, intrigued. He wonders how Jiang Weilin would feel knowing the elixir was made by the person who stole his tripod. At that moment, his phone buzzes. It's Jin, telling him to come to her because her father wants to compensate him after hearing about him. Rooks asks to leave and questions why he didn't buy anything when he had 1 billion. He says he didn't like anything. Zixuan and she can chat as he's heading to the restroom. He begins to wonder what kind of compensation he would receive from Jin Lengyan. Some time later at the Millennium Hotel, the woman's father gave him a card with 15 million as compensation, saying they sold the elixir at a loss and the family's offer of help still stands. Taking the card, Chen says he is not there for the money, but to get the tripod. The woman tells him to give his number and address and someone will deliver it that night. He asks if he will stay for dinner, as her father would like to invite him. However, he responds that it is unnecessary. She is surprised, but the young man comments that he doesn't want to, as his friends at home already made dinner, and he's not used to eating out. At that moment, he bids farewell. The woman thinks the boy doesn't understand that her father wants to save him because he offended the Jiang family without any powerful backing to protect him. Unfortunately, her family gave him a chance and he didn't appreciate it, so he can't be blamed if something goes wrong. In the monitoring room on the 5th floor, a man stands with several others on the ground. They were all attacked. Wellen comments that he never expected to receive something so unexpected. It is a pure elixir, completely different from his family's. The man next to him says that based on the elixir's pattern, the exact refinement time must be 10 days. He wonders where the Jin family got all that and if they are so willing to auction such a good elixir, whether they are controlling some force. The other remarks that if true, they will soar to a level higher than his family's. Another person appears, commenting to the young man about the security cameras. Pointing to the camera footage, he notes that Lengyan only met one man, so he could be the buyer of the tripod and the supplier of the elixir. Irritated, the young man remarks on how he dared to take his family's belongings. In a threatening tone, he comments that he doesn't know if he even knows how to spell the word north. Outside, Zixuan bids farewell to the two. However, Chen asks her to wait. He begins to think that with her wealth, the woman always expected a driver and now she has to take a taxi. Approaching her, he asks what happened to her family. Embarrassed, the girl says nothing happened. With that, he asks for her phone and she hands it over. He starts typing his number. Handing the phone back, Chen tells her to call him if she needs anything, and he will help if he can. Zhuren helped him a lot, so he wouldn't do nothing if the family was in trouble. After that, bidding farewell, he says he will leave first. Careful, the girl thanks him. Smiling, Sei asks why she calls him young master, as it's too formal. The young man remarks that it makes him feel old. On the way, he notices something. When he stops walking, the woman asks what's wrong. He comments that he'd like to have some coffee, so he asks the girl to go order and wait for him. She asks what he will do while she waits. He says he's going to the restroom and will pay for her. But Rook says there's a restroom at the coffee shop and he says it's not strong enough. Frightened, she wonders what he meant by that. Out of her sight, Chen begins to remove his tie, commenting that he's a man of principles and then all threats will be crushed. After some time, he arrives at the top of a building. Jang is singing when his companion comments that the young man seems to have noticed them. The young man says he doesn't care and then thinks he could take the woman with him for some fun. However, before he realizes it, he feels a hand touching his hair, greeting him. Master Mei comments that it's an attack without martial virtue, and since it was against his young master, the attacker will die, assuming a fighting stance. As he charges at the young man, the latter moves away from the boy to counterattack him. Master Mei is surprised, unable to dodge, and ends up taking a punch to the face. Jang is shocked because his master was half a step into Hua Jin. He wonders how they could kill him in the blink of an eye. Ken lands a decisive blow on Master Mei and then turns to Jiang Wenlin, provoking him by saying it's his turn. Disoriented, Jiang asks if the young man understands the consequences of killing his servant. As Chen walks toward his opponent, he tells him to kneel and beg to become his dog. Wenlin tries to negotiate, saying he could spare his life and ensure a prosperous future, but at that moment he receives a fatal strike to the forehead. After delivering the blow, Chen asks the person hiding how long they plan to just watch. Then Jin Qian from the Jin family approaches, apologizing and introducing herself. She notices the man is 10 times stronger and wonders if she can protect him. The woman tells Chen that the lady identified that the security room was breached and sent her to assist him. Chen asks if the lady is Jin Langyan, then compliments her, saying she's impressive, but that he prefers no one to interfere in his life. The young man turns to the woman and leaves the scene, saying she should return and report the situation to Langyan. The woman agrees and says she will do as instructed. However, she calls out to him, saying she has something to inform him, and he lets her proceed. Qian explains that the powerful young man must be of Grandmaster rank. However, the Jiang family is more powerful, and its leader, Jiang Baogo, ranks 514 on the Huaxia Grandmaster list. She informs him that Jiang Baogo is Jiang Wenlin's father, and that killing him will bring enormous trouble for the young man. Ken wonders what this list is and how there are over 500 people more powerful than Jiang Baogo. In his mind, he realizes that the ancient martial arts of Huaxia are not as simple as he imagined. He then turns to leave again, thanking the young woman for the information. The young man believes that for the safety of Sun Yi and Xia Ruoxia, Wenlin cannot remain alive. The woman receives a call from the lady who informs her that Jiang Wenlin is dead. Shortly after, in the dead of night, the lady goes to the battle site and finds the bodies and the woman. At that moment, she confirms that Jiang Wenlin is indeed dead. Lengjin thinks that the boy's death will make Baogo furious and asks if all of them were killed by Yi Chen without any resistance. The woman responds affirmatively, adding that the servant was close to Hua Jin, confirming that only a grandmaster could cause such destruction. The lady reflects that Chen, working alongside an alchemist, killing Wenlin could bring drastic changes to Jiancheng. She orders her support team to make the bodies disappear and clean the entire battle area. Additionally, she instructs that all evidence must be erased and that whoever disposes of the bodies should be eliminated. Still panicked, she considers that the situation could spiral out of control and that if the Jiang family learns about Chen, she will no longer be able to take any action. Meanwhile, in the Metropolis apartments, a seafood delicacy dinner is served to Chen, Ruoxu, and Yi. Kexia asks her friend why she isn't eating and if she has no appetite. The other replies that she's just not very hungry. The young man asked Yi Lingshan about the famous Jiang family list, but discovered it's more complicated than he imagined. He thinks that this isn't the main issue yet, and that the ancient martial arts system in Huaxia doesn't make any sense since there's no realm above Grandmaster. Indeed, there's a difference between the strong and the weak among Grandmasters. One cannot determine their true level except by battling strong masters. At that moment, if Chen were to fight Baogo, he would still have no idea what his level was, as there was no level division in the Grandmaster's realm. Sun Yu informs the young man that Xia has a birthday the next day and asks if he prepared a gift. He simply responds that nowadays gifts aren't necessary, and it's easier to send 250 red envelopes. Roos asks if he's sure about sending 250, and he, embarrassed, asks if the correct number is 520. He asks him if their relationship has progressed that far for him to send 520, and the young man corrects himself, saying that sending 502 shouldn't be a problem. At that moment, the young man receives a message, and when he picks up his phone, he sees a text from Zixuan asking him to save her grandfather. On a sunny day in the Zhu family courtyard, Chen arrives and is greeted by several uniformed guards. He notices that even just at the entrance, he can see 3 long-distance shooters ready to fire. The young man wonders what happened to the Zhu family and how they got involved with the military. Chen starts reasoning and realizes that the only way to enter is through connections. So he pulls out his phone and calls Bailey Bing. Inside, several men were gathered. He wondered why no one had shown up yet. At that moment, Lu Zhengo approaches, saying that Bailey informed him he would be coming. Ken apologizes for troubling him. Taking his wallet out of his pocket, he presents it to the officer, asking if his rank is sufficient to enter. They confirm it is, saluting him. Sometime later, inside the headquarters, Zhu Zixuan, worried, tells her grandfather that she had to ask for help, but he says that wasn't the issue. He tells her to spare herself as it's already over and there's no need to call anyone. Chen appears at that moment, saying that's not necessarily true. The old man asks his granddaughter why she called the young man wasting his time. She says he's the most powerful person she knows. He asks the man what happened. He apologizes for the trouble and says he'll handle it himself. The woman explains that a few days ago, someone asked her grandfather for medicine, but it was poisoned. Her granddaughter insists that her grandfather selects all the medicines and checks them multiple times. There's no way they were poisoned. Yi says there's no reason for her family to poison anyone, so someone else might have swapped it, and he asks how the poisoned person is. Zhu says the person is in the hospital, and that if anything happens to him, not only will their family be destroyed, but the province will also be implicated. The young man asks to be taken there as long as the person is breathing. He can save them. Shocked, the man asks if he can save him as martial arts masters are good at killing, not saving lives. He comments that this is their last chance, so he will take him there. At a certain hospital, the light in the operating room is on. The soldiers are waiting at the door. Suddenly, the commander appears, telling everyone to step aside. Noticing the commotion, the man with the others realizes Zhu Ren is there and is startled. He rushes toward him, asking how he could be there after what he did to his father and saying he will kill him right there. Before he can land a hit, a hand stops him. Chen says that until the person in the operating room wakes up, he has no right to do anything. With just one move, he pushes the man aside. The commander, nursing his injured hand, says the man is there because he has a specialist on his side, but he won't be able to protect his family. At that moment, the operating room door opens. Two doctors come out with somber expressions. He asks them how his father is. Sadly, the doctor says the poison spread through the man's body, and they did everything they could. Getting close to him and grabbing him by the collar, the man starts calling him garbage. He walks past them, entering the operating room saying that the other does nothing but yell, it is complete garbage. He yells at the young man, telling him to stop. Liu tells them to let the boy try to save his father, and that if it doesn't work, he will go to court-martial himself. The other agrees, but thinks that if it goes wrong, Bailey won't be able to protect him and believes the man has always been careful, so it's a possibility he has some skill. Sometime later inside the room, the old man's body is on the stretcher, the purple spots all over. This man has a strong will to live. If it were anyone else, they would have died, but this old man is still breathing. Ken thinks he is lucky they met. Taking a pill, the young man crushes it in his hand. Using his power, he begins to manipulate it. As it breaks apart, the young man throws it to heal the old man. The power flows directly to the marks on his body. 5 minutes pass. Pleased, the young man thinks the poison has disappeared, and soon he will wake up. But it was still the body of an old man. Turning to leave, he comments that he has done a good deed for the country. Before leaving, he hears someone calling for the doctor and turns around startled. The old man is awake looking at him. Chen thinks it happened quickly. Rising from the stretcher, the old man asks the young man to tell him his name. Yi replies that he only saved him for someone else and not for him and asks him to remember 2 things. The first is that the poisoning was not the Zhu family's fault and he should resolve that matter. The second is that the poison he suffered from was chronic and consuming it for another month would make it impossible for outsiders to have caused it. It was time to clean up internal issues. After the man thanks him, Chen leaves, leaving everyone surprised. The old man's son appears, saying he believed Chen was a good person but accuses him of playing around as he was only inside for 8 minutes. At that moment, his father appears at the door, telling him to stop, leaving his son stunned. The doctors are also shocked to see him, and one asks if they are dreaming when they see their patient standing. Smiling, the man comments that if it weren't for the young man, they could have prepared his coffin and concludes that he unexpectedly met a miraculous doctor. His son, moved, begins to apologize and call it a miracle. However, the young man had disappeared without them noticing. The man calls Zhu Ren, apologizing and saying that his family was innocent and that his son made a mistake. He apologizes for the confusion caused to everyone. Yu responds that everything is fine and there's no need to apologize as he doesn't deserve it. Getting closer to the man, he tries to obtain some information about Yi. The man says Yi is a friend of his family but doesn't like being disturbed. Zhu thinks that's how it is. At the Jiang family home, the patriarch is heading to see the bodies of his son and master. Furious, he asks who dared to kill his son. His other son explains that the investigation is progressing, but all they know is that Wenlin was at an auction and that his tripod was taken by someone else. Shortly after, he was found dead. Babu orders an investigation into everyone who attended that event. He vows to find the killer, even if it means searching the entire city. He wants the killer dead and to see those around him die one by one. That same night, Yichen is walking down the street when his phone rings. Noticing it's Shen Huahua, he asks if something has happened. Shen says the Tianzing group matters have been resolved and asks how they should choose him, adding that by the next day, the news would spread. Smiling, the young man says there's no need to hide his name. Let everyone in Jiangcheng know. Ending the call, he says he needs to head back. Sometime later at the villa, a delivery man arrives to hand over the tripod and necklace, asking the other to check them. Chen comments that they are not bad and thinks the object will allow them to make pills with 100 times more efficiency. Nervously, the delivery man approaches him, saying his lady instructed him to warn that the Jiang family is pressuring everyone from the auction and will reach him soon. The lady arranged a private jet to take him to Sanya, to a property they own, but the young man thanks him and says he won't go. Instead, he will face them. The delivery man is shocked by his words, wondering how he plans to confront the family directly. Chen tells him to leave as he has his own plans for the Jiang family. Looking at the tripod, he decides to create the blue spirit pill and see how it works. Taking the herbs beside him, he prepares to use them. He throws them into the tripod, channeling his powers. Using fire, he burns them. There are 9 levels of elixirs, each divided into 9 tiers. The higher the level, the more patterns, and the better the elixir's effect. The blue spirit pill is a 3rd level elixir used to refine spiritual energy and accelerate cultivation, but he's unsure if he can achieve the patterns using that baikao. At that moment, a strong light emerges from the tripod. Shielding himself, the young man thinks he succeeded. A blue spirit pill spirit appears, leaving him excited. He calls it to himself, taking it in his hand. It is a level 3 pill with 7 patterns of excellent quality. At first, he thought he could only make a level 3 pill with 3 patterns, but it exceeded his expectations as the herbs he used weren't of high quality, so he hadn't expected much. It could be because of that tripod. If he's correct, everything happened because the tripod increased the efficiency of the herbs he was using. That's what happened. It seems like he made a good deal. No matter where the tripod is placed, it's still a treasure. This time, he made a profit. Now it's time to practice, so he puts the pill in his mouth. At that moment, an explosion occurs around his body. He tries to understand what's happening. It's time to push further, so he assumes the meditation position. The crystal in his chest appears. Then it rises and hovers above his head. After some time, another explosion occurs. The energy courses through his body. Yet another explosion happens. The 6th level of the Enlightenment realm is achieved. Feeling the energy throughout his body, he notices the effects are good and excited. Talks about making alchemy. It was already morning and the young man was still with a tripod. In one night, he literally crossed 2 minor realms and wonders how a blue spirit pill with 7 patterns could have such an effect. Looking at the crystal above his head, he wonders if that could be the cause. He picks up the stone in his hand. After holding it, it feels different than before, so he decides to go to the reincarnation tombs to take a look around. Ken finds himself once again among the tombs. Liu Yunshin's tomb is surrounded by a blue light. Approaching the tomb, he wonders if he can see something different since his realm improved. Now he feels that he can move the tombstone at any moment and Yunshin would appear. At the same time, he can also feel that Yunshin would only appear once and the tombstone would be destroyed right after. It's a valuable card that should be used as a last resort. Meanwhile, at a certain apartment, Sunyi screams in surprise as she looks at her phone. Coming out of the shower, Xirux asks what happened, and her friend shows her the phone. On it is a news article stating that the Tianjin group, which had disappeared 5 years ago, has returned. The group was founded by Yi Chen's father but vanished for unknown reasons. Now it's back. The girls continue reading the news until they see that the group's legal representative is the young man. Amazed, the girl asks if it's the same boy they know and if he really started a company. Then she wonders if it's all to confront his mother. At the Chu family building, a meeting is taking place. Chu Ran reads the news, wondering how that could have happened. The man comments that the investigation results have been released and the person registered as the legal entity of the Tianjin group is Yi Chen. On the screen behind him, his photo is displayed. The woman is shocked to recognize him, saying he turned the Yi family's scum into ancient martial artists. He explains that the group's appearance isn't terrifying. What's terrifying is that it was built on Qing. The leader of the group died a few days ago, as did everyone in his sect. Angrily, he stands up, saying that the Tianjin group was built on a pile of corpses. Such strength represents a threat to the Chu family. They need to identify the leader. She is completely speechless. The man tells the girl he almost forgot that the boy was interested in her back then, but he wasn't worthy of the Chu family. He suspects someone is controlling him. Another person arrives, saying that according to recent news, Shen Huahua is behind Yi. The entire family was built by him, but he had cancer and somehow survived. Someone else comments that it seems absurd for him to dare use the Tianjin group's name. They want to see how he plans to start a business since no one in their right mind would support it. At the Xia residence, a woman comments that the young man is dreaming if he thinks this will shake her family. It seems he needs to be informed about reality. She then instructs Xiajun to send a message to the other families, stating that anyone who supports Tianjin will become an enemy of the Xia family. He thinks his mistress is trying to destroy the group with her authority. The other group would be in a state of flux, and even the Ming and Haihua groups would be involved. Ken is inside a house and training room, practicing when he's interrupted by a call from Shen Haihua. Answering the phone, he asks what happened, and the man informs him that the Xia and Chu families have released statements to block the group. He adds that the Jiangqing, Zhao, and Wan families encouraged it, and no one dares to attend the opening the next day because it would offend those families. He responds that this was expected, and the other says that if things continue this way, no one will work for them. He suggests opening at another time. The young man asks why they should change and says they can boycott all they want. He'll take care of things, and the Tianjin group's opening will be fantastic. In his thoughts, Chen reflects that the initial steps have been taken and that Yi Lingshan is eager to show off, but he is more useful working in the shadows. Rove asks the alchemist where he has been for the past 2 days, and Yai questions him about owning the Tianjin group. Ken replies that the company belonged to his father, so he is the heir. The girl approaches him and apologizes for not knowing her mother would use the Xia family to try to stop the group. She explains that she called several times to negotiate but was unsuccessful, and acknowledges that Chen worked hard to elevate his business but was hindered by Xia, blaming herself for it. The young man reassures her, saying it wasn't her fault and that if she really feels guilty, she could kiss him on the cheek to make him feel better. She then kisses him, leaving Sun jealous and wondering if they had that kind of relationship. Chen says he feels fine now and tells them not to worry, as everything will be fine the next day. The following day, under a bright sun, at the entrance of the building, Haivuwa stands at the start of the opening and is unsurprised to find no one there. Feeling dejected, he looks to the skies and says that at least Yi should have shown up so he wouldn't feel like the only embarrassed one. Zhao Yuqing approaches, surprising him. The man starts by saying he knew the other would show up due to their 10-year-long friendship and extends his hand for a handshake, but receives a slap on it instead. Enraged, Haivuwa tells him not to blame him for not warning him and says helping the Yi family would bring no good. At that moment, Chen appears, greeting both and thanking Shen for his hard work. Even more infuriated, Yuqing asks if Shen has a problem and comments that he's giving too much respect to a loser. Haivuwa tells him that he came to provide support and sincerely thanks him, but if he's here to insult, he should leave immediately. Yuqing says he tried to persuade his friend not to do this, but he insists on getting involved. He warns that if he doesn't stop, the 3 projects he's working on will be cancelled. The two stand face to face, angry at each other, and Shen says he doesn't care about the money, while his friend declares he will be killed by enemy families. After the argument, Yuqing turns around and leaves. Shen tells Chen that this is the current situation and that none of the people he contacted showed up at the event. He then asks what they should do. Yi says it's alright and that everything will turn out fine. Yuqing approaches a building and upon seeing Mrs. Chu, reports that it's nearly 9 a.m. and no one has shown up at the event. He explains that small or large companies in Jiangcheng wouldn't get involved because doing so could put them at risk of death. The determined woman wonders how the young man will get out of such a dangerous situation. In the Zhao family province, Patriarch Zhao Zheng is practicing. Meanwhile, 2 other Jiangcheng city officials and his son watch with some apprehension. Approaching them, the patriarch comments that time is running out. His son replies that the Tianjin group has already opened, but no one has shown up, making their intent to boycott evident. Zheng remarks that the group is being boycotted just because big families are in the area and asks what they did wrong. The nervous officials respond that the group has done nothing wrong, so they will find a way to fix the problem. They are surprised by the patriarch's questioning and feel uneasy about the possibility that the Tianjin group might have his support. He asks the 2 how they plan to resolve this situation while standing still, prompting them to rush out. Fu Liu asks if Chen is really that valuable and points out that supporting that group could damage their relationship with the Xia family. The patriarch asks how he still hasn't learned to judge people correctly. He states that on the day he fought the young man, he confirmed that Chen was a martial arts master. He noticed Chen's martial skills and miraculous healing abilities, wondering how someone with such a humble background could be a genius. The patriarch comments that today is the day to choose sides, and in the future, they might not have the opportunity to make a choice. Placing a hand on his son's shoulder, he says the Xia family may have financial power, but their family has absolute power and will never lose. Fu Liu responds that he understands and that everything is ready to begin. At the opening of the Tianjin group precisely at 9 a.m., the red carpet was empty, except for its founders. Several reporters mocked the group's situation, noting that no one had appeared, while imagining funny headlines about the incident. Mrs. Chu, from a distance, said it made no sense to stay there since no one would show up, and she told Yuqing they should leave. At that moment, Sun Yi and Xia Rux from the Xia family arrived and walked down the red carpet. The woman became furious, wondering why the 2 were present, given that her family was trying to bring down the Tianjin group. The reporters began praising the 2 women, taking numerous photos. The 2 approached Chen, and the blonde said she risked being fired for being there, while Yi asked him if he wasn't impressed. The young man replied that he felt grateful. In his thoughts, he wondered why they had come, thinking they would only draw attention, but he still felt appreciative. They walked past Chen, and Yi said they would stay in the back because more people were coming. At that moment, a black Audi arrived. Du Yi, the #1 in Jiangcheng and the person in charge of the royal club, stepped out. The reporters, shocked, wondered if the gentleman was there to support the event. They speculated that if someone as influential as Du Yi supported the Tianjin group, no one would dare oppose it. Haivuwa was stunned that Du Yi had come in person and wondered what Chen had done to achieve this. Master Yi approached the young man and congratulated him, saying that the Tianjin group would undoubtedly have great fortune and success in the future. The young man thanked him. Yi commented that the leaders of the 4 Jiangxin clans had to bow and pay their respects when they saw Du Yi, and Roos wondered how Chen managed to invite him. Yuqing asked Chu if they were seeing things correctly, that Du Yi was supporting the Tianjin group, and the woman simply said she didn't know. She began to wonder what the young man had done on the day they were at the Royal Club. At that moment, 2 luxury cars arrived at the venue. The cars had license plates numbered 01 and 02, leaving the reporters astonished, as those numbers belonged to the number 1 and 2 figures in Jiangxing. The cameramen were equally surprised, questioning if this was really happening, as it seemed impossible. Then the numbers 1 and 2 stepped out of the cars and walked down the red carpet, leaving the surrounding crowd in shock, wondering how the Tianjin group managed to invite them. A military armored vehicle approached the event, and the cameraman said it was the Huaxia military force, which performs combat missions, and wondered what they were doing there. From the vehicle, Lu Zhengo stepped out, leaving everyone questioning the group's origins, as it had enough influence to invite the military force. People began commenting that with so much power gathered, the 4 Jiangxing families would be nothing. Another white luxury car arrived at the venue, prompting everyone to wonder who it might be. Figya stepped out of the car and demanded to know how they dared disobey the family's warning. She then instructed her guards to look for them. Director Sun, exiting the car, contacted his informant to find out who was at the event. The woman asked if he had checked and told him to report back. He responded that present at the event were Du Yi, Lu Zhengo with military support, and also the number 1 and 2 figures of Jiangxing. There were rumors that the person behind Du Yi was the king of Jiangnan, and behind Lu Zhengo was the regional military commander-in-chief, Bailey Shan. He added that he wasn't sure if it was the intention of those at the event, but the influence came from those backing them. The woman remarked that King Jiangnan and Bailey Shan wouldn't concern themselves with small companies, and that Chen didn't have the qualifications to associate with them. But despite that, he managed to invite Du Yi and Lu Zhengo, proving that the Tianjin group was quite capable, and she had underestimated Chen. She stated that anyone disobeying the Xia family would face consequences, and that since they couldn't touch Yi or Zhengo, they would punish the number 1 and 2 figures of Jiangxing. The man accepted her orders. She then instructed him to prepare some items, as she intended to deliver a gift to the Tianjin group. The reporters wondered why the Xia family was there, and if they were supporting the event or scared by what they had witnessed. The woman approached Chen and said he was young and talented, adding that she had wanted to deliver a vase of flowers to them, but unfortunately, the shop was closed. However, she decides to present another gift and removes the cloth covering the present the director was carrying. The gift is revealed to be a Sankai Tongze. The cameramen are surprised that the Xia family did not back down and comment that it's a taboo to give such a gift at the opening of a business. The girls are irritated by the audacity of the woman to present something believed to bring bad luck to the recipient. Kaxia asks Ruoxu if she considers herself part of the Xia family and how she had the courage to side with a foreigner. Frustrated, the woman asks the director why he is there since he never comes to work. She then fires him. Sun Ye angrily appears, stating that she doesn't care who works at the broken Xia family company and that she won't follow their orders. The woman becomes irritated by the girl's words and orders Sun to teach her a lesson. The man charges at the girl with a punch. Chen intervenes, blocking the attack, and warns that he doesn't mind shedding blood if they touch her. Amid the commotion, a distant voice laughs and says the Xia family is indeed very powerful. Zhao Fulu approaches, sarcastically asking if the Xia family thinks they can cover the skies with one hand. Du Yi is surprised by Chen's influence in being able to invite him. Yi asks the young man how he knows Zhao, as he is such an important figure, and Chen replies that they had met before and almost had a fight. Fulu approaches the group, congratulating Chen on the opening of the company, and Chen responds that there's no need for such politeness. The opposing man coldly stares at Sun and questions if he was trying to give the young man a Sankai Tongzi, leaving Sun in shock. Then the military man slaps the gift. The director cannot withstand the force, and the object falls to the ground, shattering completely. The woman flies into a rage and demands to know how the military man dares to touch a gift from the Xia family and whether he acted on his own or on behalf of the Zhou family. Another distant voice calmly asks if Fulu does not represent the Zhao family, approaching the group. An elderly man steps forward and asks if it is necessary for him to take charge of the situation. She is shocked and wonders how he is there. Zhao reveals that Chen is his friend and that if the Xia family does anything against him, the Zhao family will take action, unless her husband has the courage to make enemies of them. In despair, the woman thinks that she doesn't care about the Jiangxing Municipal Committee, Du Yi, or Zhengo, but she cannot do anything against the Zhou family. The Xia family is a business-focused group and cannot compete on any level with the Zhao family, which wields immense power. The leader acknowledges her disadvantageous position and lets out a sound of disapproval. She orders Director Sun to follow her and both leave the scene. Chen thanks Zhao for the elder's generous act, and Zhao responds that it was Chen who brought him back to life, so he has much to be grateful for. Mrs. Chu feels embarrassed as she leaves the scene, thinking that the honored Xia family was defeated by Chen, and that Zhou now fully supports him. She concludes that because of these factors, the Chu family is no longer in a position to interfere with Chen. Yuqing runs toward Chu, begging her not to leave and asking her what he should do. She completely rejects him, kicking him away. The man feels crushed by Chu's dismissal. Determined, he decides there's still hope and quickly gets back on his feet. Yuqing runs toward Haihua, apologizing for everything he did earlier and saying he's willing to share anything Haihua wants to know. Desperate, the man clings to his friend, begging for forgiveness, claiming he treated him like a brother, but had to act as he did because of Chu, who caused all the problems. Haihua kicks him, calling him a villain and questioning how he dares call him a brother. The onlookers begin to laugh at the iconic scene. The man runs off, crying. Smiling, Chen approaches Shen, telling him he did a great job. He then shouts for the celebration to begin. Fireworks light up the sky. Outside, reporters comment on how it's a historic moment with big names present and that the photos will sell for a good price. At that moment, someone began making their way through the crowd. Several uniformed men appeared, claiming to be from national security, stating they had orders to inspect the equipment. At the international airport, some people asked if a movie was being filmed there, while another commented that if it weren't for those clothes, they would look tacky. They were looking at three men, the group Chen Yuan Lai. An older man appeared to greet them. He said they had finally arrived and that his father had prepared a dinner for him. Startled, he wondered how much the other had progressed in his training on Wei Mountain, as his aura was intimidating. When Chen Yuan Lai was the family leader, they were number one, but after he left to train, the position went to the Chu family. If they hadn't been destroyed, he wouldn't have returned. Now he was back full of anger. Jiang Sheng would surely experience a bloodbath. At the hotel, the man invited him for a toast. Jirudong commented that for many years he had only served him. However, the only thing the man asked was what had happened with the investigation into the person who killed his descendant. Jirudong replied that his family was still looking into it. But for some reason, all the information about the day his family died had been erased, making it clear that whoever was responsible had strong backing. The man grew angry, flipped the table, and shouted that he didn't want to hear such nonsense. Desperate, the servant said that although the information was erased, he had managed to find some leads and identified a prime suspect. Showing a photo of Yi Chen, he said that while Yi was a suspect, there wasn't much conclusive evidence. Yuan Li commented that Yi was too young to have killed the martial arts specialist and asked if there was a family backing him. Crumpling the photo and tearing it to pieces, he said that guilty or not, even as a suspect, Yi deserved to die. At the Tianjin Group Tower, in a meeting room, everyone was seated as the leader asked for the thoughts on the group's development. Rux asked how they would develop products without having one, and Shen said that was his biggest concern. Ken suggested investing in interconnected networks, but he noted that alone wouldn't allow them to surpass the Xia Group in half a year. Unconcerned, Chen remarked that they didn't need that or even to discuss investments. They were an industry and needed to become a truly profitable one. Placing a paper on the table, he revealed a new formula for a treatment that would make any woman look 5 years younger. The second formula was for a blood-clotting pill that could extend an elderly person's life by up to 3 years. The men were astonished by the formulas, as they seemed like magic, and no such medicines existed in the world. Shen swore to the truth of the young man's claims, stating that he had done the impossible to save his life. One of them remarked that if it were true, the Tianjin Group would have the best product in the world, surpassing the Xia Group. He stated that he had provided the formulas with 2 requests: mass production and absolute secrecy. If anyone dared leak information, he guaranteed that no one in Jiangsheng would be left alive. Standing up, Shen asked for a 1-month deadline, promising to position the group as a city-shaking force. The young man said he believed in him and urged them to start assigning positions. Sun Yi said she could control the market, and Si thought that with her skills, it wasn't much to ask to be a director. He agreed and entrusted marketing to her. At that moment, the blonde received a message. She was startled to see it was from her father. Chen asked what it was about. She replied that she didn't need a position, only a temporary salary of 10,000 per hour, and that she would try her best for the company. Alone in the room, the young man asked what she meant by temporary employment. He noted that it wasn't unreasonable for her to demand that salary since she was a former CEO of Honmai. Then he asked why she didn't want a role. Embarrassed, she apologized and said she wanted to stay by his side and help him. But she didn't have much time, so she showed him a message from her father saying she couldn't reject the marriage as it would bring dishonor. That night, the girl was in her room, deep in thought. He wondered why she couldn't refuse, as she was a human and not an object. In the morning, Shen and Yi were eating fruit. The young man asked what was going on with her friend. Yi replied that she didn't know since the girl had locked herself in her room since arriving and said nothing when asked. At that moment, her phone rang. It was her aunt, so she asked why the woman was calling her. She grew nervous, telling the woman to calm down and speak more slowly. Standing up, she told the young man it was bad news and asked if he remembered Wang Yuing. Ken confirms, saying yes, because Wang is the son of his uncles. When he was rejected by everyone, Wang was the only one who played with him. Although kind and straightforward, it wasn't an exaggeration to say he was Chen's best friend. His uncle had told him that Wang was studying at Jiangbei University, so he asked the girl if something happened to him. Sun explains that someone beat him and broke one of his hands. The school was locked down and even the ambulance couldn't get in because the person who attacked him was very strong. Ken is surprised but soon becomes furious, declaring that they were asking for death. That same night, the two of them stand in front of the university. The girl approaches the guards and says they are students but forgot their IDs. The guards explain that the school has ordered no one to enter without a student ID. At that moment, Chen touches the fence. Both guards ask him what he is doing. Instantly, the fence begins to bend. Chen throws the fence aside, leaving them terrified. Frightened, they wonder if the young man is even human. Radiating a murderous aura, Chen declares that if anyone touches his wife and son, they will see hell. He promises to save Wang, and if anyone tries to stop him, their legs will be broken. Kneeling on the ground, the guards promise not to interfere and allow him to enter. At Jiangbei University, male dormitory, Block E2, a group of students watches a fight unfold inside the dorm. One boy holds a piece of wood, warning others not to approach, while another is kneeling on the ground being comforted. A crying woman comments that they are animals. Laughing, one of the boys mocks her, saying she called one of them an animal and questioning who she thinks the director is. Another man retorts to Xu that his son's arm is broken, making him an animal incapable of taking care of himself. Enraged, the young man yells that Yu Chidong is nothing but a dog. He then challenges Yu to insult them again, even if it costs his life. Yu taunts him, asking if the boy would kill him even if it meant his own death. Approaching with a bat, Yu threatens to beat him until he's done and see how he retaliates. As Yu charges with the bat, another man steps in to intercept the blow. Already injured, the man begs Yu not to make things worse, offering to call the police. Yu mocks them, gripping his bat tightly. He claims that the other boy's bastard son molested his girlfriend, and even if the police come, he will do the same to the boy. The warden confirms this accusation. The boy protests, saying he didn't commit such an act and that 3 days ago, the madman attempted something against a female student, which he stopped. He accuses Yu of making false accusations against him. Laughing mockingly, Yu asks rhetorically if he would need to force a woman to do anything. Still laughing, the spiky-haired man points to the girl and tells the accuser to ask her if he forced her to do anything. Injured, she replies that he did not. Everyone laughs at the boy's response, with someone pointing out that the girl looks clearly distressed. No one pays attention to the boy's arguments. Yu swings the bat to attack, but Chen, with black hair, arrives and punches him, breaking the bat and sending Yu's companion flying. Wang thanks Chen and asks how he came. Holding a powerful pill, Chen tells Wang to eat it, saying it will reward him. Wang feels stronger after consuming it, and Chen tells him to leave the rest to him. Some try to stop Chen, but he activates his power. Frightened, the woman is forced to confess the truth, admitting it was all Yu's idea. Chen slaps her and orders her to apologize, which she does. He then proceeds to beat Yu mercilessly. Yu apologizes while being beaten, but Chen does not accept and continues the assault. Yu calls his father and companions, who arrive in a fury and retaliate. Meanwhile, the Supreme Elders discuss Master Zhang and decide to send 4 of their strongest to discipline him and test his strength. After speaking with the purple-haired woman, Chen returns to confront Yu's crew. The men are stunned by his strength and flee in fear. 2 victims rejoice, happy that no one will bully them anymore. Chen hands his notebook to Wang, but before explaining, an urgent call interrupts, and he runs off. A blonde woman is furious with Chen, who retreats to his room to think. He prepares his power, determined to end the men once and for all. Meanwhile, a woman was kidnapped, and luckily, our hero arrived just in time to save her. He grabbed a man by the neck and asked if he was yet another one standing before him. Those watching the scene believe it to be impossible. The girl remarked that although Chen Yuanli's 4 disciples were new masters, they were still at the level of Grand Masters. She said it was impossible for them to have been killed so quickly. The woman decided to run away, but Yi caught up to her and said that she too had to die. Quickly, he touched her face and she was thrown forcefully to the ground. Begging for her life, the woman pleaded with him not to kill her, saying it would bring consequences. Ken said he recognized her as the one who called in by name and gave her a chance to survive, but she didn't value it, and now she had no choice. Afterward, the young man approached the girl and said he had come to save her. The girl was happy to see Ye. He untied her arms, which had been bound. Relieved, she ran toward him, saying she never imagined he would save her. Checking if she could walk, he gave instructions for them to head home. Before leaving, the girl noticed Yi's hand was bleeding and asked what happened. Chen explained that all the kidnappers were dead. The girl was shocked since she had seen the kidnappers' auras and couldn't understand how Yi Chen had defeated them all so easily. She remembered her father saying that the prodigy she would marry would be a martial arts specialist, and if Yi was strong enough, her father might change his mind. Quickly, she wondered why she wanted her father to change his mind and if she wanted to marry Yi Chen. Cassia grabbed the young man's arm, but something caught her attention. Suddenly, he picked her up onto his back and said he would carry her away like that. The girl thanked him, saying she was too lazy to walk on her own. Deep in thought, she reflected on how safe she felt with him. Later, the Jiang family residence was introduced. 2 men observed the painting on the wall. They found it outrageous that the masters couldn't handle a young man, calling it disgraceful. To find a solution, they contemplated Yi Chen's strength, noting he had only been training for 5 years. The bald man asked Chen if they would stick to the plan of summoning the young man for a duel, and the old man confirmed they would. Looking at the painting again, the man said it made him feel uneasy. But he quickly returned to reality when Chen stated they could never lose to the young man. Ruoxu arrived at Sun's house and they asked if she was okay. Desperate, they questioned why she had arrived being carried and if she was hurt. Trying to calm them, she assured them it was just a misunderstanding. Her mother, worried, said that as long as she couldn't defend herself, she should return home immediately. She added that her father was concerned about her situation, but Ruoxu resisted, saying she didn't want to go. Yi intervened, saying he wouldn't allow them to force her into anything. The woman sensed the young man's aura and tried to calm the situation, suggesting that after the birthday celebration, the girl could return home. She tried to convince her daughter, mentioning her grandmother who was old and wanted to spend more time with her. Concerned about her grandmother, Xia considered going back. Quickly, she called for Yi, who told her she could return home and that he would visit her on her birthday. Roxy felt more at ease and said she wouldn't be upset if he couldn't visit her. Reassuring her, he gave her his word. Looking back, the boy warns that he will leave immediately if the man does not agree, giving him only 5 seconds to think. Afraid of losing the opportunity, the man quickly ends up accepting the proposal. Before leaving, he asks the man to inform King that she will look for the boy tomorrow to collect the pills. The man is left very confused because he cannot understand how this boy, who seemed calculative, is giving away pills for free. At that moment, Rui enters the room calling for the officer. He informs that he will certainly accept the challenge, so the man comments that he will ask for the superior's opinion and approve the documents. Then the officer considers the possibility that Chen and Zhang might want to kill him, so they can use the documents to save his life. Already at night in Yi Chen's bungalow, confident, the boy states that the herb cauldron is fantastic because with it he can easily cultivate 200 medicinal pills. Suddenly, his phone starts vibrating. It is Sun Yi, who asks where the boy was and also why he has not returned yet, as it is very late. Replying, the kid says that Hushu followed her mother back home, so he decided to buy a nearby bungalow. In shock, the girl questions how he can afford that. Then he explains that the door is not locked and that she can come over. Suspicious, she warns that she will see with her own eyes if this is really true. 10 minutes pass and she approaches the protagonist's bungalow. Entering the place, she apologizes for disturbing the possible owner and comments that she's a friend of Sun Ye. However, at that moment, the hero is training his skills. Confused, Sun questions whether she saw wrong and if this is really possible in reality. Suddenly, the protagonist demonstrates his skills by placing several falling balls straight into the bag. Smiling, he explains that it was not bad at all, and that he managed to finish in time with that speed. The red-haired girl calls for Yi and asks if this is really his house. Holding the girl's hand, he explains that if she wants, it can also be her house. Nervous, she realizes that this is a very luxurious house with top-quality furniture. Impressed with everything she is seeing, she says that this is a dream house. Without thinking twice, she jumps straight onto the bed, laughing, saying that it is very comfortable and that she does not want to get up now. Getting straight to the point, the boy says that if she liked the house, he can give it to her as a gift and will arrange for the property transfer tomorrow. Completely embarrassed, the girl asks what kind of joke he is playing and questions why he is doing this. Changing her expression entirely, the girl explains that what he owes her is much more than the house. She wonders if he is doing this because of the incident 5 years ago, but feels uncomfortable, thinking she does not need reimbursement. Grabbing his arms, she warns that she is very angry because he has been secretly living in such a luxurious house. Blushing, she says that being selfish is not allowed and that for the sake of fairness, she will also stay here with him. Laughing uncontrollably, she says that there are many rooms in the place and that she will not have to share the bed with Siarux. Leaving the room, the protagonist explains that this is great and that she can do whatever she wants as long as she is happy. After he closes the door, the girl just remains silent, embarrassed by what she just heard. While hugging the pillow, she says that if he is trying to get closer just to repay her, it will not work. Already in the morning on a sunny day, completely exhausted, the boy sighs in relief because he is finally finished. Sun approaches with breakfast and decides to ask what he will give Xia for her birthday, which is the day after tomorrow. Quickly, the protagonist gets up and warns that apparently a certain person is here. It is the redhead, who says he came to pick up the medicinal pills. At that moment, the kid hands over the bag and the redhead says that he is very polite but that he already had breakfast at the base. Irritated, Yi says that these are the 200 medicinal pills he promised and asks if everything is within the agreement or not. The man questions how he could put such precious pills in a plastic bag and asks what will happen if they get contaminated. At that moment, the redhead asks his employee to take them to the container, but the man explains that the container is full. Annoyed, the redhead orders him to throw it away because they can collect it again and questions who will cultivate more medicinal pills. The hero explains that the pills are not fragile and that if there is any problem when storing them in the plastic bag, he will provide new ones later. At that moment, the redhead informs that the officer told him that they will definitely help tomorrow when needed regarding Chen and Zhang. Smiling, the hero simply thanks them for the help. Sometime later at Jiang City's pavilion, a man named Yuan Jingfu appears, a master ranked in the top 400 of the national ranking. The guy next to him feels immense fear and thinks that even with many years, he will never compare to him. Over the past 10 years, Yuan has been active in Jian District, also serving as the vice president of the district's martial arts association. Getting straight to the point, the man comments that he believes the two old men did not invite him just for tea. One of the old men comments that they are merely juniors compared to him and then decides to present him with a gift as a sign of respect. Upon opening the box, he says that it can stabilize the martial arts cultivation realm, so he believes it will be useful to him. The man recognizes the item, saying that it is a 1,000-year-old spiritual blood ginseng and then thanks them for the expensive and generous gift. Laughing, he tells the old man that he might try applying to enter the martial arts association after training for a few more years. At that moment, the bald man mentions that Chen will fight a teenager named Yi Chen in the combat arena tomorrow and asks if Yuan has any advice. Confused, the man comments that he is just a teenager and questions why they lack confidence. Then the old man explains that although the boy is not very strong, he bought a forbidden pill at an auction a few days ago. Changing his expression, the man states that if he wins the forbidden pill, he will undoubtedly make the boy kneel before the old men and punish him with death. However, the bald man says that Yi is very bold as he announced that he will kill Master Chen and that even Yuan would lose. But the master tells them to stop exaggerating and asks if one of them has a personal issue with the boy. The bald man says that the assassin is ruthless and merciless, while the other says that the brat exterminated his descendants. Upon hearing all this, Yuan says that the boy is a plague in the world of ancient martial arts, and that tomorrow he will take care of him. Showing immense gratitude, both old men thank him. However, the bald man says that there is one more thing that needs to be said. Suddenly, someone starts clapping in the hall. The red-haired girl arrives with her friends and says that it is a pleasure to meet Master Yuan. The bald man explains that they are 3 pure university students who have admired Master Yuan for a long time and also want to learn from him. With a very suspicious look, the man starts laughing, saying that today's university students should be educated as they were last year. Sometime later, already on the second day, the protagonist is in a kind of meditation. Suddenly, he opens his eyes, exuding a great amount of energy. Sensing he understands that the spiritual energy in this area is very calm and less dense compared to that other place. However, his cultivation speed is much faster. He starts questioning if it is because of this stone, and suddenly, it begins to move. Confused, he wonders if, by any chance, it is alive and responding to him. Without understanding anything, the kid simply approaches the crazy magic stone. He says that it is very mysterious and that he feels confident about accepting the challenge because of the incarnation cemetery in this stone. However, he decides to forget about it, as thinking about this kind of thing does not help at all. He says that this is his first time participating in a deathmatch, and that he should make a prediction beforehand. Sweating nervously, he sees that the turtle shell is standing upright and wonders how he is supposed to interpret such a thing. With a serious expression, he realizes that he still cannot predict his fortune as he did before. Suddenly, someone starts knocking on his door. It is the red-haired girl who says that she came to pick him up, and he simply thanks her. Sometime later, already at the arena. Looking around, the hero thinks that he did not expect so many ancient martial artists to be present. Besides them, there are also some familiar faces. Among them are Zhu Heng, Zai Yuan, Bing Lu, Zhu Fulu, and others. He soon also identifies Wei Li Qian and wonders why he is pretending to be the Lord's lackey to hide his identity. The man thinks that if his master's life is threatened, he will save him no matter what. Meanwhile, one of the boys points backward, announcing that the 3 judges are arriving. These are the legendary Master Yuan, Master Wang, and also Master Shang Ming. Introducing himself, the man says his name is Yuan, and he is one of the battle judges, promising to be fair and maintain order in the place. The one comments that Yuan is the strongest among them, having once been in the top 400 of the Grandmaster ranking. With a determined look, the protagonist understands that the old man is very strong and dangerous, besides being in a higher stage than him. Soon, the boy concludes that apparently he underestimated the ancient martial arts of China and that this man is indeed worthy of being a specialist. In the arena, Zhu Zixuan comments to the protagonist about how Master Yuan is a strong and influential person. Besides being the vice president of the Jiangnan District Martial Arts Association, no one dares to offend him. Yi Chen shows no concern for the information, and the young woman scolds him, warning that he also needs to pay attention to Wu Xiangming, because if he manages to establish a good relationship with the man, not even Chen Yuanli would dare to touch him. The drums begin to play, and Master Yuan asks the young man and his opponent to enter the battlefield. Master Chen, with a dark expression, says he will finish off the dark-haired boy, who simply laughs. In the audience, everyone wonders how someone from the Yi family dares to face a man with white hair. Irritated by the murmurs, Wu Xiangming turns around and tells everyone that if they keep talking nonsense, he will be hostile. Looking at the arena, the man sighs while saying that the young man must be very talented to achieve such a title at such a young age. Emphasizing that the fight should continue until someone is eliminated, the judge also states that both must restrain themselves to avoid harming innocent people. Then he announces that the competition has begun. Master Chen asks the boy how his descendants offended him and why he did what he did to all of them. Smiling, Yi Chen says that they deserve what happened and that if he manages to defeat him, the Chen family will be nothing but history. Furious, the old man attacks with all his strength, shouting that he wants to see who this so-called son of Yi Zhengxian is. The young man, in turn, jumps, successfully dodging the blow. And in the air, he asks if the man really thinks he can hit him with such poor punches. In response, the master unleashes the 10 dominant fists combo attack, but the boy dodges all of them as if he were playing, while saying that the dominant fists are more like stupid fists. In the stands, the surprised spectators comment on how the old man should have been able to injure the young man with that attack. Running, the master challenges the boy to stop dodging and fight like a man. Smiling, he says he only did that to see how much of a piece of trash the grandfather of the Chen family was. The old man's eyes turn red as he states that the young man is digging his own grave with that attitude. Both attack each other brutally head-on, and Yi Chen continues mocking, saying that he expected more from his opponent. With a single blow, the old man falls to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Master Yuan questions how that could happen. Meanwhile, the boy's allies begin to smile proudly. Looking at his opponent on the ground, the young man once again highlights how weak he is, then saying that his family deserved to be annihilated. Standing up, the old man says he did not want to take a more drastic measure, but the boy left him no choice. And without caring about the price to be paid, he unleashes all his power. A spectator thinks to himself about how the old man's aura is a precious treasure. Meanwhile, Yi Chen realizes that this is the martial arts ability of a high-grade cultivator. It is explained that when someone dares to use such an ability, their internal organs are severely damaged. That is why Master Chen mentioned having to pay a high price. Lightning begins to appear in the sky as he prepares to attack using the ability. With their mouths open, the judge and his companions comment on how the boy will turn to dust if he is hit. Looking at his opponent coming toward him, the young man wonders if the man might actually be a helicopter. Then, making a small movement, he activates his power to protect himself. His friends watch everything anxiously. Meanwhile, Chu Shuren smiles, saying that this is finally the end of the line for the boy. But shocking everyone when the lights fade, he is standing smiling while his opponent is face down on the ground. Master Yuan reflects on how the young man did not even use a powerful strike, raising only his fists slowly at his opponent, then questioning himself about how he managed to counterattack and withstand the strong shockwave at the same time. Taking action, the man steps into the fight to defend Master Chen. Intrigued, the young man wonders if he is trying to eliminate him. Standing, the man says that he should know when to stop in a duel between martial artists. Then warning that if he wants to finish off the old man, he will have to go for him first. Thinking to himself, the young man questions why the man used a lethal strike if his intention was only to end the fight. Thus, activating his power again, he says that Yuan will accompany Chen on the road to hell. Taking advantage of the young man's distraction, another man advances to attack him cowardly from behind. Yi Lingshan shouts to try to alert his master while fearing there is no way out. Smiling, the man successfully lands his strike, then deciding to punch the boy in the head to finish the job. However, to his misfortune, the young man counterattacks, elbowing him in the stomach, then stating that he will give him his final sentence. With a single blow, the boy strikes his third opponent, who cannot even move, and explodes. Two spectators wonder if the head of the Jiang family, ranked 514 in the National Grandmaster ranking, was truly defeated. Meanwhile, the judge wonders what kind of demonic art Yi Chen used to do that. On the ground, Master Chen begs Yuan to save him. In response, he says that he will not allow the worst to happen to him. But before he can do anything, his friend is hit by a fatal strike. Smiling, the boy says that he warned them that not even Jesus could save the man from his end, then asking what Jingfu was saying earlier. In the audience, two men talk about how the young man is arrogant and provocative. Outraged, the judge asks why he did that if he had already been declared the winner of the fight. Replying, he says that the man not only stopped the fight but also orchestrated an attack against him, having no moral ground to question him. Furious, Master Yuan questions how he dares to disrespect him like that. The young man then responds that he will wipe out the man's lineage, calling him an old dog. Still provoking, the boy says that if he is not afraid, he can come and fight him. Zhu Zixuan, in his thoughts, wonders if his friend has a death wish for saying such a thing, while two other men think the same. After all, offending Yuan is like offending the entire Jiangnan District Martial Arts Association. Extending his hand, the master prepares to attack. Observing, Yi Chen notices that he concentrated all his energy into his palm to create a sword aura, then deciding to test whether the man is as strong as he seems. However, stopping the fight, Wu Xiaoming steps between the two, questioning how Yuan dares to use his full power against a mere teenager. In response, he says that the boy injured innocent people and was disrespectful to the judges. Recalling the rules, the man says that those who entered the arena knew the risk they were taking, then shouting that, as a judge, it is actually him who is breaking the rules there. Furious, Jingfu says that if he continues protecting Yi Chen, he will speak directly with the president. So he better understand the situation once and for all, especially since the young man has no connection to the Wu family. Reflecting, Seiming concludes that he cannot go against the man as he is not above the president. But he decides to ask the young man if he would be willing to join his family. The audience starts shouting, saying that the young man should accept the offer to become stronger. Observing everything, Chu Shirin regrets not having noticed the boy's potential when she had the chance. Angrily, Yuan asks how the man can invite a murderer like Yi to join the Wu family, while thinking that if that happens, he will no longer be able to do anything against the boy. However, surprising everyone, the young man declines the offer, stating that he does not need to be saved. And apologizing, he says that he cannot leave while the old dog is still breathing. Shocked, the young woman from the Chu family wonders if he is crazy, as all martial artists dream of joining the Wu family. Then feeling relieved that she rejected him in the past. Stepping away, Wu Xiaoming says that, in that case, the young man will have to face the consequences of his choices. With a malicious smile, Yuan says that Yi Chen just threw away the only chance he had to leave there alive. In response, the young man tells him to shut up while stating that he is only still breathing because of the man's interference. The young man's allies find his attitude reckless and wonder what to do. Attacking, the master says that he will eliminate the boy in just 3 moves. Apathetic, he realizes that the man has concentrated all his strength into his index finger, and dodging the strike, he decides to see what a grandmaster ranked in the top 400 is capable of. Observing the wind blade strike, the man from the Wu family thinks that it can cut through anything, making it a powerful ability. But Yi Chen dodged all the lightning in the air, which is very surprising. Placing his feet back on the ground, the boy tells his opponent that all of that effort is useless if he cannot hit him, then counterattacks with full force. Smiling as he attacks again, Yuan says that the young man is indeed talented. However, a bird will always be caught in a net, no matter how high it flies. The young man, trapped in energy threads, realizes that they are weaker than the blade, making it easier to escape. But he is caught off guard by the flying dragon strike, which hits him directly. His opponent watches him on the ground, wondering how he is still standing. Worried, the blonde man says that although the boy withstood the blow, he has certainly suffered severe injuries. Meanwhile, Yi Chen concludes that although he can use cultivator abilities, defending against attacks from a Kaidong realm specialist is still difficult. So he decides to use his magic stone. Foreseeing the danger, Yuan rushes to attack again before things turn drastically against him. Being teleported, the boy ends up in the reincarnation cemetery, feeling confused as he did not know this was possible. Looking at one of the tombstones, he realizes it belongs to Lu Yunshin from the demonic Fist sect. Emerging through a mist, Lu asks how he can be the owner of the cemetery with such a low cultivation realm. Excited, the boy thinks about how strong the entity is and wonders if he might be an ancient specialist. Understanding the situation, Lu says he thought the young man could summon the 100 specialists, but that is not the case, which means that among all those present, he is the weakest. Not understanding anything, Yi Chen asks what the monster is talking about. In response, Lu says that since he possesses the Tomb of Reincarnation, he will be able to pass on his teachings, but not in a short period of time. So the young man must learn as much as he can from that moment on. Back in the arena, Yi Chen appears to be possessed, and with just 2 fingers, he stops his opponent's attack. Yuan is shocked that his power was halted in such a ridiculous way, then falls face first to the ground. Looking at the young man, he asks what he did. Replying, the young man says he simply used the man's own methods against him, reversing the energy flow in his body. And raising his fist, he states that he will finally put an end to this joke. Crying, Yuan asks how someone can control internal energy with such skill, while the spectators question what kind of monster the young man is. On the ground, the master says that the difference between them is like sand and mountains, but his wish is not to end like this. Thus, completely surrendering, the man apologizes, saying that if the boy spares him, he will become his servant. But Yi does not listen and brutally attacks him with his energy fist, while saying that the man would not even be worthy of serving him. With their mouths open, all those watching question how a teenager can be so powerful. Meanwhile, a man tells his father that he feels this is not the real Yi Chen. Lingshan says that although he's unsure how his master did that, his stage will be all of China, which is something historic. Master Wu, speaking with another man, reveals that he fears the young man is not an ancient martial artist, but rather a great cultivator. The man beside him then asks if that is possible, and if the legendary cultivators, who can destroy everything, truly exist. Without answering, Sammy simply says that Yi committed such a shocking act that if the news spreads, he will be considered an enemy. For that, it is enough for the specialist disguised in the crowd to talk about what happened. A man wearing some kind of mask reveals himself as the specialist and says that the boy will not escape. However, Lu Yunshin senses the man's presence. Stating that he has been discovered, the man tries to leave, but he is attacked by the entity's energy fist. 2 men notice the specialist on the ground and ask if he is okay, as he suddenly fell. Observing from the arena, Yi Chen says that his ally is strong. Beside him, the entity thanks him, saying that he is glad the young man recognizes the extent of his power, which can eliminate someone from a distance. Worried, the young man says that now many people will come after him, and the monster asks for permission to alter the memories of everyone present, using internal energy to gently tap people's heads. Staring at Lu, the boy asks him not to send everyone there to their demise. Lu replies that he will not do that, then reveals that even if he erases their memories, one day someone will remember. Agreeing, the young man only asks that he not touch Yi Lingshan. Satisfied, the entity accepts. Thus, rays of blue light begin to spread toward everyone present, while the man in the suit watches in confusion. Lu Yunshin decides to speak with Wu Xiangming and, giving him two options, says that the man can either become his servant or have his memory erased like the others. Not understanding, the man realizes that the one speaking is someone from a superior dimension. And recognizing the great opportunity to serve someone as powerful as Yi Chen, he decides to accept becoming a servant. The entity warns that it will place its internal energy into the man's head, and that if he ever dares to betray him, he will suffer grave consequences. Then he asks the young man to find a quiet place so that he can complete his final mission. Yi Chen agrees and begins to leave the arena. In his secret room in the village, the young man speaks with Lu, who says that he knows he has many doubts, but there is not enough time to answer them all. Being direct, the young man says he only has two questions. The first is how the monster became trapped in the stone, and the second is why he wants to help him. Replying, Lu says that he is not trapped in the stone, but rather in the cemetery, which chose him as its master. Therefore, it is his duty to help him, to overcome all obstacles until he becomes an immortal specialist. He only needs to be powerful enough to be recognized by the other specialists in the cemetery, or do things that force them to acknowledge him. Reflecting to himself, the young man wonders what the others are capable of if Lu is the weakest among them, remembering how his existence reminds him of the Kunlun Void located in the depths of Mount Kunlun. So if the others have been in the deepest part for years, how terrifying must they be? Pulling the young man out of his thoughts, the entity says that it only has 2 hours to teach him everything it knows, and that whether he understands or not is another matter. The young man agrees as he starts to feel an overwhelming amount of information flooding into his brain, realizing how difficult it is to absorb everything. Finishing his work, Lu says that as the master of reincarnation, the boy has earned the right to be taught by the 100 specialists. Thus, he asks the young man to call him teacher, and to never let his teachings be erased from this world. The young man obeys, and the entity laughs as it completely disappears, saying that he hopes they will meet again another time. Placing his hand on his head, Yi Chen concludes that if the specialist's tombstone was broken, then he must have reincarnated into a new life. Now he must move forward to put everything he has learned into practice. Using his power, he unlocks the new layer of the Yuan realm, deciding to cross it all at once. Outside, the ground starts trembling and people wonder if it is an earthquake. Smiling, the young man reveals that he thought you would not be able to reach the Kaidong realm, concluding that in this way, if Jingfu appears again, he will be able to eliminate him without needing help. And the most important thing is that now he can resonate with another tombstone in the reincarnation cemetery, only needing to become stronger to activate it. His phone rings, and on the other end of the line, Sun Yi asks where he is. The young man says he is at home, and the girl asks, furious, if he did not feel an earthquake happening. Hearing that everything is fine, the young woman asks him to go to Rooks' house to celebrate her birthday. Realizing that he forgot about the commitment, Yi Chen says he is on his way. At home, the red-haired man tells his boss about what happened in the arena, leaving him shocked. Intrigued, the scar-faced man says that everything is true and that Yuan Jingfu was eliminated in a very strange way. Curious, the goateed man asks if he does not remember the details of what really happened. Replying, the man says that he simply cannot recall, no matter how hard he tries. Realizing everything, the man says that he has undergone a memory wipe, then asks if there was anyone in the arena with a supernatural ability, and if the clothes he is wearing are the same as on the day of the event. The man, still confused, confirms. The man then asks him to hand over the belt he is wearing on his pants, revealing that inside the object was a camera. Sitting and looking at the computer screen, the goateed man says that this is his secret backup to maintain national security. Then he asks his soldier to come and check the video. Shocked, the chief questions whether Yi Chen is really human to be able to do that, since only the top 50 ranked grandmasters in the national ranking could achieve such a feat, which is not the young man's case. Beside him, Yinking says that not even the entire Dragon Soul attack squad could contain such power. Closing the laptop, the man tells him not to tell anyone about what he saw, otherwise he will be considered a traitor, and since it is possible that other people have footage of the event, the soldier must investigate everyone who was present in the martial arena, and if anyone has any evidence of what happened, it must be destroyed. Meanwhile, he will go to Zhongnanhai to report the matter to the number 1. At Xiaorux's house, a party is underway. Sun Yi notices that all the richest and most powerful people in Jiang City are present. Wearing a red dress, the birthday girl approaches her friend and asks where Yi Chen is. The young woman says he is on his way. Another blonde woman announces that another important guest has arrived and needs to be welcomed immediately. Grabbing Xia's arm, she says that the young woman's fiance's family has sent a grandmaster to attend the party. His name is Qin Yuanqing, and he has ranked him on the top 600 in the national grandmaster ranking. Both thank the man for his presence, and he says he is there to represent the young master Qin, who invited her for a visit another time. Smiling, the birthday girl thanks him but says she has been busy, so the visit will have to wait. With their mouths open, the guests wonder how the young woman dares to refuse a request from the Qin family. Trying to smooth over the situation, the birthday girl's mother says that her daughter was just joking. The man then says that his master does not like being rejected and that if it happens, bad things will follow. In the background, someone starts laughing. Wu Shaming approaches and asks if the man is not being too harsh, leaving Xia Rooks in complete shock. Smiling, the man says that of course the Wu family would be present to celebrate Miss Xia's life. Watching from a distance, three men in suits wonder why someone from that family would support the young woman. Happy, the blonde girl thanks him for the congratulations. Irritated, Qin Yuanqing asks what all this is for when they know that the young woman will soon become part of the Qin family. In response, the other man says that Qin is not a fortune teller to predict the future, leaving him furious. Narrowing his eyes, Xiaming thinks to himself that when Yi Chen discovers what that family is doing, it will all be annihilated. Then he shouts that he is strong enough to represent the Wu family, while the other man is nothing more than a guard dog. Enraged, the Qin family's master begins to release Kai. But when he attacks, his opponent quickly dodges and appears behind him. The birthday girl's mother appears and asks about the result of young Chen's fight. Her daughter is surprised because she knew nothing about it, and a woman says that the boy should know his place and not act like an idiot. Worried, the young woman asks if Yi Chen is still alive. Suddenly, he enters through the door, saying that she is too much for cursing him right on her birthday. Completely shocked, the young woman's mother wonders how the boy is still breathing. Kneeling, Wu Shaming greets the young man in a suit, while the other guests wonder why the man is bowing before a weak teenager. Meanwhile, the blonde girl is happy with what she sees, as she always believed the young man had potential. The Qin family's master notices how the girl looks at the boy differently and feels outraged. Yi Chen asks the blonde man to stand up and stop drawing attention to him. The man obeys. Approaching Roots, he apologizes for being late, but she says she will only forgive him if he gives her a good present. Pointing to his suit pocket, the young man says that nothing is more precious than what he keeps there. Interrupting the conversation, the young woman's mother says it is time for her to go on stage. With a microphone, the woman thanks everyone for attending, especially the Qin family. Observing an elderly woman beside Xia and her mother, he concludes that she must be the family's grandmother. Sunday asks where he was, and he replies that he was handling a small problem. The gift ceremony begins, and a man steps onto the stage. Smiling, he says that he spent 50 million to buy the Jade Emperor and spent 2 months carving a jade statue of Guanyin. The guests laugh, stating that the last thing the Xia family cares about is money. Worried, the purple-haired young woman wonders what she will do with her gift, which is worse than the statue. Her friend reassures her, saying that the birthday girl cares more about the intention behind the gift than the gift itself. Encouraged, she gathers the courage to be the next to present her gift. Roxu tells Sun that she is her best friend and that she will not forgive her if she deceives her, to which the young woman replies that there is no need to worry. The purple-haired young woman hands a box to her friend, who is surprised by the gift. She explains that it is a model of the house they live in, made by her, and the model even includes 2 girls in the living room. Impressed, the blonde says that the gift is very detailed and that she really likes it. Happy, she asks how Sun can be so sweet and says that she loves her. Observing the scene, a young man says that the bond between the two is touching. He then says that he will be the next to present his gift, but he warns that he arrived at the event in a hurry and therefore did not have much time to prepare. Then the young man hands a jade pendant to Miss Xia and wishes for all her dreams to come true. Observing it, the young woman realizes that it is not an ordinary pendant but one that bears the Wu family's emblem. She knows that possessing the mark of this family is equivalent to having their protection, and its value is immeasurable. Nervously, the young woman says that she cannot accept the gift, but the man insists. The young man states that compared to her relationship with Yi, the gift means nothing. After handing over the necklace, he says that he hopes to be invited to their wedding soon, and that he will prepare an even better gift. Hearing the word wedding, the blonde becomes a little nervous. The other guests cannot believe that Wu supports Wuroxia and Yi's relationship, considering that the young woman's family wants her engaged to Hin. Irritated, one of the men approaches and tells the young man to know his place. Otherwise, no one will be able to save him. Angry, the man takes out the Qin family's pendant and tells the young woman to accept that gift, calling the Wu family's gift useless. And he claims that he has also prepared another gift for the blonde. He hands her the soul refinement pill and warns that if someone without training consumes it, they will become a martial artist. Everyone is shocked by the gift and believes that the Qin family is extremely generous. Roxby thanks Mr. Win and says that she will accept the gift and that, at some point, she will give him something in return. As she takes it, the gifts fall to the ground and the pill rolls out of the box. He appears, steps on what is on the ground, and asks how the young man could give such trash to the blonde. Desperate, the young woman asks what the protagonist is doing. Win loses his temper and questions how the boy dares to destroy the gifts he gave. But Yi says that the pill is expired and that, at best, it would give the young woman a stomachache, while he, on the other hand, has some that are safe. People are astonished by the number of pills the boy possesses and enchanted by the fragrance of the product. Roxu does not understand why the boy has so many of those pills. He insists that the young woman take what he is offering and not hesitate. However, he says that the pills were just a bonus and that his real gift is something else, handing her a box. The young woman opens it and is surprised by what is inside. It is a necklace with a large, precious gemstone. The men nearby mock the gift, saying they expected more from the boy. Emotional, the blonde exclaims that the gift is the tear of the stars and celebrates that the young man found her grandfather's necklace. She shows it to her grandmother, who confirms that it is the necklace crafted by her husband before he died. With the confirmation, Roxu bursts into tears. He asks if she liked the recovered gift. The blonde young woman says that she loved it and that it was the best gift of her life. Grateful, she kisses the protagonist on the cheek, leaving him surprised. Shocked, the other young men cannot believe what they just witnessed. They question how she could kiss someone else in public, considering that she is engaged to Mr. Kin, and claim that this is betrayal. Still very happy, the young woman thanks her friend for the necklace. Out of control, her suitor, who is present, questions if she knows what she just did. He calls her shameless and warns that he will teach her a lesson. But before he can slap the woman, he is stopped by Yi, who punches his arm. The protagonist says that the man has crossed the line. After insulting the young man, calling him a brat, he receives a strong slap across the face. The force of the blow is so great that he is sent flying. Irritated, he calls the boy a bastard and says he is from the Kin family. He tries to get up to continue the argument, but once again, he is struck with great force. Mocking, Yi asks what is so special about the man's family, saying that even if all the members were there, the result would be the same. Shocked by what they see, other guests cannot believe that the young man dared to speak that way about the Kins. The protagonist says that the man was lucky because since Ruoxu's birthday, he had wanted to kill him. Finishing him off, he launches another powerful strike, sending the man flying once again. On the ground, the man threatens to report the young man to the head of the family. But he doesn't care, asks Shaming to get rid of the dogs outside and clean up the blood so that Ruoxu won't see it. Suddenly, a loud scream fills the room, startling everyone present. They are shocked that the protagonist truly has no fear of the Kin family. A woman is astonished by the amount of power the boy possesses despite being so young. She approaches her friend and asks him to accompany her. Sitting in a room, she asks if he wants tea, and he says he didn't expect her to serve it. Wasting no time, the woman admits that the young man is full of surprises and that she misjudged him in the past. The lady says that Roxu is engaged to the young man from the Kin family, and the protagonist says he had never heard about it before. She explains that the Kayas have a great reputation, being the most powerful economically, but they are weak in martial arts. Because of this weakness, the young woman's father sought families skilled in martial arts to secure the family's future. However, the young woman's mother says that if they cancel the engagement, she may allow Yi to marry her daughter. But he must understand that the Kins will definitely seek revenge in the future, so he will need the support of the Zhu and Wu families. The lady says she is telling him this for his own good and that perhaps the best thing would be for him to stay away from her daughter. Curious, she asks if the Kins are more powerful than the martial arts society. She explains that the two are completely different and details the aspects that set them apart. The protagonist says his farewell while the woman offers to lend him a private jet, but he states that no one will force him to bow before his opponents, and if they dare provoke him, he will kill them one by one. Terrified, the lady is left speechless. Later, the young man is sitting on his bed, deep in thought. He says he is extremely tired and needs a good night's sleep. However, he is interrupted by Sun Yi, who asks if he is still awake. She sits beside him on the bed and says that Roxu told her she wouldn't be coming home that night. Taking the opportunity to chat, the girl asks what the young man thought when the blonde kissed him. He says it wasn't bad, but he didn't feel anything special. Then Sun moves closer and presses her lips against the protagonist's. She then asks if her kiss was better than Roxu's. The young man feels a bit confused about how to respond. He says he can't decide as both kissed him in different places and asks his friend to give him a kiss on the cheek. But she is eager and keeps insisting that he say who is better, and he finally admits that Sun wins. With that answer, the purple-haired young woman says she doesn't know if it's a lie, but she is very happy to hear those words. Hugging Ye, she declares that she has decided to win him over that night. Without wasting time, he pushes the young woman onto the bed and says he won't let her lie on top of him. And he states that she will have to use her own strength if she wants to win him over. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing, making the young man completely irritated. He questions who is interrupting him and hangs up the call. Then he tells the girl to continue from where they left off. Again, the phone starts ringing. The young man shouts that he will smash the device into pieces, but Sun says it's her phone. Looking at the screen, she realizes that it is CDO Shen calling. She believes it must be something important since the man called both of them at the same time. Yi agrees, but laments having lost that opportunity. He calls Shen Haikyuu back and asks what is happening. On the other end of the line, the man says that something bad has happened. and mourns that someone has stolen their medicine formula. Later, the two meet and Yi asks his friend to explain what happened. The man says that around 8 p.m., a group broke into the company and some guards were killed. Then they stole a formula and other important materials. Thoughtful, the protagonist tries to analyze the situation and understands that no one could have forced the door open. Haihua says that Lu Zuan disappeared after the robbery and that the man must have been a spy. Yi is furious at the information and thinks that these were not ordinary thieves. After all, the guards were Lingshan's subordinates, specialists in combat, and could not have been killed easily. The man says he is very sorry and insists that he will take full responsibility for what happened. But the protagonist says that now is not the time to find someone to blame. He decides to go to the location to see what really happened. The group of men lies on the ground as the protagonist observes the scene. Opening the eyes of one of the fallen men, he realizes that they were all tortured to death. He even comments that the method used was quite cruel, and that whoever did this enjoys torturing people. Worried, the man accompanying Yi asks what they should do now that the formula has been stolen. But the boy assures him that he can rewrite the formula. However, the deaths of these people cannot be undone. The man apologizes for his statement and tries to explain that he hadn't considered that. They ask if the security camera footage has been checked, but they are informed that the surveillance system was destroyed and the chances of recovery are low. Yi says he will search for clues elsewhere and suggests that the man pay 10 million to the families of the deceased. Thoughtful, the elder reflects that the young man treats his subordinates properly by offering such compensation. Looking at one of the fallen men, the protagonist notices something that catches his attention and moves closer. There is a family crest inside the hand of one of the deceased, and he begins to question it. Showing what he found, he believes that his employees left clues until their last moment, and that they will find out who was responsible. A phone rings and Yingqing answers, asking how the person on the other end got his number. Yichen introduces himself and says that he borrowed Haidua's phone because his own is broken. He asks the young man for help in investigating the crest and sends him a picture of the object. Upon seeing the image, the young man quickly wonders if it might be the emblem of the Wu Wang family. He explains that the Wu Wang Club is a mafia organization from another continent, but they want to expand into many countries and even gain a foothold in China. The group's leader is Bai Yi, who claims to be invulnerable and to have 100,000 disciples. In the mafia's country, this man is treated as a god. Yinqing says that he has fought against them before and lost 7 subordinates, reinforcing that the group is no joke. Quickly, the young man says that he has received information that some members of the group are in China and are currently staying in the Gangrey Hotel in Jiang City. Without hesitation, he asks for the hotel's address to be sent to him. Worried, Hanhua asks if the boy is really going after the Wu Wang Club. And the boy says yes, stating that this nation is an anchor for the peace of civilians and that because of that, he will send them all back to hell. At the hotel, one of the men celebrates that the operation was a success and says that this must be due to divine protection. Chanjun says that the young man is wrong since God only protects ordinary people and that they should be grateful to Lord Bai Ye. Yuanjun agrees and says that he will personally thank the boss. Another man approaches and asks if he did not contribute to the operation and what happened to the promise that was made. Laughing, the smoking man tells Lu Zuan not to worry, saying that they treat the country's loyal slaves with great generosity, and asks if he doesn't want Japanese citizenship and $30 million, promising to gift him all that later. Growing impatient, the man asks if he can access the money immediately to escape since he has betrayed the Tianjin company. Irritated, Yuanjun asks if the young man is trying to tell him what to do. Shouting, he questions who the man thinks he is and whether he really believes they would lie about the promised rewards. Pushing Lu, the young man asks what he will do if he does not receive the money and says that he should feel honored to help their nation. The man being assaulted thinks that he should never have trusted the 2 Japanese men and that now, having betrayed his country, his life is ruined. Qianjun approaches, laughing, and questions how the man dares to hold a grudge against the group, saying that they should not keep a disloyal dog alive. After giving orders to kill Zuan, the man begs for his life, asking the group to wait. He screams that he did nothing wrong and continues pleading for them to spare his life and not kill him. But Yuanjun says that he is just a pathetic Chinese who deserves to die. However, the action is interrupted by Yi, who appears at the window, saying that they should not drag China into this situation. And he adds that the group present is nothing more than a bunch of insects. Without fear, the protagonist asks how they dared to come to China and cause trouble. Everyone is surprised by the boy's presence. Yuanjun points out that they are on the 18th floor and cannot understand how the young man climbed up to the window. Begging, Zuan pleads for Yi to save him quickly. Even more irritated, Yuanjun asks if the protagonist is Chinese. Then he gives orders to kill him and bring his body to him. The group's security guards charge at the boy, wielding swords and sharp weapons. But Yi calls them all idiots while giving a slight smile. Before they can strike him, he makes a huge leap and moves to the other side of the room, questioning who the leader is. Shocked by what just happened, Yuanjun asks how the boy moved so quickly behind him. However, the young man tells him to forget all that because in the end, they will all die anyway. Mocking, he calls the man fat and says that he is just acting tough. With a punch, he knocks out all of the big man's teeth. It falls to the ground, groaning in pain after taking the blow. Shenjun warns everyone to be careful, alerting them that the protagonist is an ancient martial artist. But the entire group tries to attack him with swords and sharp objects. Before they can strike, the young man grabs Yuanjun by the arm and throws him toward the others. The blonde man is startled, having just witnessed the boy lift the giant, who weighs 300 kilograms, with just one hand, something he finds incredible. He says that before coming to China, he had only encountered small fighters, never having had the opportunity to see a true grandmaster. Analyzing the boy, he realizes that he is different and that, without a doubt, he deserves to be called a grandmaster. Then Hyunjun approaches, calls out to the protagonist, and says that his subordinates have disappointed him. But he is one of the successors of Japan's Akita-style sword arts and is impressed by the young man. However, he states that he will send him to hell. He tells him to shut up and asks if he was the one who stole a formula and killed his soldiers. Laughing, the blonde man says that it was Lord Kawasaki who killed the men and that he is addicted to torturing people. Before he can finish speaking, the young man kicks him in the head, sending him flying. Giving orders, the protagonist says that he wants Kawasaki to come immediately, or he will push Tianjin to the very limit of his pain. The blonde man asks how the boy dared to attack him like that and says that the only reason he was not hurt more was because he was on alert. But Yi touches the man's hair, pushing it back, which makes him nervous. Without thinking twice, the young man rips out a lock of the blonde's hair, making him scream. A bald man appears, complaining that everything is too noisy and that they have disturbed his sleep. On the ground, Xianjin calls for Kawasaki and begs to be saved, but Yi asks if he is the man he was looking for. Replying, the man says that the boy is correct and that it was indeed him who killed the soldiers, and goes on to say that he has something interesting to tell the protagonist. He claims that before killing them, he asked about Yi, but none of them spoke, so he broke all their bones because of it. Laughing maniacally, he states that the soldiers protected the young man to the death, but in the end, he came straight to him of his own free will. Calmly, Tianjin says that their boss is here now, which means the Chinese boy is as good as dead. It is explained that Kawasaki is a giant, standing 2.4 meters tall, with monstrous strength and high speed, in addition to having a wild personality. At Muwang Club, no one can stop him. Irritated and unconcerned with his opponent, Yi strikes the man with a knee to the face and asks if he enjoys torturing people. He says he will break the man's bones one by one so that he pays for what he has done. With the giant on the ground, the protagonist keeps urging him to get up and fight, and he adds that he also wants to play with origami. Losing his composure, the boy says that his opponent is very persistent and that he wants to play with him for a while. Once again, an extremely powerful strike lands on his adversary. Shunjin is in shock at what he sees, convinced that it cannot be possible. After eliminating the giant, he approaches the blonde man and says that now it is his turn. Terrified, the man tries to defend himself and says that he will compensate the protagonist for his losses. Hearing those words, the young man questions whether they will really compensate him, and the man confirms. Then, without hesitation, the boy says that he will repay him with his own life. He quickly destroys the man as well, leaving him dead on the ground. Crying, Lu Zuan realizes that everyone is lifeless and asks if this power is the reason Shen Haihua follows the boy. But the protagonist does not respond and approaches the man, who remains kneeling on the ground. He begs for the protagonist's forgiveness and says that he will work at the company for the rest of his life to make up for his mistakes, even if he does not receive a salary. He listens to his words but strikes the man with a kick to the stomach. The protagonist says that he played with human lives and demands to know how he will compensate for that. However, he states that he will not kill the man, but he will be seen as a piece of trash and will forever carry the hatred of the deceased's families, as well as his own remorse. He decides to call Lingshan to clean up the mess he caused. Something catches his attention in the room, making him stay alert. Suddenly, Kawasaki appears, releasing black smoke from his eyes and mouth, and asks who the young man is. Turning quickly, he is surprised to see the man still alive. But looking closer, he realizes that he is not truly alive, acting more like a zombie. Even so, the man is filled with rage and says that the boy knows the consequences of going against the Wuwang Club. The protagonist realizes that someone is remotely controlling the giant's body. He asks who is in control and thinks that he never expected someone from Japan to be able to use such a secret art. Without hiding, the person controlling Kawasaki's body introduces himself as Bai Yi, the head of the club, and asks for the boy's name. Mockingly, he replies that he is Yi Chen, the man's father. Quickly, he launches an attack at the man and tells him to stay in his place. And he warns that if the group dares to come to China, he will kill every last one of them. Far away at the group's headquarters in Japan, the leader feels the impact of the boy's strike. The man coughs and spits out a red liquid from his mouth. The guards are startled and ask if he is okay. Furious, Bai Yi vows that he will make Yi Chen pay for all his arrogance. Elsewhere, in a building, a group of men is in a meeting, discussing that the case has been closed. He asks if they have anything else to say. A woman asks if the boy managed to recover the documents in such a short time. The protagonist stands up and says that everyone will be free to leave the company in the future if they do not like him. What if anyone dares to betray him? He promises that the consequences will be severe. Everyone agrees and says yes. Later, at Sun Yi's house, the girl asks if her friend is still angry and tells him that he should forget everything that happened. Yi says that if he had chosen his employees more carefully, the incident would never have occurred. The girl asks him to stop thinking about what happened and asks if he is feeling better. He replies that it is not enough and asks her to give him more as he kisses her. After making love to the girl, the young man asks if she still feels pain, but she says that she no longer does after being healed by her lover. Caressing her, he tells her that she does not need to try so hard and that next time he will be the one to take the lead. But Sum gets annoyed and says that she is the one who will take control. Lying on the boy's chest, she says that she wants to tell him a secret, but he has to share one with her in return. She says that she likes the boy, but that she has been in love with him for 5 years, and that is why she is happy he has returned. The boy says that he feels the same way. Sun states that she found out what happened to the boy's family a few days later, got angry, but could not do anything. The girl says she would like to cook dinner for him, that she feels good cooking for him, and moreover, wants to be his first woman. Hugging and comforting the young woman, Yi says that she does not need to worry. After all, no one will replace her in his life. He says that since she is asking, he wants to know if there is anything else she would like to ask at that moment. Bai says that her friend has many secrets and that she does not want to ask, but he must choose one to reveal. Without thinking twice, the boy says that he will tell her where he has been for the last 5 years. The young man begins to explain that he was at a pond when a man saved him. He took him to a place called Kunlun Void, located deep in the Kunlun Mountains. In that place, there are many specialists who do whatever they want, and no law can restrain them. The only rule for survival is being the fittest, and the protagonist spent 5 years there, facing many hardships. Curious, Sun asks if her beloved can take her there someday because she wants to know more. But Yi thinks that Kunlun Void is too dangerous, and that he cannot even guarantee his own safety there, though that is in the past. So he tells her that when he is free, he will take her to visit the place. After the conversation, the two get out of bed and leave the room. The Jiangnan Martial Artists Association is introduced. Several men are seated in chairs with a leader standing in front of them. This man asks who is responsible for the deaths of Yuan Jingfu and Jian Luxian. He is Tang Ao, the president of the association. The other men remain silent, pondering what they should say. Irritated, Tang asks if they are all deaf and says that he wants to know who will take responsibility for the incident. Standing up, one of the association members says that the president should be blaming Yi Chen, as he is connected to the deaths. But the man says that the boy is just trash from the Yi family and does not understand how he became a grandmaster. Trying to explain, the man says that the witness reported that Jingfu exploded on his own, and that if he had been possessed, the martial arena would have exploded as well. Hearing those words, Tang becomes furious and questions the supposed self-detonation. He says that the man had a bright future and no reason to take such an action, then asks how Luxian died. They say it is difficult to explain, but whenever they asked, everyone said the same thing. The president calls for Milwaukee, Su Yuanqiu, and Kui Zhen. He says that they are among the strongest in the association and for that reason, orders them to investigate Jingfu's death in detail. He also tells them not to overlook any details, and that if they cannot find any clues, they must bring Yi Chen to him. Quickly, the trio agrees and says they will do as instructed. The Dragon Soul Attack Squad is introduced. Several men are shown training in a group. Yi is accompanied by Yinking and thanks his friend for his help the previous day. Then he asks why the young man came looking for him, but Yinking says that it is the squad director who wants to see the protagonist. Upon seeing the boy, the man approaches, happy to have him visit. He says that he needs a favor from Yi to become part of Dragon Soul. Before the man can even finish speaking, the boy says that it is impossible. But the director insists, saying that he does not want the boy to join the group, but rather to be instructor for the others. The protagonist looks at the group of men and asks if they are the team that needs training. They explain that they are a mysterious force within China, codenamed Dragon Soul. Meanwhile, Yinking's attack squad is just a branch of this force, as Dragon Soul follows orders only from China's top commander. They are used to maintain and protect the pride and security of the country, resolving all special conflicts in the region. Doubtful, he asks if the young man is sure that one of the most important forces in the region should be trained by a stranger. Without hesitation, the director says yes and guarantees that no one in the entire territory is more qualified than the boy. To convince him, he says that the young man can come train the group whenever he is free and assures that everyone around him will be protected by the military. Before accepting, he asks to what extent the protection will be maintained. They explain that there will be a hidden sniper near Sun Yi and Xie Ruoxue. In case of any danger, the soldier will immediately eliminate the threat. The director says that the protection goes beyond that and that specialists will be reporting any occurrences to the system. He is confused as only some politicians receive that level of security, but he believes it could be useful in some way. Being frank, the director says that the young man has made many enemies recently and that he needs to be protected in some way. Convinced, the protagonist asks what the job of an instructor would entail. They say that he will be able to choose the training method and make the soldiers even stronger. With this, the country will also grow in strength. He says that as long as the man trusts him, he can promise that for every training session, the soldiers will be able to kill more than 110 enemies. This statement makes the director think the boy is boasting and does not know what he is talking about. But the protagonist continues speaking and introduces himself to the group as their new instructor. Hearing the conversation, one of the soldiers thinks that the boy is only there because of his connections. One of the men expresses his opposition to Yi being chosen as their leader. All the others agree, saying that they will not put their lives in the hands of that brat. But Yi responds by inviting all of them to a fight, saying that anyone can challenge him to see his strength for themselves. This causes the men to call him arrogant and ignorant. The director says that the young man is confident in himself and that they do not need to worry. But the soldiers remain unconvinced, stating that this will tarnish Dragon Soul's reputation. Gugashi, one of the men, believes that he alone can handle Yi. Quickly, the protagonist prepares himself and says he will give the group their first lesson, instructing everyone to concentrate their energy. He engages in combat with the soldier and says that this is the best way to utilize strength. Dashi is stunned by the boy's aura and admits that he cannot block it. Before he can take any action, he is struck with a kick to the mouth. All the other soldiers are left speechless, realizing the young man's strength and capabilities. Confident, the protagonist declares that he will not be harmed even if they all attack him at once. Irritated, the group charges at the young man, saying that he is talking too much and that they will teach him a lesson. But Yi is unfazed and says it is good that they have a sense of combat. With a single move, he prevents all the men from even getting close to him and sends them flying. He celebrates, declaring his victory. Having proven his strength, the young man asks if anyone else has any complaints. On the ground, the men question how someone so powerful could exist and confirm that he is truly formidable. Yi approaches Gudashi and asks how he is feeling. Later, the man is already standing and asks for permission to report to his instructor. Fang Chao, Lai Hu, Jenaiken, and Zhang Yun also follow suit and introduce themselves. The protagonist observes that they all have a solid foundation in combat and that it will be easy to make them stronger. As their first lesson, the young man decides to teach them the technique called Fist that challenges the heavens. Everyone becomes excited about the possibility of learning that attack. They say they want to master it and become capable of fighting someone like the young man. But Yi asks them to be patient and says he will start by teaching them a few basic movements. Thoughtful, the young man states that if he gains the support of this team, his plans to expand his power will be complete. He knows that the king of Jiangnan controls the underground forces. Meanwhile, the Tianjin Corporation is capable of providing financial support, and now he has the military forces of Dragon Soul. He concludes that he will be able to handle any situation. With this, he will be able to protect all the people close to him, and he will also have the confidence to fight against those who once took everything from him. The young man says that he sent Lingshan to investigate, but he was stopped by an unknown force. He thinks that the capital is extremely dangerous and that even the most powerful and wealthy people must respect the families of martial artists. This explains why they are at the top of China's hierarchy. Instead of competing against these groups, the young man needs to grow his power enough to surpass them all. Far away, a group observes a severely damaged arena. One of the men says that he does not believe Yuan Jingfu was responsible for the destruction of the arena. The other man says that it was a force that emerged from within, and that he never thought a martial artist would be capable of such a thing. Hearing this, the other elder asks if there is an expert in Jiang City that they are unaware of, but he is told that they do not believe so, and that the one responsible might be a cultivator or merely a legend. Speaking about Yi Chen, the group does not believe he would have the ability to kill a grandmaster. However, they admit that it is highly suspicious, especially since President Tang also ordered them to try to locate the boy. Later, Yi is seen eating alongside Sun Yi and Sir Ruxie. He says he never expected the purple-haired girl to be able to cook. The blonde joins the conversation and says that she has learned a lot from her grandmother in the past few days. Tasting the food, the protagonist says that it is delicious and jokes that the girl knew how to cook but had been lying to him. Curious, Sun asks where her friend was the day before. He explains that he went to a base, whose name he forgot, to help someone, and that he plans to visit Heng later, inviting the girls to come with him. But both say that they had already made plans to go shopping and that they might go next time. With that, Yi says he will go alone while reminding them to eat slowly. As he leaves the house, he notices a car parked in front of his home that he has never seen before. A man standing near the vehicle salutes and asks if he is heading out. The protagonist assumes that he is part of the Dragon Soul group. Then he says that he is going to Jiangbai University and tells the man that he does not need to call him instructor, just Yi or Yi Chen. At the university, a boy approaches and speaks with the protagonist, who is sitting on a bed. Excited, the young man says that the power given to him is incredible, that he has just finished cultivating the first level, and then he feels his body burning. The boy is exuding a massive amount of energy. Seeing this, the protagonist explains that he must consume one medicinal pill every week. He also warns that he will feel discomfort at first, but he will be in for a big surprise when he uses the cultivation technique he received. Shocked, the boy clenches his fists and declares that he will grow stronger to protect his family. Surprised, Yi asks if his bowl-cut hair will ever return to its normal appearance. Later that night, on the street, the protagonist is walking alone when someone approaches him. It is an old man who asks how to find the male dormitory, and at that moment, the hero begins to explain. After a brief explanation, the rather suspicious old man simply thanks him. However, he smiles, saying that the old man must have more questions, and at that moment, the elder lunges at him. But the protagonist easily dodges the attack. Completely changing his expression, the man then asks the boy if he is, by any chance, Yi Chen. Getting straight to the point, the hero simply asks the old man what he wants. However, the elder only calls him an insolent brat who does not know his place and says that he needs an answer to his question. Suddenly, the old man becomes completely enraged and demands to know what happened in the martial arena and how Master Yuan ended up dead. Laughing, the hero simply calls him trash from the Martial Arts Association. Hearing this, the elder becomes even more furious, calling him a bastard and insisting that the boy cannot condemn the association even with Yuan dead. With a strange smile, Yi apologizes and explains that he did not mean to say that Yuan Jingfu was trash. Pointing his finger, he clarifies that he was talking about everyone in the association, calling them all stupid. Consumed by rage, the old man questions how he dared to insult the association and declares that he will now make him pay for it. Fearless, the hero simply continues mocking what happened to Yuan to infuriate the elder even more. The boy then tells the old man that there is one more thing he wants to share, and with just one move strikes him, warning that he can finish him off as well. After this quick attack, the elder collapses to the ground without offering any resistance. After the battle, the protagonist simply calls Deng, asking him to come to the location and help clean up the trash. Suddenly, the phone lying on the ground starts vibrating. It is someone asking the old man if he has found the trash from the Yi family. That same person informs him that even if he does not know the boy, he must not kill him because President Tang wants him alive. However, the caller starts to realize that the person on the other end of the line has not said a single word so far. Smiling in a sinister way, he realizes that the caller has already hung up, but he remarks that he has many ways to find him. At that moment, a jeep arrives at the scene. Dang asks the boy if he is okay, and he replies that he is fine, then asks for help in tracking down the people who called the broken phone. He also requests a full set of information about the Jiangnan Martial Arts Association. Sometime later on the same night at his home, sitting on the floor, he begins investigating the Martial Artists Association. However, it has existed for 100 years. He understands that it is a complex organization involving at least 12 martial arts families. Every president of the association governs the Jiangnan district, and the current president is named Tang, ranking 189th in the national standings. However, this collected information is from 2 years ago, and besides, the hero is still not sure if he can enter the top 200 of the ranking. Holding the stone in his hands, he affirms that he should pay more attention to this man named Tang and understands that he needs to return to that place. Shortly after, the boy returns to that cemetery-like place. Approaching Chen, he realizes that the others have not awakened yet, making this his only option, even though he cannot see him. He quickly understands that he needs to become stronger to summon him, as the association is beginning to grow suspicious. Picking up his phone, he sees a message from Deng saying that he has found the location. It is a hotel. On the phone, he questions how they dare to still be staying at a hotel, and considers the possibility that they do not know one of their members has already gone to the afterlife. His accomplice comments that they are strong and asks if the boy needs help, but Yi refuses, saying that he can handle it alone. With arms crossed, he states that the association will seek revenge and will come after him with even greater determination. Therefore, he needs to buy time. Then he recalls that he obtained information from Yumshin about controlling others by force, and that if he can master this, things will become much easier. Sometime later that same night at Kangxi Hotel, the bald man asks if Yuanxi has died, but the mustached bald man denies it and questions how someone so powerful could exist in such a small city. One of them comments that Yuan's last known location was near the university. Then he asks if they have found anything unusual there. However, the old man says that he does not sense Yuan's presence at all and that he has likely already perished. Then the other man says that if that is the case, there must be an expert protecting Yi Chen, and he comments that they need to inform the president. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.